Welcome back, Commander. I'm your host for the evening, Korak, and this is Kane's Wrath. We are in the Chrono Clash 2 for our 6th wave on the map, Tournament Highlands. Starting us off over in the top right-hand corner of the map, wearing the cyan in the Reaper 17. This is Phoenix. His opponent for the moment in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, playing the green in the nod. This is Peter. The Chrono Clash 2 is sponsored by Chrono, helping app and site teams figure out what broke, who broke it, and pretend it didn't happen. First Seeker Tank for Phoenix is already out, starting out smooth. No response yet from his opponent. That might be an early Seeker Tank, but we're probably going to get a bit of a Raider Buggy. There it is. Raider Buggy is out for Peter. At least I'm assuming that's how you pronounce that. I'm going to go with Peter for now until someone corrects me in the comments. Either way, Peter will making his way into the center of the map. Probably going to run into that Seeker Tank wherever it ran into. Seeker Tank should come out on top of that engagement, but at very least he's going to see it coming. They both just want to get a little bit of scouting off early on in the Chrono Strike. Shielded Harvesters are here for the Traveler faction. I believe they start out with those early on. Second Raider Buggy already out. Probably going to be followed by a couple of bikes. Nope, looks like it's going to be a Harvester instead. No Descent Rush or anything like that for Phoenix, although I don't think Phoenix likes to specialize in any sort of rushes, at least early on. He seems to be more of a traditional player overall. Harvester already down to half HP. Peter's going to have to do something for that. He can't just let a Seeker Tank get a kill on that for free. Seeker Tank not choosing to really get anything, splitting up its damage here and there. That's a bit of a mistake on Phoenix's part because he's already got that Harvester down to half HP. I know it did run over there, but still, that would have been nice to continue that assault. Secondary Seeker Tank is out, making its way across the map. Still no real response. It looks like we did get a Scorpion here for the defense for Peter. Peter coming out strong, at least in his defense. Let's see if he can maintain that. Him and Phoenix did transition into their natural expansion. Pretty similar timings. Looks like the refinery's almost up there for Phoenix. Phoenix looks like he's going to be a little bit ahead on the resource front, but Peter can close that gap rather quickly. Two Seeker Tanks in the center, making their way across the map, probably going to harass this Harvester as soon as it's up, and it's pretty close to being up as well. Peter can circumvent that if he can get the low power mode on the refinery before the Harvester does come out. Refinery does come out. There it is, right on cue. He does get the low power mode, saving that Harvester until he can get a little bit of defenses up there. No Scorpion Tanks heading there just quite yet. Looks like they're deciding to go down to the south and maybe turn the assault sort of on its head. But these three Seeker Tanks are going to be something to deal with. We do finally get low power mode ending for the refinery, which means that Harvester is exposed. A couple of rocket squads here for the defense. Buzzer squads are going to kill the rocket squads really quickly. This is actually looking pretty up for Phoenix. Phoenix only has to contest with a couple of Scorpion Tanks here in the south. However, he is denying this natural expansion, increasing his lead. Harvester already down to half HP, getting pushed out into the center of the map. Going to get destroyed here soon, but the Scorpion Tanks are moving their way across to get that Harvester filled with blue Tiberium. And the only thing here for the defense is one Seeker Tank and one Shardwalker. For some reason, the units are backing their way up, but maybe they need to have some sort of answer to deal with this Harvester, as the second Harvester already gets targeted down and destroyed, full of Tiberium. No response here from Peter. Peter is already in a little bit of trouble here. He doesn't have enough of defense. That Lightning Spike is going to do a good amount of damage with a combination of these three Seeker Tanks. We don't get to see this too often, but three Seeker Tanks have already destroyed three Harvesters, now beginning to focus on a fourth. That's what they need to be going for. They need to ignore the Scorpion Tanks because they need to make what gains they can. There's no way they're going to make it out. Ring Around the Rosie has begun. Peter is finally responding to this assault. Last Seeker Tank is left, however. That is going to be a big boon there for Phoenix. Phoenix already grabbing that this early on in the game. Healthy amount of Scorpion Tanks, good number of Rocket Squads. Rocket Squads did get produced, but they did not have the scouting, so they could not produce them as quickly as I would like to see. But at the very least, Peter is using those Rocket Squads on the defensive like he should. First Mechapede is out, segments building. Second Mechapede looks like they built at identical times over there, which means the T3 is out and ready to go. Radicator Hexapods probably on the horizon a little bit later into the game, and I think Peter might be struggling a little bit here for a good transition. More Seeker Tanks going for a blue Tiberium Harvester over in the south. Doesn't look like Peter can catch a break as the Mechapedes do move their way in. They should do fairly well into these units, into all of these tanks. They are facing with their rear like they should be as more and more of them begin to join the fray. One does get taken down, a little bit of poor microing there by Phoenix, but he is still on top of that as the Harvester does go down. Seeker Tank does go down. Seeker Tanks are in trouble. Mechapedes are quite hard for them to deal with once they're facing the other direction. Scorpion Tank's having to engage in full retreat over there in the south. Mechapedes controlling the southern section of the map and probably going to roll into their opponent's base if they're not careful. Mechapedes in the center of the map, giving Phoenix that center control, joined by a couple more Mechapedes and a few scattering of Seeker Tanks here and there. Might need to see some little bit of a change of transition here. I'm not sure how well the Scorpion Tanks are going to do into all of these Mechapedes. Honestly, I think producing a good, healthy amount of rocket squads could really help into this, or even just bikes. The bikes can maneuver and do really well. They do take a lot of damage from the Mechapedes, but if you get enough bikes out, they can do really well at hitting them in the face. Micro still here for Phoenix. Phoenix trying to get his Mechapedes in a good position and is mass producing these Mechapedes. Still no real response. Like I said, I think these Scorpion Tanks are going to have a hard time dealing with the Mechapedes. Peter has to transition, and he has to transition quickly because it looks like Phoenix is really dominating the center of the map, controlling the southern section. He's got a couple of disintegrators out and ready to go, is getting that blue Tiberium, and has these Mechapedes just sort of sitting here on the front line, stopping Peter from running into it. Every time I turn around, Mechapedes are beginning to grow. They move their way in, and they do macro around, getting a couple of really good shots off on the Scorpion Tank. Scorpion Tank still going down. 2 of them going down. 3 of them going down. Skirmishing is definitely in his favor. T3 out on the front line. Maybe not the best spot for it, but it doesn't matter because Mechapedes are moving their way into the old main base, destroying the power plants, going for the throat, going for these stragglers here and there. So many Mechapedes to deal with, and Phoenix is not letting these heads get any shots on them whatsoever. This is going to be so much damage. There is the upgrade there for the Scorpion Tank, but it doesn't matter because Peter throws in the towel. Welcome to the chat, Light. Thank you so much for joining us. We are in the Chrono Clash, making our way into match number 2 between Phoenix and Peter. Round 2 takes place on Tournament Dust Bowl. Over in the northern section of the map, in the green, playing the nod, this is Peter. His opponent still for the moment in the bottom left-hand corner, or in the bottom corner of the map, switching to pink, playing Steel Talons. This is Phoenix. Phoenix into Peter. I think Phoenix is the favorite to win this. He has done quite well for himself inside this tournament overall, and Phoenix is usually a pretty strong player in general. Peter, I'm not familiar with whatsoever, but I am pretty excited. The more and more I cast this, the more and more names I see that I'm not familiar with. And I've been pleasantly surprised with a healthy number of them. And I don't think Peter's doing too bad. I really think what he needed to do there is he needed to transition a little bit quicker. He needed to scout a little bit quicker. Sure, Phoenix did win that, but I think Peter stood a decent chance. His production was there. His economy wasn't too far behind. He did lose a good chunk of harvesters to those Seeker Tanks early on, which definitely does sting, but it's not completely unrecoverable. Phoenix is not one of these players who, once he gets a lead, there's no way to catch back up on him. He does like to capitalize on his snowballs and does quite well. First Pitbull is out, making its way into its opponent's base, probably followed by the Raider Buggy moving its way into Phoenix bases as well. Nothing sneaky yet from the nod. However, Phoenix does have a scout in there, so if something did happen, he would see it coming. Transition for the natural expansion seems to be happening pretty close to the same amount of time. Looks like we've got 3 harvesters, low power mode for this refinery. Not sure that was necessarily needed for it, but either way, it is out. 4th harvester looks like it's out. Phoenix getting his 2nd refinery out. Only having... No, he does have 4 harvesters out and ready to go. Heavy harvesters are, of course, here for the Steel Talons faction. Foxhole inside of Peter's base, getting a little bit of scouting, focusing on the harvesters. Would have been nice to see that get a little bit closer, but maybe he's worried about militant squads or something. Typically, you want to go for the power plants with these, but I'm not sure it's going to matter because that Scorpion Tank is going to push it out. That is something that Peter's doing really well, I feel, is he's getting those Scorpion Tanks out early for the defense, especially if he thinks that he's going to be aggressed upon, and he is acclimating to the changes and to Phoenix's strategy, because a good number of these players are... I won't say a good number of these specific players, but a good number of Kane's Wrath players seem to not react to the transitions, and that's why you want to scout, is you want to see what your opponent's doing. You want to have some sort of reaction for these transitions. And I think that's where Peter's struggling a little bit here, is he doesn't transition where he needs to. However, he did better. Like I said, he did get that Scorpion tank out and ready to go early on. Would have been nice to see the Foxhole going down, but he did not go for that. He's actually sending the Scorpion tank down for a little bit of assault. I think that might be a little bit of a mistake, because you need every one of those little early release resources. And into Steel Talons, that Scorpion tank's going to have a hard time fighting stuff in general, because those MRTs are going to get repairs on the things that are going to deal damage to it. Plus, the closer it is, the more likely his opponent can get a couple of units out. However, it looks like maybe that's going to be a little bit of distraction. Maybe he's trying to lull his opponent into false insecurity, because a healthy number of attack bikes have made their way. However, they unfortunately have wasted a good number of their rockets on these Rifleman Squad. Rifleman Squads did go down, but that is definitely going to be a mistake, which means everything is exposed, and he did slow down. He needs to fully commit to this assault, because there's no way those bikes are going to get out at this point. The noose is closing rather quickly. Harvesters are stopping from being harvest, but that's going to be a bit of a problem here, because the main objective is going to be these heavy harvesters. Heavy harvesters need to go down. MRT does get taken down. Attack bikes are doing quite well, missing a little bit down here in the south. They are going for the harvesters. Phoenix might actually be a little bit of trouble here. Losing these harvesters early on would suck, but he is micro them as best he can. He is playing Ring of the Rosies. One did get taken down, but at the cost of the majority of those bikes. More did join the fray over here in the north, but they did get taken out. This is indeed a best of 5 light. We are in round number 2 so far. The first point is gone to Peter. I forgot to slap it on there. When the action calms down a little bit, I'll remember to slap that over there. It doesn't automatically update. I have to do it manually, so I forget about it. Attack bikes making their way in, taking a couple of really good shots off, but I think the Pitbulls do have the advantage, as one Pitbull does go down. That is a good trade for the bikes, but a second bike going down does not make the trade worth it. One Pitbull getting caught over in the southern section, just sort of got far out. Sorry, 2 Pitbulls over there. One does get taken down. That means that's 2 Pitbulls for 2 bikes. Phoenix is actually losing this trade. If he's not careful, he's going to lose it even harder. This is Peter's chance to turn things around and pull one off over on his opponent. Let's see if I'm quick enough to update the score. Give me one moment. There we go. Sorry about that. Healthy amount of MRTs, Orcas moving their way into the center of the map, going for a little bit of scouting there. Doesn't matter what they hit, they just want to do that scouting. That's something that's really nice about GDI, is you get sort of a couple of free scouts. Looks like they've already predicted where the refinery is going to go. They're not going to hit a harvester, unfortunately, but that's not their objective. Healthy number of Pitbulls over on the left-hand side of the map. Couple of forces moving in on the right. Couple of attack bikes. Only 4 here. You would need 5 in order to get 2 good volleys off and destroy a harvester, but that's not going to work. They are looking for something to snack on. They could get this harvester and wrap it up. Hammerhead could turn around. I think the Hammerhead might be the more valuable target. You're more likely to kill that than you are the harvester. One Hammerhead does go down. 2 bikes do go down. These bikes are going to be in trouble. Third bike does get taken out and destroyed. Pitbulls moving to intercept that bike. Bike does get taken down. These might seem like minor gains, but they're going to make a difference, especially on a smaller map like this. Looks like Phoenix is finally ready to move his Hammerheads in. He does have his AP ammo rockets inside of that unit. The Scorpion tanks, of course, cannot shoot up. Looks like the transition might actually be pretty good here for once for Peter. Peter having a healthy amount of Scorpion tanks, pushing out the majority of these forces, maybe trying to catch one of these MRTs. That would be great if he can catch that MRT, but it may not be the case. Peter maybe just a little bit sloppy in his formation, but it looks like Phoenix is doing the same. MRT does manage to make it out. Scorpion tank does get taken down because, of course, it cannot shoot up. It cannot hit this Hammerhead, and Hammerhead is destroyed. A couple of scouts moving in over on the right-hand side. It looks like Phoenix is going to be the first to transition into his natural expansion. Peter is not following suit. It looks like he might be slowing down a bit. He is 2K behind in the economy. This could be his chance to make things up because he's moving a healthy amount of the Scorpion tanks with their upgrades further in. However, if there's enough Mammoth tanks here to offset, it looks like there's 3. That's going to be plenty to do a lot of damage to this. However, the construction yard is going to take a whole bunch of damage from it. I think the microing is going to come down to who wins this battle for sure. Scorpion tanks in a healthy clumping. They do have a decent concave, but I think they're outnumbered here. I think they've overstayed their welcome, and if they're not careful, they are going to get destroyed. Mammoth tanks taking really good shots off, destroying one of the Raider buggies, destroying a second Scorpion tank here for Peter. Peter not doing too bad, but it looks like his opponent's just a little bit ahead. Looks like we got a flame tank trying to sneak its way across the map. Hopefully that is the offset. Peter does need to do something to change the tempo of this game in his favor, because so far right now Phoenix is on top. Phoenix has been able to transition and defend everywhere he has needed. Raider buggy moving its way in, getting a little bit of scouting off. Flame tank is stopped over there in the south. Peter needs to pay attention to that and move it as quickly as he can, because right now Phoenix is not ready for it. A couple of pitfalls going down in the north, but they are a trap here for the Mammoth tanks. Mammoth tanks are going to move in and start destroying the majority of what's left of these units. They are going to get killed left and right. Avatar is out. That Avatar is going to help, but it's only going to do so much into all of these units. Vapor Bomb missing and hitting absolutely nothing. Flame tank finally getting remembered over there in the south. If you're watching the mini-map, it is making its way across the map. We'll try to pay attention to it here in a second. War Factory getting targeted down. Laser Fence going down. Mammoth tanks in full effect. I think they might have their adaptive armor. They definitely have their railguns, as they definitely should win this fight. They're making it away. It does look like Peter did finally make that flame tank across. Is going to go for a power plant, but I think that's minor to the Mammoth tanks on his front doorstep, on his front lawn. Flame tank is moving its way. Getting that T3 would help, but he's going to have a hard time stopping this snowball here for Phoenix. Another power plant going down. Could be safe to go for these power plants and put your opponent down in low power mode. There's T3 here. He did transition over here, but this is not protected whatsoever. Looks like Peter is falling apart. He did throw in the GG. He did give up, unfortunately. He just was not able to keep up with Phoenix. Phoenix is more consistent, more practiced than Peter, but I don't think Peter did the worst that he could. Really, I think he's doing rather decent, and I don't want to discourage these players from entering tournaments like this, because this is your best opportunity to play against people who are better than you. You know, and I don't mean that as like a condescending way. I think this is a good opportunity to learn. This is a good opportunity. A lot of these tournaments have bounties that you can go for, where you can still make a little bit of cash, even if you don't win, if you get cheeky stuff off. And this is a chance to experience some of those players, because sometimes the Kane's Wrath players don't, maybe they're a little bit gatekeepy sometimes when it comes to allowing people to join their games or play with it. Not everyone's like that, but there's enough of it to at least raise your eyebrow. Either way, round 3 is on its way. Welcome to Tournament Airstrip for round number 3. And before I forget for a third time, I should probably update the scoreboard. Give me one moment. I do wish that was automated, but I'm just happy to have this new overlay, because it saves me a lot of time, and it means I no longer have to make scoreboards. As soon as Lossless, there it is. Over on the right-hand side of the map, playing the nod, this is Peter. His opponent still for the moment on the left-hand side, switching it up once again. This is Phoenix in the orange, playing, I believe, that symbol. I'm always really bad with the screen symbols. I think that is Traveler and not Reaper. Yeah, I think the shielded ones are Traveler. I'll know more once he's got a couple more units out here and ready to go. Peter stopping his scouts over in the north. He does have a healthy number moving his way on the south. Would have been nice to see a engineer follow up all of these units here, considering all of these militant squads. He would have a bit of an advantage here. Granted, he doesn't know what Phoenix is, but this is still enough militant squads to get buzzer squads if you set up here for the defense. I think that's one of the other things that Peter might be struggling with here a little bit, is that he's not capitalizing on his fights. He is going for the harvesters like he should be, but that's kind of standard. Typically, you want to sort of do the two-hand trick. You know, look at what I'm doing over here while you get some sort of game, while you get blue Tiberium, while you get, you know, a Tiberium spike or an EMP control center, or, you know, go for a softer target maybe that your opponent is not ready for it. First couple of attack bikes are out. There are going to be 3 here, but they're going to have to do a healthy number of volleys, especially into these shielded harvesters. Secret tanks out here for the defense. Phoenix probably expecting something to come his way. Bikes do back their way out. That's not the worst strategy for them. Looks like they're going to go for the reactor, but secret tanks should be plenty enough to push these units out. Indeed, they do. Militant squads here for the scout. They are going to get destroyed, and it looks like Buzzer Squad's going to notice the transition for the natural expansion. Both players right behind each other on that. Bike's actually doing rather well into the secret tanks. Usually they struggle. One may get taken down if the micro is not here. It did not get backed out there by Peter. Peter having a little bit of trouble here. They do get one of the secret tanks. That's not the worst gains for them. A couple of militant squads are helping soften up the damage, and they might actually come out on top. However, I say that as one of them does get destroyed. 3 secret tanks really, 3 attack bikes really should not win into 2 secret tanks, I believe. But the microing was just almost there. I think Peter just needs a bit more practice in general. I think the Chrono Clash may have came out of nowhere for a lot of players, so it was harder to prepare for it. But I think that's really just the biggest thing that his opponent is missing, that Peter is missing, is he just needs a little more practice. He needs a little more time dealing with these mid-game transitions. His transition into his natural expansion is always right behind Phoenix in a good way. And his early harassment isn't the worst. He could tighten up his microing, which I think would help him a lot. He could do a little bit more scouting, and he just needs more practice into players like Phoenix, into just players either his skill level or higher in order to get up there. I think he does have a lot of promise. Hopefully we'll get to see him more in tournaments. Hopefully we'll get to see him more in general. I'm always excited to see more and more players coming onto the scene, but I could be wrong. Peter could be one of those players that's been around for quite some time, but I'm not quite sure. Phoenix finally making himself a little bit comfortable moving into the center of the map, not having too much yet out on the field. Looks like he's just happy to begin his transition. He does have a couple of disintegrators, and it looks like he is going to try to capitalize on that exposed Tiberium spike here in the center. That contested Tiberium spike is going to try very hard to go for that. Couple attack bikes going there for the scouts. Sorry, a couple. There's a whole one there. Secret tanks moving in absolutely uncontested. Peter not having the transition like he did before, not having those secret tank or not having those scorpion tanks out where he needed, stopping him from being able to harvest, which means that Phoenix can now begin to focus on this refinery. Refinery going down to half HP already. Not enough defenses here yet for his opponent. Looks like the assimilator might be able to grab that, but I'm not sure. The attack bike might be able to stop it. Not enough forces here. It looks like lightning spike going down for Phoenix. Phoenix in a really good spot here. However, he could overstay his welcome if he's not careful. The defender's advantage is in full effect, but these harvesters are not playing around the war factory probably like they should. Granted, it would be hard to move them around, but they're in a really, really exposed position. Secret tanks are going down, but disintegrators are here to begin to mop things up. Lightning spike is still here, and it's going to be harder to deal with. There are a good number of raider buggies to deal with all of these disintegrators, which can help. The secret tanks and the lightning spike are going to be a little bit hard to delodge. He needs more tanks. He needs rocket squads. I think rocket squads in general would really help him. He did have that handle on the front line last time, but he didn't do it this time. He's not as consistent as I would like him to be. The assault for Phoenix does go down, but he did stop his opponent from harvesting quite some time. If Peter can capitalize on this victory, he can do quite well. Catching this assimilator would be good towards doing that. Raider buggies moving their way in. They do miss it absolutely, completely. Just running by it in general. Scorpion tanks could get the crush over here. However, dealing with these shock troopers are going to be quite difficult to deal with. They are getting destroyed left and right. Looks like Peter has not grouped his forces whatsoever. Phoenix is having significantly better of a concave, and he did have a better transition. He's got these Devourer tanks out and ready to go. Looks like he is indeed going to win this engagement. And somehow that assimilator did manage to make it throughout all of that. I don't think there was a way to reveal it, as it looks like Phoenix is moving his way into that. But Peter's not sitting idly by. He did grab... no, actually, he didn't really grab any blue Tiberium. Maybe his opponent's been keeping up with that, or maybe he's been grabbing some down in the south. Either way, he's about to be in a world of hurt here in a minute, because he doesn't have an answer to these... shock troopers and these Devourer tanks. Phoenix definitely having a better transition here into his opponents, and we might see an early game already complete here. A couple of black hands are out, but I'm not sure how much that's going to help into these forces that are beginning to concave, beginning to build up. Looks like the majority of the Devourer tanks have grabbed Tiberium here, and more specifically have grabbed it from their opponent, denying those small amounts of resources, but I don't think he's going to be able to transition to that. Once again, Phoenix is the only one to transition into his secondary natural expansion, and is stopping his opponent from completely moving in there. Phoenix does have the advantage. He can move in sooner rather than later, and it looks like he is getting scouting there with those buzzer squads. Peter does move his forces out. He needs to concave them. He needs to set them up. He needs to send a couple of scouts out. There are a few shadow teams here, which I don't know how well they fare into these shock troopers. We'll get to see here in a moment. They do a healthy amount of damage. One little unit is going to go down, but there's only so many of these shadow teams here. A couple of flame tanks, or sorry, a couple of black hand squads are going to make their way in, but it looks like Peter does not have the numbers whatsoever. He's going to get taken out here rather quickly, as what's left of his poultry forces are destroyed by the shock troopers and the Devourer tanks there for Phoenix. And most importantly, he was not able to gain any sort of foothold over here, and his opponent's Tiberium spike is ticking away. Looks like Peter did throw in the towel, giving the match to Phoenix, which means Phoenix will progress. I don't remember if Peter's played any other games, so I don't know if he's knocked out of the tournament. There is double elimination in this. You hang out in the top bracket, you win or lose. If you lose, you go into the loser bracket, and after the loser bracket, you're knocked out of the tournament. But there is one redemption bracket at the end, but it might already be filled. I'm not sure how the selection for that redemption bracket works. So this may not be the end of Peter, but only time will tell. Give me 1 second as we move on to match number 2. Match 2, round 2, takes place on Tournament Highlands. Tournament Highlands is brought to you by Obelisk District, high voltage home defense with Nod Flare. Words are hard. Over in the top right-hand corner of the map, playing the pink in, I think this is also Traveler. Give it up for Svensson. That score is not accurate for anyone who is joining, just FYI. Got to fix it here in a second. Over on the left-hand side of the map, his opponent for the moment in the blue, playing the GDI. Give it up for Green Zero. Taking a break from hosting tournaments to playing tournaments. I think this is actually going to be Green Zero's first appearance inside of the Chrono Clash. Score should be fixed over there for everyone there. Should be 0-0 for the moment. Green Zero are having a couple of scouts out and ready to go. Svensson into Green Zero. I think Green Zero is the favorite to win, but I don't have a lot of Green Zero's games on my back burner, as in I haven't seen too much for it. Svensson happy to build up a couple of disintegrators over in the north, maybe trying to get a rush out and ready to go. Is scouting with a couple more of these buzzer squads. This should shape up to be quite a nice game. I think these players should fare fairly well into each other, but only time will tell. Nothing really crazy yet from GDI, but I think standard GDI doesn't do too much that is ridiculous, other than maybe early pit bulls or something like that. Typically, it's Steel Talons. I think you got to watch out for doing. GDI King is back. Is Green Zero the GDI King? I'm not as familiar with him as a player as I should be, but I think he went dark for just a little while. Svensson still over on the right-hand side is building up. Light says, yeah, it sounds like the GDI King is indeed Green Zero. Let's see over here. Nobody doing anything real crazy just quite yet. They have both scouted each other quite well. The Disintegrator is actually grabbing Green Zero's MCV. The MCV does get taken down, and Svensson gets a massive lead there on Green Zero, pulling it off, just catching that MCV, going for the throat, going for the Harvesters. Not only are they going to get MCV, but they're going to get these Harvesters. The crush does happen, but that is going to be a shaky start there for Green Zero. Losing 3,500, stopping the natural expansion. Svensson faring quite well into Green Zero. Maybe Green Zero not quite as practiced as he needs to be. That's going to sting, losing this early on. This is already Svensson's game to lose. He should be on top. He needs to maintain the pressure. That's going to be the big thing that he's going to have to watch out for. But don't count Green Zero out just quite yet. Green Zero is a strong player. He can come back from this. He's a player a lot like Bart Jones, from what I've seen, to where you can deal a lot of damage from Bart Jones, but Bart... Sorry about that. Words are hard. Woo! Couldn't breathe. All right. So, like I was saying before, Bart Jones is one of those players that you can deal a lot of damage to, and somehow he manages to make a way back. That is going to be quite the hill to climb there for Svensson, which means Svensson has a lot of time to build this up. He has a lot of time to build up his economy. He needs to start denying it. New MCV is out, making its way over to that natural expansion. Looks like Green Zero is going to prepare for a little bit of ecoing, but I don't think Svensson is going to allow that, as a couple of Seeker tanks make their way across the map. Would be nice to see a couple of Predator tanks, or at the very least getting a barracks out on the front line with a couple of rocket squads start dealing with these units. Seeker tanks almost making their way into that natural expansion. Green Zero might already be in a world of hurt. However, he does have a healthy number of pit bulls, but the pit bulls are going to struggle just a little bit in those units. However, this is going to absorb a couple of the shots. We do get a barracks out on the front line. We do get a watchtower dealing at least a small amount of damage to those Seeker tanks, softening them up. Green Zero is not going to sit idly by. Green Zero is not going to let that happen a second time. He's not going to lose a second MCV. So says him. Lightning Spike out on the front line, which is going to do a good amount of damage to these pit bulls. Pit bulls are in a little bit of danger. Shardwalkers moving their way in. Svensson keeping up the pressure, trying to stop his opponent from doing it. Watchtower finally going down. Guardian Cannon here on the front line. Pit bulls moving their way in, getting that splash damage there on the Shardwalkers. Seeker tanks are going to get destroyed. Only two of them are left. Green Zero doing great on the defense, despite the disparity in economy, despite losing those early starts. He is very strong, like I said, with Bart Jones. Bart Jones does this quite often, to where he just begins to turtle and build his way up. Pitbull going down to almost dead over here. Low power mode there for the barracks. No rocket squads just quite yet, but I don't think they really need them for the current moment. Green Zero finally going on the assault, getting a couple of really good shots off on the Secret Tanks. Secret Tanks are going to go down, and I think the majority of these forces might get destroyed. Svensson might have overstayed his welcome and might start losing his units. There's the shield there for the Shard Walkers. Devourer Tanks moving their way in. Those could do some good amount of damage, but it looks like only one of them is charged up. Harvester is going to get taken down. Green Zero is trying desperately to turn this around. He does destroy a Harvester, getting himself a little bit of game and changing the tempo in his favor. This is what you need to do when you are behind. You take these losses. The game is not over, but you need to deal with these units. It looks like tempo has switched back into Svensson's favor. These Devourer Tanks making their way onto their opponent's base. One getting caught off. This is not what Svensson needs. Every one of these Devourer Tanks is going to be really valuable. He does take out one of the Pit Bulls. One does get destroyed, but another one here straggling its way in. There is a little bit of reinforcements here. They're going to be hard to deal with, but we do have time for the transition over here. Couple of Predator Tanks. Sorry, not Predator Tanks. Predator Tanks out here for the front line. Couple of Rocket Squads. Those should fare well into those units. It looks like Devourer Tanks are going to be the name of the game over here for Svensson. Svensson might be in a little bit of trouble there. He keeps sending forces into the meat grinder. His opponent just having great transition. A couple of other squads out here, but not able to really get anything. Completely ignoring those rocket squads, not getting anything whatsoever. They could have got destroyed already, but they do finally turn around, getting one rocket squad, but the micro is not really here for Svensson. He's had a hard time doing that. He should have destroyed the majority of those units before that watchtower even popped its way out. Svensson probably thinking to himself, what is happening? I had such a high lead, but he keeps throwing units into the meat grinder that is Green Zero. Green Zero is not giving up whatsoever. Shardwalker's here to absorb a good chunk of this damage. Are going to start focusing on these rocket squads, which are what they need to destroy. Predator Tanks should die to the Devourer Tanks, but it's all going to boil down to Defender's advantage and microing. Plenty of rocket squads still beginning to be produced over here. APC out. No AP ammo for them. Guardian Tower did manage to take out one of the Shard Walkers. This is still really anyone's fight, but Svensson needs to be careful not to overstay his welcome. A couple of Pitbulls in the south trying to gain a little bit of advantage, focusing on one of those Harvesters. Is going to almost take it out, but they're going to take the shields of the other. It looks like they have not been able to focus on too much. Green Zero's attention has been a little bit split. He's getting a good scout off on his opponent, which his opponent has not done. Svensson has not scouted out Green Zero like he needs to, but Green Zero is very much doing that to his opponent. Defender's advantage in full effect, repairing those Predator Tanks. There's a healthy sprinkling of these missile squads. Green Zero has the opportunity to turn this around. Green Zero has the time to begin to destroy these forces, as indeed a couple of Shardwalkers do go down. All of the shields are taken down. There's just too many rocket squads, too many Predator Tanks there for them to deal with, and maybe a railgun upgrade in the background that would definitely throw the nail in the coffin. Svensson really might have a hard time pulling one off on Green Zero. It looked like it might have been in his favor, but he hasn't been able to keep up the pressure, and he hasn't been able to keep Green Zero down, and he keeps losing forces after forces. Maybe playing a little bit more defensive might have worked out better for him. At the very least, he needed more scouting, as the majority of the forces there for Svensson do get taken down. There are a healthy number of Shardwalkers here, but they're going to have a hard time dealing with all of these units, as Green Zero does make his first foray into the northern section of the map for that blue Tiberium. Looks like somebody has been grabbing blue Tiberium. Green Zero looks like Green Zero is the one that grabbed, looks like 3 full loads of blue Tiberium. That's definitely going to help, and it's definitely going to go a long way towards resetting the economy. Tiberium Spike is going to go down. Looks like a fight is going to ensue quite steadily. There's the nice tripod there for Svensson. Having these tripods can make a really big difference into these units. However, the rocket squads are still going to be a little hard to deal with. I think there might be enough Shardwalkers, but Green Zero, despite being behind, has already been the first to transition into the center of the map, gaining that control. Svensson a little bit behind on that upgrade. Does look like the majority of those Predator Tanks did get taken down. Reaper Tripod does need to transition its way back. It's absorbing a lot of these rocket squads, and it needs to stay alive. Every one of these tripods is going to be extremely valuable here for Svensson. Shatterers out on the front line are going to do a good number of damage to these shields. Shields going down. Svensson might be a little bit of trouble. He might actually be on the back end, losing this drone platform. Drone platform already close to half HP. There he goes, another volley coming down. It is going to take it down. It looks like Green Zero might be able to get a little bit of revenge here on his opponent. More reinforcements do join. It looks like he might be able to turn around, but this could still be the death of that drone platform. Drone platform does get targeted down. Green Zero getting his revenge, turning things around as the tripods make their way into Green Zero's base. Defender's advantage in full effect, but I don't think there's a transition here for these Reaper tripods. The T3 is strong, and the T3 is here for his opponent. Reactor out on the front line, maybe trying to block a couple of the shots. Green Zero has gone from aggressor to in trouble rather quickly. A couple of Predator tanks doing a minor assault here, but the real important part is going to be dealing with these tripods. Doesn't look like there's any answer here for his opponent. Low power mode for the construction yard, giving a little bit more armor. Harvester's getting targeted down. Still no answer to the tripods. Svensson may have been able to turn this back. This has really gone either way, but I think right now Green Zero is going to be in a world of hurt. He has a little bit of Tiberium left inside of his base, but he's going to have a hard time dealing with these forces. There is the destruction of the MCV. That's the second MCV going down. I'm not sure how he's going to be able to turn this around. He did mount a valiant defense, but Svensson is not letting up the pressure. Svensson did wisely transition into those tripods, and they've seemed to have really made a massive difference. Barracks producing and using the last little bit of resources there for Green Zero. Green Zero does throw in the towel, which means the first round actually goes to Svensson. That was truly a back and forward match. This is why we watch Kane's Wrath. This is why we want to do these tournaments, because we see matches like that. These players really weren't too far off in skill level, in my opinion, and it definitely could have gone either way, but I think the transition is what saved Svensson and grabbing that MCV early on. Let's see if things continue to heat up in round number 2. Give me one moment. Despite the temperature, this is a map that's been slowly warming my heart. Welcome to Winter Meltdown. Over in the top right-hand corner of the map, playing the yellow, making things confusing, this is Green Zero in the GDI. His opponent for the moment taking the first point for this match in the pink, playing the black hand. Give it up for Svensson. Let's see if I have enough time to update the scoreboard in the background before we miss any action. Give me one moment, please. Like I said, this is a manual map, so I have to do it every single match. There we go. Should be good. Svensson grabbing the first point. Hopefully we don't get to see Svensson do a full 3-0. I don't think Green Zero is going to allow that, because he did fare rather well despite losing that MCV, and he could have turned that around. He just didn't have the tech to keep up with Svensson. Svensson was a little bit shaky there. He was losing unit after unit because he couldn't deal with the rocket squads and the Predator tanks and the defense that was mounted there by Green Zero. Winter Meltdown is sort of one of these maps that I'm getting used to, I'm getting familiar with. It looks like the direct path is making your way from one large Tiberium field to another one. So, for example, for Green Zero in the yellow, this is him in the south, and Svensson needs to make his way to the north. Looks like Svensson is starting with an operations center, being that cheeky black hand sneakiness over here. Probably going to get a flame tank and maybe a reckoner. However, his opponent, right on cue, has a rifleman squad, which means he's going to see this operations center. You cannot allow Green Zero to see what you are doing, because he is going to be able to have plenty of time to anticipate what's coming his way. Winter Meltdown is quite a large map. It does look like one flame tank did make its way out, and one black hand squad did pop its way out. It looks like Svensson has abandoned that assault. Typically, you get to see 2 flame tanks and maybe a reckoner, or 1 flame tank and 1 reckoner, but with 2 black hand squads in it. But Green Zero was here for the scouting, and that's why that scouting is so important. A couple of attack bikes are going to join this unit here, and there is going to be the good transition. 1 Predator tank over here for Green Zero, already running into that flame tank, which means losing that could definitely suck for him. I'm not sure Svensson is going to be able to get too much off. He's going to run directly into these Predator tanks here for Green Zero. Green Zero has had plenty of time to transition over this. Green Zero going full into these Predator tanks, having a couple in the south, protecting his MCV, not wanting to take the risk like he did last time. Attack bikes are taking a couple of pot shots off on him, but it's not going to matter because that Predator tank did buy this construction yard time to deploy and set up over there on that natural expansion. Green Zero is actually the first to transition in general, because I think this, nope, it's not an all-in. Svensson is moving over to his natural expansion, but just a little bit behind his opponent. 2 attack bikes over here, uncontested, running into these Predator tanks. That should be plenty enough to deal with them. They're only going to be able to do so much damage, but Svensson at the very least is getting a little bit scouting off, which is what he needs to do. No scouting yet for Green Zero. Green Zero hasn't elected to grab anything over there. It looks like he is happy to capitalize on... he's going to be a little bit ahead of the economic front, just sort of in general. And indeed, if you look at the UI, it looks like there's about a K difference, like 1K difference between the economy per minute, I believe that is. So that rush did slow Svensson down. Svensson doing a better job of getting a couple of scouts off into his opponent, looking for the transition, looking for what the answer is going to be. And it looks like we do have our first sort of late pit bull here for Green Zero, but I think... Sorry, excuse me. I think those Predator tanks definitely saved him a lot of trouble dealing with that. Black Hand of Nod producing a healthy number of these units out. Maybe he's going to try to transition into that. That wouldn't be too bad because haven't seen too much AP ammo or really anything to deal with the man spam for Svensson, and it looks like he is indeed sending a good number of units out that direction. No refinery just quite yet here for Svensson. Pitbull getting caught in an unfortunate position is going to get... No, actually, it's going to get... No, okay. So it did get taken down there by the attack bikes. Svensson paying attention to his side of the map just a little bit more. I think one scout did get destroyed over here, which means that Green Zero is going to have time to prepare. He's going to have time to get a couple of units up, and indeed, he's already got a watchtower out, a couple of APCs out. This assault may be over before it begins, and he's already beginning to focus on this garrison structure to stop the Black Hand from getting inside of it. 2 watchtowers out on the front line. Green Zero is definitely prepared for it. Green Zero definitely up on the transition. Watchtowers are beginning to engage these units as they go down left and right. APCs moving their way in. Another watchtower on the front line. Svensson's assault is over before it's already gone. Green Zero just having excellent response time. Svensson maybe scratching his head here, trying to figure out what to do, trying to figure out how to crack the nut that is Green Zero, or as Light said, the GDI King. And indeed, he is proving that he's quite strong with GDI. He's fantastic in his transitions. He's fantastic in his defenses. Couple of scouts moving their way in, getting destroyed by a healthy number of Cabal Cavezzer squads and a few other units. Moving your units into these garrisons could help a whole bunch, but I think you're going to have to do more than just man spam in order to fight Green Zero. I don't know what the proper transition here for Svensson is. He's tried to be sneaky. He's tried to go more traditional strategies sort of into it, but Green Zero's been there and ready for it each time. 3 rocket squads inside this garrison structure. That is going to help, and it's going to soften up these troops as they make their way across their map. These rocket squads should do a healthy number of damage, but they're going to have a hard time dealing with these units once they make it into the center of the map, or maybe even into their opponent's base. Hammerheads are out. No AP ammo just quite yet. Probably on the horizon. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw it. More garrison troops getting focused down, and it looks like Svensson might be in trouble over here in the north. He doesn't have much here for the defense. Nice city battle indeed. I actually really enjoy this map. I don't know how fun it is to play, but I do enjoy seeing it and casting it. Laser turrets out on the front line, but they're only going to do so much to all of this armor just slowly rolling its way into Svensson's base. Svensson is in trouble. Another lightning tower is out. Laser turret did not get destroyed, so it is going to be able to pop up over time, but this is, I think, a really healthy assault here for his opponent. There's the upgrade, giving that 4th laser turret. That is going to help, but it doesn't matter because Harvester after Harvester does get taken down. There's the 2nd Harvester going down. Svensson is in trouble. He just has no real answer to this armor. There's more and more laser turrets out on the front line that should help things, but he's prevented entirely from harvesting, which means he's going to lose even more in the terms of economy. Operations Center getting targeted down and destroyed, losing more and more infrastructure, and they're still not able to harvest. Refinery getting targeted down too. Green Zero staying alive, getting the crush there with the Predator tanks. Refinery going down, Refinery getting destroyed, and now these harvesters are exposed. Green Zero may have lost this engagement over here, but he's gotten so many gains. Green Zero already being the first to transition over to a secondary natural expansion. That's what I'm talking about. But in the Peter versus Phoenix game, you got to be doing something over here while you're doing something over here, especially if you're going to pull one over off on some of these players. And Green Zero is shaping up to be quite the top contender. He's looking a lot more practiced from that first game. Maybe not expecting Svensson to do some more of those cheeky tactics. Svensson maybe pulling one off over on Green Zero, but Green Zero still coming out strong and might be shaping up for a 3-0 lead. He's just been everywhere all over the map. Another Harvester going down. Not sure if it was filled with blue Tiberium, but it doesn't matter because it's dead nonetheless. A couple of grenade squads are trying to maybe flush out these units. Nope, the Black Hand squads do mop them up. APM out here for all of these Hammerheads. These Hammerheads should fare quite well into all of the man spam here for Svensson. Svensson just not having the greatest transition yet. However, he does have these Raider Buggies. Raider Buggies can absorb a lot of damage, and you can't really ignore them. You kind of have to choose between whether or not you're going to go for the Raider Buggies as Hammerheads or if you're going to go for those Rocket Squads, because over time they can deal a good amount of damage, the Raider Buggies that is, to your air units, because of course they can look up. Economy shaping up rather quite nicely. Green Zero actually having double the economy per minute for Svensson. There's a chance for that to turn around, but I think that's going to be hard because it looks like because of the boost in economy, he's already almost got a Marv out and ready to go. Units are making their way over to the old main base, but there's not really much here other than a couple little bits of infrastructure. Juggernauts here on the front line. That will definitely make a big difference there, taking out these structures so they can move their way forward. Marv popping its way out here for the defense. Plenty of hammerheads here for the defense as well. Nothing in the Marv just quite yet. Troopers moving their way in, at least one of them. For now, a couple of engineers probably soon to follow. I suspect that Green Zero is probably going to be good on this transition. Raider Buggy getting taken out, which is going to be unfortunate because every one of those Raider Buggies is going to be really valuable when it comes to getting down those hammerheads. Those hammerheads are going to be such a massive problem. Speaking of hammerheads, picking off the forces over here by Svensson. Svensson just not able to group up his forces the way he needs to. Losing units left and right, just not able to keep up. He does already throw in the towel. It sounds like he's familiar with Green Zero, and maybe he's giving Green Zero a little bit too much of a lead and seeing everything on the map. It looks like that was definitely going to be hard. He was not able to see the almost double economy there for Green Zero, but I suspect that he knew what was going on. He's going to have to tighten things up if he's going to pull one off on Green Zero. However, he could catch Green Zero lacking again. That does bring our score up to 1-1. Give me a moment as we move on to round number 3. Round number 3 is on Hampstead Gardens. Over in the top right-hand corner of the map, playing the yellow in the GDI, this is Green Zero. His opponent for the moment in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, switching back to, it looks like one of the sub-factions here for Skrin. This is Svensson. In the pink, playing, I believe that is Reaper. No, that's Traveler. I always get them mixed up. I know the symbols are astronomically different, but like I just don't play Skrin, so I always get them mixed up. Let me know in the chat which one that is. I always forget which symbol is which. I think Reaper has the shields, so the Harvester is probably a good way to tell. Either way, Svensson really needs to form up just a little bit better if he's going to run one off on Green Zero. This is a little bit of a smaller map, so if he was able to get something sneaky off, he would have Green Zero would have less time to respond to it. But I don't think Green Zero is going to allow that happen. Buzzer Squad's trying to kill the scouts over here so they don't make it inside of his base. Maybe trying to do something sneaky, or at the very least just trying to get an easy kill. It looks like they do manage to make it. Yep. Green Zero probably not carrying too much. He does know that his opponent has gone Skrin sub-faction, which don't always do rush. They can do fast legs and a couple of disintegrators to deal a good amount of damage, but I think Green Zero is confident in his ability to counter. 1, 2, 3 harvesters on the horizon, and it looks like a fourth one probably being produced over here by Green Zero. 3 harvesters here for Svensson, so they're probably pretty close on economy. Let's see if I'm right. No, it looks like Green Zero is about 600 per minute ahead of his opponent. Green Zero being a lot more practiced than I expected him to be. Drone ship moving its way over to its natural expansion, followed closely behind the MCV of Green Zero. 2 safety Tiberium spikes per player, and it looks like Svensson's actually made a little bit of a mistake here. It's hard to see, but he's left his assimilator here in the background. That's probably a discrepancy. That's got to be extremely unfortunate, missing that unit there. But of course, Green Zero hasn't made the same mistake. He's already grabbed this Tiberium spike over here. That's going to make a big difference the further and further the game goes on, especially if he's still sitting here and hasn't recouped the cost of that 500. That's going to make a pretty significant difference. More and more scouts out here for Green Zero making their way across the map. Buzzer Squad's out. Looks like Svensson's doing a better job of scouting, although his scouting has been pretty strong overall. What's not strong is this poor engineer just not doing its job right there. Waiting for its work order, never getting it. Looks like that is going to make a 500 to 600 difference per minute, which is going to add up the further and further this game goes. First couple of APCs out here for Green Zero. Green Zero may be worrying about disintegrators, definitely not wanting to lose his MCV like he lost last time, but I think he protected it much better. But he did have plenty of time to make it from here to here if he was prepping. Looks like we did get a command post, probably AP ammo out on the way. First Pitbull is out, already inside of Svensson's base. Gunwalkers should be able to push it out, and indeed they do. No regrouping yet here for the Pitbulls. It looks like the Pitbull was just here for a bit of scouting. couple of garrison units inside the center of the map, which means that Green Zero can see basically all of this side over here, and he can prepare accordingly. Buzzer squads did go down for Svensson in the background. It looks like we actually got 2 airfields over here, so we're going to get a little bit of an air rush, and Svensson has not scouted that out just quite yet. Gunwalker does make its way forward. Mine Drop does pop its way inside of that Tiberium field, but it's only going to be able to do so much. Svensson needs to get something over. Svensson needs to get this airfield scouted out, because if not, he's going to be in a world of hurt. Although these Gunwalkers will do quite well into the air units of their opponents if they're in the right location. Getting a little bit of an actual, looks like Gunwalker rush over here as the Gunwalkers make their way across the map. Might run into this minefield, and they stop right before it. I don't think Svensson knows that they are, and they are indeed going to walk right into the minefield, taking one almost completely down, exposing this assault overall. AP ammo did finish over here for the APCs. Mass APCs for Green Zero is going to be the transition. Nothing yet on the horizon for these airfields. They are finally producing something, maybe 2 hammerheads out and ready to go. Gunwalkers are going to get taken down by the APCs. That's going to be a good transition there. 2 Gunwalkers do go down, and of course, those were the weak ones that got hit by those minefields. And still, they cannot see what's on the horizon. It looks like what's on the horizon is going to be these Firehawks. No real defense here quite yet. No scouting yet here for Svensson. Svensson might be in a bit of trouble. Lightning Spike out on the front line. Shock Troopers moving their way forward. Shock Troopers are a good transition, but the AP ammo is really strong. Gunwalkers are going to take a couple of really good shots. Blink back for the Shock Troopers as they begin to move their way back in. Mine Drop is going to catch a couple of these Gunwalkers as they're sort of stuck in spot. Plenty of Watchtowers out on the front line. Probably going to get a couple of Firehawks out and ready to go. Looks like this is actually Svensson's assault to win. He's now beginning to focus on the Harvester. Harvester going down to half HP. Doesn't look like these Shock Troopers have been contested with just quite yet as the Harvester does go down. Watchtower does get targeted. Is about half HP, but these Gunwalkers are going to be able to do so much. They should have been moved enough to see that those Firehawks are being produced over here. Firehawks did get their first assault off. Not sure what they were to get. I did miss that because of the action over here. Plenty of Shock Troopers are moving their way in. They should do quite well into these Watchtowers, but they do not care because they're actually going to go for the Harvesters instead. That's what they need to do in order to tie up the gap, but it looks like Svensson is still behind. He's about 2K behind in the economy front, but these Shock Troopers do get taken down. Green Zero definitely having to transition to deal with these Shock Troopers, being really one of the first so far in the Chrono Clash to appropriately deal and transition into Shock Troopers. Shock Troopers have sort of walked their way through plenty of base in the Chrono Clash. One airfield did get sold off, but there are still 4 Firehawks out ready to go. Maybe it was just their goal to get out 4 as quickly as possible. No real focus fire here for the Shardwalkers, but it doesn't matter if they run into plenty of these units, as the majority of them do get hurt. And I don't know if they were able to get too much off on their opponent. I haven't been able to catch those Firehawks. They've just been a little too fast for me to keep up with. They did make it back to home base. One more is being produced, and they are getting repaired and refueled. Green Zero keeping up his scouting, checking out his opponent's natural expansion. Looks like auto-harvesting from the main base is beginning to happen here on top of Green Zero's natural expansion. Long-distance harvesting isn't going to be super great. I think that Svensson really needs to set himself up in his natural expansion well before Green Zero. I know he's behind on economy. He is catching up a little bit, but he's gone from about a 6K head. No, actually, Svensson is ahead of Green Zero. He did manage to turn that around. He did kill a good number of Harvesters. It looks like we got another... I'm not sure if that was a sell-off or if that was the Firehawks destroying more infrastructure. Either way, his opponents got less of it. Plenty of Shock Troopers and Gunwalkers out on the front line, out and ready to go. I think the forces are in their opponent's advantage, but it looks like he's going... Green Zero is going for more of a tech upgrade. Has an MCV out, and sorry, not MCV, a Marv almost out and ready to go. Has a couple of engineers and zone troopers to pop in. This is what I love to see. If you're going to build a Marv, you need to prepare for it. Have that engineer, have that zone trooper out and ready to go. It just makes a massive difference. Marv is out. Hopefully it makes its way across the map and capitalizes on some of the gains and starts to take this up while Green Zero transitions over into this one, but it'll only remain to see. Looks like he is not going to go for that. He's moving to his natural expansion with all of his units, maybe trying to play things a little bit safe because he did lose that MCV, so maybe being a bit more cautious. Firehawk sort of just sitting here, not choosing to get really anything too much. They're going to get destroyed. They're going to get taken down. 2 of them are going to go down. 3 of them are going to go down. Those Firehawks are destroyed. Svensson being a little bit better on the defense for the Air Forces, so that's at least nice for him. Marv making its way into the field. Construction yard getting deployed. Svensson hasn't moved into his natural expansion just quite yet. He does have his T3, but he doesn't have Eradicator Hexapod on the horizon yet. And his infrastructure is looking quite anemic. Green Zero going on the attack, moving these APCs over here. Hammerheads can join them any moment here. Does look like Shock Troopers are going to know their way in, but the answer really for the Shock Troopers are going to be these APCs. Marv finally catching up. One APC going down, another APC going down, getting caught and dying due to pathing. Another one getting targeted and destroyed. Svensson needs to keep up these gains if he's going to win this assault. However, he has gone from predator to prey as the Marv moves its way across the map, and he still hasn't transitioned over into this natural expansion, and he's long-distance harvesting, which is going to start to bite him in the butt. Warp Chasm is producing an Eradicator Hexapod, but I think it's too little too late as another Gunwalker does go down. Does look like we've got a couple of upgraded sniper teams out and ready to go to start dealing with these Shock Troopers. Not sure how Shock Troopers classify, and if the Gunwalker, or if the snipers do quite well. Pretty good one-click over there, catching the majority of the snipers, not hitting the Marv, which means the Marv is ready to go, but slowing the vast majority of these forces here. Green Zero could be in trouble, but I think he has the forces to deal with. There's the good transition for the Annihilator Tripod, but I think it's too little too late. Plenty of these APCs are going to go down. Tripods are going to go down here in a minute. There's not really an answer to this Marv just quite yet. Eradicator Hexapod is in a good spot. Green Zero missed microing a little bit, getting his Marv caught in this slow field. I think this is still Green Zero's game to win, as APC after APC does get taken down. Eradicator Hexapod is in the front line, but I think Svensson's got to be hurting on the economic front. Somehow he's still ahead of his opponent, but just barely, and this Eradicator Hexapod should help, especially as it goes for the Marv. Marv at about half HP, but plenty of these APCs out and ready to go, and they are beginning to focus on the Harvesters there, killing the lifeline there for Svensson. Svensson's got to be hurting on resources, at least pure production power. Marv getting targeted down, a couple of tripods moving their way in, destroying the Marv. Marv getting destroyed, getting 500 for the Eradicator Hexapod. Eradicator Hexapod now moving its way into these APCs. His opponent's got to be careful, but Svensson keeps making these mistakes. These long-distance harvesters getting destroyed are going to begin to cost him over time. Another Harvester does, I think it gets blinked back there by something, which means we might have a Prodigy out and ready to go. Yep, there's the Prodigy. Harvesters do make their way back, which is going to be a healthy lifeline for them. Eradicator Hexapod, unfortunately, not in range enough to get the money for these APCs. He needs to get ahead of his economy rather quickly. APCs getting targeted down. It looks like Green Zero is struggling a little bit here to deal with this tech upgrade, to deal with these tripods. He's got to have a better transition. 4 APCs are all that are left. Marv is already down. Couple of Hammerheads. Looks like that is going to be the transition with Zone Troopers destroying more and more Harvesters, capitalizing on their gains. Eradicator Hexapod going down to half HP. P1 going down with Zone Troopers getting destroyed, but it looks like they're going to skirt their way around and go for this upgraded Annihilator Tripod. The macro is definitely here. Micro, sorry, is definitely here for Green Zero. Green Zero doing so much with just a couple of these units. APCs are going to get targeted down, but these Hammerheads are not done just quite yet. Managed to take out a couple of those units, and now focusing on these tripods. Losing every single one of these tripods is definitely going to sting, because it looks like his opponent has a hard time dealing with it. Husk getting destroyed over here as the Hammerheads are still so far uncontested. Going for the power plants, going for the second power plant, destroying them. Green Zero just getting gain after gain. His opponent was actually in a good spot, but I think he's gone in the negative, especially with losing these Harvesters one after another. AA batteries out on the front line, or plasma missile batteries out on the front line, protecting what's left of those Harvesters. Corruptors here to keep their Eradicator Hexapod up and out and ready to go. Green Zero has harvested quite a healthy number of his Tiberium, while his opponent hasn't set up in here whatsoever. I'm not sure if that drone ship got destroyed or what the deal is. Looks like that may appear to be the case. That could be why he hasn't transitioned. Maybe those Firehawks were able to get the drone ship, or maybe he sold off and did some sort of all-in. Either way, he doesn't have really a way to harvest this resource without long-distance harvesting. Gunwalkers making their way over into the natural expansion over here for Green Zero. Green Zero having a great transition into the Juggernauts. Juggernaut's going to do a whole bunch. Space uplink command, or space command uplink. Words are hard. Is here and ready to go. Eradicator Hexapod finally back up to full HP. Gunwalker should run into the couple of these scouts for Green Zero. Green Zero doing a fantastic job continuing his scouting, continuing to see the transitions of his opponent. Low power mode happens once again. There's the drone ship. I don't know if I was blind and missed it. It is finally making its way over to the natural expansion. I think Svensson has a real opportunity to turn this around if he protects this natural expansion. That's going to be what I think everything boils down to. Another Marv is out, but this time it's supported by a healthy number of these Juggernauts. 2 engineers out, and it looks like a couple of troopers are already inside the Marv, so pretty standard transition there. AP ammo, hammerheads here. I don't think they have any zone troopers in them just quite yet. They're looking for something to snack on, focusing a couple of shots on the gunwalkers, getting one of them down to half HP. Marv moving its way into this natural expansion. Svensson might be in a bit of a trouble here if he cannot protect this. Radicator Hexapod making its way in an unfortunate position, taking plenty of damage from these hammerheads. It's really just not in a good position. It needs to be here. It needs to be ready to set itself up. That's got to be pretty embarrassing. One of these rifleman squads in the background did destroy one of those super weak harvesters. Juggernaut's out on the front line. Marv going to move its way in here pretty soon. Svensson trying to move his way into Green Zero's base. Try to focus on that. It doesn't matter because the Radicator Hexapod gets the EMP. Already down to half HP. This is Svensson's last lifeline. Losing this Radicator Hexapod will spell his doom, and it does go down, giving the upgrade to the Hammerheads. Now, there it is. There is the GG. There is no way, in my opinion, for Svensson to come back from losing that Radicator Hexapod. It just wasn't in the right place at the right time, as it did get destroyed by Green Zero. Green Zero truly showing that he's one of these top contenders, taking a single point lead. Green Zero now has 2 points. Svensson has 1 point. Svensson has an opportunity to turn this around, but Green Zero just needs to win one more game. Can he pull one off on Green Zero? We're gonna find out in round number 4. Give me one moment. Round number 4 takes place on Tiberium Rift. Over on the bottom right-hand side of the map, playing the purple, this is Green Zero in GDI. His opponent still for the moment on the left-hand side of the map, playing the pink. In switching to Zocom, it looks like this is Svensson. A little bit of a correction that I made a little while back. I didn't realize both Tournament Rift and Tiberium Rift, which of course this is a Tiberium Rift, is actually a legal map. I think someone told me that last stream. I thought Tiberium Rift was an illegal map, but I was incorrect. So it is perfectly legal for this, which makes sense because I think there is somebody spectating each one of these games. I can take a peek real quick. Nope, no one's spectating this one. But I'm sure a referee checked it at one point. Zocom into standard GDI, into Green Zero's GDI. Not sure what Svensson's plan is here. Not sure what he thinks he can get off with Zocom. Because it doesn't look like Green Zero has a transition you can really focus on. He's been very, very adaptive. He hasn't been one of these players that practices a build over and over and tries to force it into a hole that it doesn't fit, you know, a circle into a square hole or vice versa. He's been very, very reactive in a good way. He's been very, very scouty. I think where Svensson has been messing up is he sort of near the end of the game. Who will play next? I gotta check my notes here in a moment. Give me 1 second and I'll let you know. Up next is Noav versus Tibz. And I think that ends up being a pretty decent game. Noav has been really powerful in this tournament overall, and I've actually been really impressed from his performance. Night Trucker was actually telling me that Noav is more of a 2v2 player, so it's nice to see him do a lot of this 1v1 competitive tries, and especially in this tournament. I think he's fared quite well. I think Noav into Green Zero would be interesting to see, but I think Green Zero might come out ahead of that engagement. Svensson being the first to grab a little bit of blue Tiberium in the center of the map. He's still behind the economy of his opponent. I think the early on microing for Green Zero might be a little bit stronger, because if I remember correctly, if you don't just let your first harvester auto-harvest and you sort of send it in a spot like here or so, or here, it'll harvest just a little bit faster than you would if you just let them go in traditionally. Pitbull's making their way in, already taking a couple of really good early shots off on the harvester. However, the watchtower is out and ready to go, followed by his own Pitbulls. Green Zero is not going to allow what happened last time. He's not going to sit idly by, and he does have more Pitbulls out and ready to go, which are going to push. Black Hand Tibz is nice. Yes, I do agree. I'm kind of curious what Tibz is going to do in the upcoming match, because when I watch him in the IES, especially when he fought like Masterleaf, for example, in the IES, if you're paying attention to that, a couple of Pitbulls are going to get caught off in an unfortunate position there. Svensson cannot afford these mistakes, especially this early on, as he loses 2 Pitbulls to this engagement. He needs to have a better transition, needs to have a couple of rocket squads or something out and ready to go. Either way, Green Zero is going to end up on top. Like I was saying before, Tib Z into Master Leaf in that previous IES game did a lot of rushes, and some of them seemed to come out ahead. Tib Z sort of being this wild card, so I'm excited to see what he does. Another Pitbull going down here for Svensson. Svensson getting taken out, losing unit left and right. The micro is definitely very, very strong here for Green Zero. Green Zero is very, very practiced with these Pitbulls, and it shows. Rocket Harvesters should fare a decent defense. However, there's only so much they're going to be able to do. Watchtower out on the front line, but it is going to get targeted down and destroyed here by the Pitbulls. Pitbulls wasting the majority of the shots. Svensson not grouping his forces just quite yet. Pitbulls are going to chase Pitbulls here in a moment, but Green Zero could still come out on top, and he very much is confident in this assault. Focusing down another one of the Pitbull, but that is Pitbull v Pitbull, and Defender's advantage is here for Svensson. Green Zero not overstaying his welcome, but probably going to lose a couple of Pitbulls here in this assault as Pitbull versus Pitbull trade. He's doing very good at keeping up these awesome trades as another one goes down, and actually he's a little bit ahead right now as another Pitbull gets taken down. Only 4 of them are left. He might lose this engagement overall, but he's been able to get massive gains just from this standard number of Pitbulls over here. And he's not done as another section of the move in the north, distracting Svensson. Svensson having his Pitbulls over here down in the south. He needs to move over to the north rather quickly. He's going to run into a little bit of an issue. One Pitbull moving in for the scout, one Pitbull getting destroyed, another Pitbull getting targeted down. It looks like the micro is significantly stronger here as more move their way in on the south, starting to focus on the Harvester. Pitbulls focusing on the Harvester here in the north. Svensson is in a little bit of trouble. One Harvester with full Tiberium is going to go down as there's still no real response here for Svensson. Svensson just not able to keep up with Green Zero. Majority of the Pitbulls moving their way down to the south, but that's not where they need to be. They need to be dealing with this base, but maybe they're just worried about that natural expansion. More and more Harvesters are going to get destroyed. I think that's the 3rd, maybe the 4th Harvester getting taken down. 5th one getting targeted here. Still no answer here really to this. He is producing a couple of these Rifleman squads, but I'm not sure that's what you want. You want to get these rocket squads out instead. 2 air factories, but it's not going to matter because the damage is already dealt as this old main base is all but dead. Green Zero significantly stronger in this engagement. However, healthy number of Pitbulls do finally manage to take that out, but Green Zero got exactly what he wanted, which was destruction of those Harvesters, which is going to have an impact over time. And where one Pitbull goes down, 2 more replace it here for Green Zero. He just has such great production for these Pitbulls. Pitbulls moving their way in. It looks like the transition is significantly better here for Green Zero. Green Zero having a much better concave. Green Zero tightening up his formation much better. Just winning these skirmishes left and right. Svensson just not able to keep up with Green Zero. Another Pitbull going down. So many gains here for Green Zero. He just wins these engagements left and right. Svensson having a hard time keeping up in general. He does finally get a couple of these missile squads out, in which can make a difference here in the assault. A couple of Orcas do manage to get a couple of shots off on, looks like 2 of those Pitbulls, trying to tie up the advantage here for Svensson. But it's not over just quite yet. One Pitbull does get taken down. A couple of more squads moving their way into this northern section, into Green Zero's natural expansion. Harvester, long distance harvesting, maybe looking for this blue Tiberium. Might be actually a couple of these. Would be nice to see Svensson move his way into these Pitbulls. But we need a little bit of time for that to happen. Green Zero might get caught in an unfortunate position here if he's not careful, but these Pitbulls are plenty fast. And are going to be able to just thread the needle pretty accurately. Good transition here for Green Zero. He's already got a couple of snipers out and ready to go. He's got already got a couple of APCs protecting his natural expansion, while Svensson has just barely moved into his natural expansion. Harvesters did manage to protect it. A couple of Orcas out here can make the difference, but it doesn't matter because Green Zero is just uncontested inside of his opponent's base. Airfield getting taken down. Those mortars being extremely strong. Now focusing on the command post. It doesn't look like Svensson can keep any infrastructure up, and he most importantly cannot keep Green Zero out as the command post goes down. There's plenty of man spam here, but they're just not fast enough to keep up with it as this natural expansion is all but destroyed. There's only a little bit of infrastructure left here as another building does get taken down, does get destroyed. Looks like he's going on the aggression, but it doesn't matter because Green Zero is already ready for the transition. Green Zero just showing truly in top form. It looks like he's got Svensson dialed in. He's just all over the place, and Svensson is just having such a hard time keeping up. Marv actually harvesting up the resources, already up that natural expansion there for Green Zero. Svensson is in trouble as this construction here goes down to half HP. Barracks did produce, but it's too little too late. These Zocom Orcas are also going to get targeted here and then get destroyed as every single one of them goes down. I think that might be Svensson's last little lifeline. He does sell off the MCU, but it's too little too late because the Marv can absorb plenty of these resources, which means that His opponent can sit here and absorb trade after trade. Svensson cannot trade into Green Zero whatsoever, especially with the economic disparity. Marv continuing to Marv up what's left of the last little lifeline. A couple of Pipples are going to go versus the Pipples. Luckily, they are going to focus on those units and take them out over time. Marv is definitely ready to deal with those Pipples. Pipples need to go find greener pastures, and it looks like they are indeed going to do that. Svensson trying everything he can to stay in this game. Would be nice to see him sneak around, maybe make his way in here. However, those AP watchtowers are going to be hard to deal with. Rocket squads are going to fully engage these APCs with their AP ammo. It looks like Pipples are going to move their way in and deal a good number of damage. They might be able to take out this force over here by Green Zero. Green Zero getting in a quite unhealthy pincer move over here by Svensson. Svensson might be hurting, but he's not out of this fight just quite yet. Marv moving its way over in the southern section into the old main, or now the current main base of Svensson. Svensson is going to be able to have trouble because he doesn't have an answer to this Marv, as his last little lifeline will get taken down. Only a couple of harvesters left here and there. It looks like maybe 5-6 harvesters. They are long distance harvesting, and they're going to have quite a hard time. There it is. Svensson has thrown in the towel, giving the match to Green Zero. Svensson did fare quite a pretty good chance there, but it looks like Green Zero finally sat up in his chair and was able to get a victory off. His formations were a little bit tighter. He was definitely a bit more practiced, and he, most importantly, did these over here tactics, these two-hand tactics, I like to try to call them, where he's assaulting and engaging, and he kept the tempo in his favor, which I believe won him the game. Give us 1 second. We're going to move on to the third match. Match number 3 takes place on Tournament LA. Over in the top sector of the map, this is Tip Z in the pink playing Black Hand. His opponent in the south in the green playing Vanilla Scrin. Give it up for Panic. So it is indeed a Tip Z game, but it's not in to Noev. Like I said, that game should be after this one. Tournament LA is presented by Chronosphere, the only tool for app and sites that turn oh no into aha. This is a much smaller map, Tournament LA, that is, which means I think this might favor sneaky tactics over here by Nod, because it's harder to transition to this. Panic into Tibsy. From what I understand, Panic is one of those old pros. Tibsy seems a little bit shaky in some of his plays, like maybe he needs to practice a couple more games, so he might be the perfect match into Panic, and vice versa. Couple of Buzzer squads making their way across, doing a little bit of scouting here for Tibsy, followed by the scouts of these Confessor Cabal squads making their way in to Panic's base. 2 harvesters out, probably followed by a refinery here. So far, everything has been standard. War Factory in low power mode, probably producing a power plant here in the background. Looks like defensive tower is out, is at least queued up. Maybe expecting an early Seeker tank or something crazy. Maybe it's a Shredder turret, who knows. Not a power plant. It looks like it was a refinery instead, getting that second refinery out and ready to go. 3 harvesters here for Panic, and 3 harvesters here for his opponents. Sorry, Panic's in the green. 3 harvesters for Tib Z, now a 4th one, and 3 harvesters for Panic. Or, God, words are hard. Yeah, no, Panic in the south. No one doing anything real sneaky just quite yet. Nothing real crazy. Focusing on economy on both fronts. It looks like they're pretty close in economy. Only 300 to 200 apart per minute. Favoring Panic, it looks like. So maybe Panic's more of an eco player than Tibsy is. I'm still really surprised we haven't seen anything rushy yet from Tibsy. He does seem to favor those tactics, but maybe he's going something a little more traditional. Panic being the first to grab a little bit of blue Tiberium here in the center, protecting it with a couple of his Seeker tanks, 2 Seeker tanks out and ready to go. Handed out on the front line, probably a couple of rocket squads, I'm guessing, going to be reduced. There they are. That's going to do quite well into the Seeker tank. Seeker tank going to run right into the rocket squads. More rocket squads might be on the horizon, but it doesn't look like they really need to as they push Panic scouts out. Does look like the Harvester made it back with almost a full load of Tiberium. That should help increase the economic lead Panic has, but it's really going to boil down to how Panic capitalizes on that economic lead. He's already set up a nice natural expansion over here. His opponent, Tibz, has followed in suit, but he's just a little bit behind. Secret Shrine out on the front line. Refinery probably being produced. Defensive tower being produced. Flame Tank is going to get scouted and is going to get targeted here, but it might actually turn into a little bit of a bait and switch as the Rocket Squad's moving their way in. Get a couple of good shots off on the Secret Tank, destroying one Secret Tank and protecting that Flame Tank. But Panic knows that that Flame Tank is on the horizon and that his opponent is up to something sneaky. Might get a couple of Flame Tanks here. That doesn't mean that this assault is entirely over. Low power mode here for the refinery, keeping that Harvester from popping its way out. Scouts moving their way forward, seeing where these Secret Tanks are. Panic's Secret Tanks, I think, have overstayed their welcome. Flame Tank actually making its way, destroying. Looks like one of the portals now focusing on the refinery and then killing the Harvesters. Flame Tank still uncontested over inside of Panic's base. Now going for the Nerve Center. Nerve Center does get sold off, but now the drone platform might be in a little bit of danger. It's going to have to deploy into the sky here rather quickly. Devourer Tank should start dealing a decent amount of damage here. Drone platform down to half HP. Secret Tanks do get destroyed over on the right-hand side of the map. Another Flame Tank moving its way in. Pete is going to be here for the transition, but the Flame Tank is not, might actually be able to, as two structures go down, the refinery goes down, the portal goes down. Panic might already be in a little bit of trouble here. He has lost so much from that, and I think he even lost his drone ship in the south. Indeed, there is a T3 out. I think this game is already over for Panic. Tibz coming out strong in this tournament. There it is. He's throwing in the towel, giving the first point to Tibz. Maybe this match is not quite as balanced as I think it is, but there's still time for Panic to turn around. Let's see if he does so in round number 2. Here we are on Tournament Rift. Over in the top right-hand side of the map, playing the orange in the black hand. Give it up for Tibz. His opponent for them over on the left-hand side of the map, playing the green in the vanilla screen still. This is Panic. Panic needs to tighten things up just a little bit if he's going to pull one off on Tibz. Tibz seems significantly more practiced here for the Chrono Strike than I think he may have been for the IES. For those of you who don't know, in the background, there's the IES Invitational, which is the tournament that Green Zero has set up and is hosting. And is casting pretty regularly. I will eventually complete my content for that one, but I'm trying to cover the Chronosphere because of all the tournaments and not really anyone else is covering it just quite yet. Cybert is cooking up a couple episodes in the background, and we have been talking about doing a co-cast, but Cybert's a pretty busy guy, so he has a harder time doing this. So I'm trying to go for quantity over quality. I think the games for Cybert are going to be quality over quantity. I think he's going to try to host more of the, like in a refined way, I should say, more of the even matches where I'm hosting a little bit of everything. Looks like we're going to get a transition into an operations center that is going to get scouted here by Panic, which means Panic has time to prepare for it, but he did not prepare for those Flame Tanks last time. Buzzer Squad's going to sit there and see what's going to pop out. Probably a Flame Tank. I would be surprised if it is not a Flame Tank. There it is. Flame Tank is out and ready to go. Buzzer Squad's taking a couple of shots off at the operations center. They do indeed see it. A couple of scouts moving their way in to Panic's base. Panic might be in a bit of trouble if he does not see these Flame Tanks coming, and it did look like Tibz likes to produce 2 Flame Tanks. No, it looks like he's not going to get a second Flame Tank just quite yet, unless he's already queued one up in the background. He's got a Reckoner trying to group up with an Engineer? Maybe 2 Engineers? Reckoner with 2 Engineers. Is he going to go for the MCV and try to go for, the drone ship? Is he going to go for the drone ship and try to produce a War Factory? Because one of the objectives that he can grab, one of the, like you can win $20 if you capture your opponent's War Factory and produce an MCV with it. That's an easy $20. Flame Tank moving ahead of the Reckoner. Reckoner a little bit faster, catching itself up. Looks like it's going to drop off one of the engineers into that unit. Secret Tank might be able to destroy it, but it does get it right there at the end. Reckoner deciding to go for these Tiberium Spikes instead. Maybe going for the throat early on. He does grab both contested Tiberium Spikes, giving himself 5 Tiberium Spikes. No, it's 3. I don't know why I thought this was a Tiberium Spike. It looks like Panic is the only one to grab just the 1 Tiberium Spike for himself. He needs to capitalize on sort of this disadvantage. He needs to move something in there, but he may not have the forces for it. That is going to help Tibz increase his lead. No, actually catch up. Panic's doing a little bit better job on his economy, but not doing as great of a job with sort of keeping up with Tibz. Secret Tank taking a couple of shots off at the MCV, but it's not going to be enough. Reckoner moving its way back, maybe looking for a couple of units to pop its way in there. Not sure what happened to those Black Hand squads. Not sure where they went. Looks like they are over here, and they are focusing on this Tiberium Spike. It looks like Tibzy might be going for a bit of a late game. Tiberium Spike does go down, which will help increase the lead, or help Tibzy catch up in economy. Couple of Seeker Tanks moving their way into the south, focusing down that Flame Tank. That is going to definitely help them. Flame Tank getting a pincer move over here. Seeker Tank's doing a good job of remaining out of range of the Flame Tank. I say that just as soon as one of them does get forgotten about. Flame Tank going down to half HP. Reckoner still on the map somewhere. We got to keep an eye out for that. Flame Tank does get taken down almost for free. Yeah, it looks like almost entirely for free. Reckoner in the south, nothing in it just quite yet. However, there's a hand of nod here. We could see a couple of rocket squads inside of it, maybe deployed, because that's not a bad rush. You don't necessarily need Black Hands. It looks like, yeah, indeed, rocket squads are going to be what's going to pop their way down, supported by a healthy number of Scorpion tanks here for Tibzy. Panic doesn't have much in the forces front. He doesn't really have too much to really do anything. He's gonna have a hard time dealing with these units. One Seeker Tank does get taken down on the way while these Seeker Tanks make their way, but that does mean Panic is gonna see it. He does back out a couple more of these Seeker Tanks, which he's gonna need to hold on to, but he needs to do a transition rather quickly. It looks like he's trying to rush for a tech upgrade, which could definitely help. First Devourer tank is here, which will do quite well into these units, but it looks like Tibzy's taken over the center of the map. He looks like he's setting up the Reckoner actually over here for the blue Tiberium. He's here to stay. He's controlling the southern section. He's controlling the middle, the blue Tiberium, which means he's going to have plenty of time to grab that. Usually I don't get to see too many defensive Reckoners. Seeker Tank backing its way out. It should be able to continue to out-micro this Flame Tank and get destroyed, but I think that's going to be minor. Seeker Tanks moving, or sorry, Seeker Tanks. Scorpion Tanks moving their way into the center of the map, followed by a couple of these Seeker Tanks. Seeker Tanks are going to have a hard time delodging this Reckoner with 3 infantry inside of it. Flame Tank moving its way into the Mechapedes. Mechapedes should be able to take it out, but Flame Tank does have a chance of hitting the face, but they completely ignore it as the Flame Tank goes down for free. Professor Cabal squad's moving in for the scout. Tibzy trying to get a beat on his opponent, producing a couple of, looks like man spam there in the background. One Scorpion Tank going down in the north, but it is going to see these Mechapedes out and ready to go. I think these rocket squads should fare quite well into the Mechapedes. Would be nice to see a couple of attack bikes, but these squads should do quite well. And right on cue, there it is. There's the attack bikes going for the head, taking it down to half HP. One getting destroyed already. Panic cannot afford these losses. There it is. Another Mechapede going down. Rocket squad's doing a fantastic job. Mechapede by itself. Panic losing that assault before it even begun. Reckoner proving to be worth its weight in gold as his opponent can just continue to harvest that. Looks like we're actually going to get a little bit of base rush over here by Tibzy. Tibzy moving into the center of the map, maybe already producing a refinery to get that blue Tiberium even quicker. Maybe a hand of nod out on the front line. We'll get to see here in a moment what he's producing. With the speed on it, I'm guessing it's probably going to be a refinery. Not the worst thing. He's also controlling the northern section of the map. This shows how important control is on maps like these. Tibzy has just been able to dominate most of the map. A couple of Mechapedes making their way into the northern section of the map. Attack bikes right on cue, going for the head of that unit. There is the lightning spike destroying what's left of these attack bikes. One did get taken down, which means there's only one remaining Mechapede here. Plenty of attack bike, or a couple of attack bikes are being produced there in the background. Shredder turret on the background. A couple of units moving their way in the north, destroying. I'm not sure quite what that was. That was actually the drone ship there for Panic. Panic is in trouble, losing that early on. He does have a gravity stabilizer, which is the airfield for his opponent, but he's going to have a hard time rebuilding. That's going to be a costly mistake as the Mechapede goes down inside of Tibzy's base. Tibzy definitely having the transition to deal with these Devastator warships, but Devastator warships can back their way out, and for this defense, Annihilator Tripod gonna have a hard time dealing with these units as there goes, it looks like Panic's last chance to rebuild a drone ship. Everything that it has on the map is all that he's got out and ready to go. Black Hand Squad's now beginning to focus on the Warp Spear, tightening the noose around Panic's throat. Panic is in trouble here. Rocket squads do finally get taken down, but Tibzy can afford the trades. Tibzy can afford that as Panic just sort of throws his units into the meat grinder. They should fare well into the Scorpion tanks, but it doesn't matter because Hand of Nod and Rocket squads are going to be able to destroy them. The tripods just don't do well into man spam, and there it is. Panic is thrown in the towel, giving Tibzy a 2-0 lead. Panic really, really, really needs to step it up if he's going to stay in this tournament, if he's going to fare well into TibZ. TibZ just in top form, doing really, really well into Panic overall. Maybe Panic didn't have enough time to practice. Either way, round 3 is on its way. The last lifeline for Panic takes place on Tournament Odyssey. Did that backwards. Over in the top right-hand corner of the map, playing the orange in the vanilla screen, this is Panic. His opponent still for the moment in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, wearing the pink, sticking with black hand. This is TibZ. TibZ coming out strong in this one. Panic struggling quite significantly against his opponent. However, this is a more traditional map, so maybe the economic advantages for Panic can make a difference. I think Panic needs to get a couple more forces out. It's nice that he's able to get this economy out and ready to go, but I think maybe he's used to being left alone. He's just not as quick on the uptake as a couple of the other players that we've seen, and he's had a hard time keeping his units out. He did make a valiant effort with those Megapedes, but I think it was too little too late, and they had such a hard time dealing with the transition into rocket squads and the attack bikes. A couple of buzzer squads moving their way into their opponent's base rather quickly, getting their scouting off. Panic doing TibZ doing the same thing here, moving into his opponent's base, but it's really the Black Hand squad that you got to keep an eye on. MCV moving its way over to that natural expansion. Looks like Drone Ship has not followed behind just quite yet. 3 Harvesters, probably with a 4th one on the horizon here for Panic. He's been, like I said, he's been a little bit ahead of his opponent, but he needs to get his production, I think, going a little bit quicker. He needs to keep the scouting up in order to see what is coming his way. He's doing a little bit better scouting here with the buzzer squads, which means he can see anything sneaky that is coming his way, which is nothing just quite yet. Probably producing his last harvester here for this natural expansion. There it is. That is 5 harvesters I can count. Gunwalker mopping up a couple of the scouts here for TibZ. TibZ taking his time to build his way up. No operation center, nothing rushy just quite yet. Probably a 6th harvester. Yep, 6th harvester is out. Going to make its way across the map into the refinery. Looks like his opponent's been following in lockstep rather quite nicely. Only thing out on the front line is the Warp Sphere producing a couple of harvesters. It looks like they're both going for a more economic heavy start at the very least, but I suspect we're going to see another transition into an operations center here for TibZ. It's been working quite well for him. However, those flame tanks did not do what they needed to, so maybe he won't keep that up. He was able to use that Reckoner to control the center of the map in a defensive way, which you don't normally get to see. So that was nice. But I think the Reckoners do much better on the aggression. But if there's a healthy amount of blue Tiberium there, you know, why not? You could definitely offset that Reckoner. Gunwalker making its way into TibZ's base, poking around, seeing what it can see, and actually probably catching this operations center. There's the operations center. It looks like TibZ making me a little bit of a liar, probably producing a couple of flame tanks over here. Although Tournament Odyssey has plenty of avenues to sneak your way into your opponent's base, plenty of areas to go, and you have to control quite a wide area in order to do that. If I was Panic, I think I'd be trying to go for this defensive tower as soon as I can to cut off some of that. Seeker tanks moving their way in. Lightning Spike out on the front line. Does look like these Scorpion tanks are going to have a hard time dodging all of these units. This Lightning Spike is just going to be able to take absorb so much damage. However, the Defender's advantage is here in full effect for TibZ. TibZ doing a great job microing his units, keeping these Scorpions alive, switching transition as soon as his opponent has moved its way out. It looks like he's body blocked there a little bit for the Lightning Spike, but it doesn't matter. Does get taken down. Valiant effort there by Panic. Panic trying to keep things on his tempo, keep things in his favor, because he cannot let TibZ go on the aggression, but it looks like TibZ is going to go on the attack here soon anyways. First upgrade for the Scorpion tanks pretty early on, giving them the Dozer upgrade, giving them a little bit of armor. First flame tank is out, making its way down to the south. Would be surprised if it's the only flame tank. Probably getting another one here rather quickly. Actually, one flame tank has already made its way across the map, going for the refinery, going for the Warp Sphere. Still absolutely uncontested. It's going to destroy the War Factory, the Warp Sphere over here for the Scrin faction. It does finally get destroyed, but it definitely managed to get its gains. That's exactly what you want to see. TibZ sneaking a flame tank around over in the south, sneaking one onto me in the north. I completely missed that until it finally made its way on there. So if I'm missing it with no Fog of War, his opponent is definitely having a hard time. Shields are out for the Seeker tanks. That will help even up this fight here, but there's plenty of Scorpion tanks. Not a decent concave over here by the Seeker tanks. Seeker tanks could be a little bit of trouble. The Focus Fire is definitely not here. There's the one click for the decoy army, which means the Scorpion tanks are going to have even more of an advantage. Concave is in full effect for TibZ. TibZ definitely should win this fight. Focus Fire really not helping whatsoever, really not here at all for Panic. Panic losing this engagement, but he does have Defender's advantage, and if he can keep throwing numbers at this, he can come out ahead. But TibZ has tied up his economy. TibZ is keeping in lockstep, especially after destroying that refinery, as it looks like TibZ gets a 3-0 match into Panic. Panic just not able to find a decent footing into TibZ. TibZ definitely in top form, moving his way further into the tournament. Match number 4, round number 1 is on Winter Meltdown. Over in the top right-hand corner of the map, playing the black hand in the purple, this is Noav. His opponent coming out strong in the last match, of course, in the cyan, playing the black hand. Give it up for TibZ. Winter Meltdown is presented by Rage Quit Rugs, soft enough to absorb shame, and Throne Peripherals. Black hand into black hand. Don't forget to reset the scores. I think I did. I do appreciate the reminder. I have been bad about that in the previous cast, but I got it this time. I'm getting a little bit better with each live cast, and I owe a lot of help to Double Evil. Double Evil has saved me so much time, which means I can produce more and more content and get these videos out a little bit faster. I'm going to try to do maybe another stream, I think, on Friday, and definitely one on Sunday, because there's still so many games left in the Chrono Strike, and I'm actually behind, despite this being the 6th wave, each one of these being about 3 hours. So 6 times 3 will let you know about how many hours I have casted so far for this. And I think I'm still like 8 games behind where everyone's at. So if I'm going to cast the semifinals live, I definitely need to step it up just a little bit. Black hand into black hand. This is definitely going to be, I think, a really interesting match, especially TibZ into Noav. Noav has been very strong, and TibZ has been very strong. And I think they might fare a really good fight into one of each other. As I mentioned before, Noav is typically more of a 2v2 player. At least that's what Night Trucker was telling me. He said he's typically more in the 2v2 field, but he's really doing well in these tournaments, and I've seen him do really well in just some of the games that he sent me overall. So maybe he's making a small transition into 1v1s, or he's just playing whatever games or whatever tournaments are his way. I think he is a good contender for this Chrono Strike overall. Decent scouting here by both Raider Buggies, by both players, by Noav and by TibZ. They're really following in lockstep with one another. And preparing for that sneakiness. No one's begun to develop their natural expansion just quite yet. I think it looks like TibZ is just a little bit ahead. Economy is still tied up. There's the first refinery there. Probably followed soon behind Noav. So Noav might be a little bit behind on the economic front, but he has time to turn that around. First attack bike is out. Probably doesn't want to run its way into this Raider Buggy, but it might still come out on top. Attack bike at half HP, Raider Buggy at half HP. Looks like it might just be here for the defense. Noav focusing on that Raider Buggy. A couple more attack bikes are going to join, but it looks like it's going to be a mirror as attack bike into attack bike. Noav rightly focusing on those attack bikes, as it looks like his opponent is just sort of sending them into their doom. Noav definitely being a bit more responsive than Panic with his transitions and with reading his opponent. Because when you don't have Fog of War, you've got to predict what your opponent has out and ready to go, and both producing attack bike and Raider Buggy, the more traditional strategy there for the Nod factions. Noav now making its way into his opponent's base, but actually he's going to run into a little bit of ambush, as it looks like TibZ gets a little bit of advantage on destroying these bikes after bikes, and the majority of his forces are going to go down for free. Better trade there for TibZ. That's what he needs to do. That's what he needs to keep up with. Noav forced to retreat over to his side of his map and group up his forces. Looks like 2 war factories here for Noav, and 2 war factories probably for his opponent. Yep. And it looks like TibZ is going to mass produce a healthy number of these attack bikes, which is going to be really good on Winter Meltdown because of how big this map is. Noav is producing secret tanks out in the back, or not secret tanks, scorpion tanks out in the background, which are really, really great for defense. The problem is going to be keeping up with these fast-moving units, especially if Noav continues, if Tibz continues with his transition. Operations Center out here for Tibz over on his side of the map, followed by an Operations Center, both in low power mode for both players. They both come online about the same time. Scorpion tanks are going to be here for the defense. That's going to be super, super great for Noav. If they can take a couple of really good shots off of these units, it could turn this assault around. A couple of pot shots do happen. One Scorpion tank does get taken down because the looks like the concave, the formation wasn't set up for them just quite yet. Doesn't look like Tibz has anything to follow this up just quite yet. He is finally producing his set of Scorpion tanks. He's got a third War Factory out and ready to go in his natural expansion, which means he's going to have a bit more production than his opponent. But Noav has had more time to develop these Scorpion tanks, so he can turtle a little bit heavier than his opponent. He's going to be the first to transition, it looks like, into the center of the map. I say that actually Tibz is really in lockstep. These players are going play by play with one another. This could still be either one's game so far for this. A couple of Scorpion tanks moving their way in, taking a couple of really good shots off on this garrison structure, trying to get a little bit of that. They do need to protect their MCV as Scorpion tank moves in on Scorpion tank. Both are going to be contesting this center of the map. The concave is what's going to be important. The formation is what's going to be important as they both deploy, as they both build. What is going to be the transition for each player? This could really go either way. Plenty of Scorpion tanks here for Tibz and his opponent. Hand of Nod on the front line looks like going to be not a bad strategy. We do get the upgrade there for both units. The dozer upgrade is there for each one. Concave a little bit worse here for Noav. Noav might be a little bit of trouble, but he does have the Hand of Nod. Shredder turrets are going to take out the rocket squads. Rocket squads might be the linchpin. Looks like War Factory out on the front line, which means Defender's advantage is going to be full effect here. Tibz, I think Tibz might actually come out on top there. Noav might be in a little bit of trouble here. Noav does put a Voice of Kane out on the front line to help with things, but this Hand of Nod is going to get taken down. Secret tanks are going to get taken down. This is still anyone's game, but I think it is going to favor Tibz. More and more reinforcements do join, but it looks like Tibz is just a little bit ahead, especially with having this War Factory out on the front line. It looks like Construction Yard is going to go down. Noav is in trouble. He needs to make some sort of transition. One Secret Tank can getting caught in an unfortunate position. Body block there for the Hand of Nod. Repair on the Construction Yard. Scorpion tanks are beginning to focus fire. They do have a better concave as the Construction Yard does get taken down. Hand of Nod is still in the front line, which means we get a couple of rocket squads, but this could still turn around in Noav's favor, but he's got to fight an uphill battle for sure. There's plenty to focus on, but I think really the favor is going to be in his opponent. A couple of attack bikes moving into Noav's base. Noav trying desperately to win this assault, mixing in a couple of rocket squads here, trying everything he can to stay afloat, trying everything he can to stay alive. Hand of Nod finally getting targeted down. The Voice of Kane is still here. That might be able to tip the scales in his favor. This could still go either way. Noav into Tibz. Tibz not doing too bad, but neither is Noav. I think things are still favoring Tibz over here in the center of the map. He seems to have much, much better control, but his opponent's going to have a hard time. Noav's going to have a hard time turning around. It looks like he's plenty set up there. Indeed, he looks like he does agree with me, giving the first point to Tibz. That still could have gone either way, but I think Tibz just had the more of the forces and was able to focus fire just a little bit better. He was a little bit quicker on taking that center of the map than Noav, and Noav had a harder time concaving, which I think gave Tibz the advantage. Either way, this is shaping up to be a rather intense one. Join me on round number 2. Round number 2 is on Tournament Highlands. Over in the top right-hand corner of the map, playing the yellow, sticking with black hand, give it up for Tibz. His opponent sticking with the mirror of black hand, sticking with purple. This is Noav. The mirror match is continuing, and I don't see why it wouldn't. Another player really did particularly terrible into one another. However, Noav does need to tighten it up. Every little bitty small mistake, every little bitty transition is going to make a big difference. These players seem to be pretty evenly matched, I would like to say. So I think this match, this series can do quite well. Yeah, indeed, Tibz is doing really well. And I think Noav is. I really think Tibz is a lot more practiced for this one. I'm not sure how often he plays, but I don't see a crazy amount of his games, except for recently in the IES and in the Chrono Clash. Tech Bike making its way into the center of the map. Noav being the first one to get that unit out. Going to get a little bit of scouting here. It looks like Raider Buggy is going to be the transition here for at least the first unit out here for Tibz. Tech Bike making its way in, but it might have to deal with some trouble here in a minute. Secondary refinery is out for both players. Really not too far behind one another. 3 harvesters with a 4th one on the horizon. Same thing, I think, for Noav. 2 harvesters, actually. It looks like Noav might be a little bit behind on the harvester front. Maybe trying to get that attack bike out sooner rather than later. Raider Buggy going down to half HP. It looks like attack bike might actually be able to take it out here in a moment. Scout going down would be quite annoying as it does get taken down. MCV making its way over into the natural expansion. Attack bike actually getting a couple of really good shots off. Might as well focus on this MCV and force your opponent to deal damage. You're not going to be able to destroy those harvesters. It's going to take too long. The transition is going to be, you might as well focus on that construction yard. Tibsy deploys it before his opponent can do any more damage as Noav makes his way into his natural expansion. Refinery probably being produced over here by Tibsy for that natural expansion. Looks like both of them have elected to sit right at the top at this northern section of the Tiberium in order to get a refinery out. So maybe the goal is to pop it here, and then your build order should be about here-ish, I believe, which means you should be able to get the refinery pretty close. Couple attack bikes out here for Tibsy over on the right-hand side. Secondary War Factory out for Noav, which means we're probably going to see a good transition into plenty of attack bikes, and he is going to be able to outproduce his opponent when it comes to these units. Construction yard moving forward just a little bit more on Noav's side. Noav, I think, probably behind on economy. No, actually, they're tied with each other despite the harvester disparity. A couple of scouts over Tibsy moving their way in, but most importantly, Bike and Buggy here in the south beginning to group up. It looks like a couple of them are going to get scouted here by the Militant Squad, which means Tibsy has time to prepare for it, but if he's not careful, he might lose a harvester. He does lose one attack bike there, and the Shredder turret does pop its way out. It doesn't look like Noav is confident in his assault, so he backs up a couple of his forces out. Militant Squad still making their way across the map, looking for a little bit of scouting. Attack bikes moving in, looking for some sort of hole in the armor of Tibsy, trying to capitalize on their advantage. One harvester does get targeted down, going down to pretty close to half HP. I guess that's about a third down. Attack bike versus attack bike. So far, the forces for Noav are significantly stronger here. Noav's doing a good job of keeping his Raider buggies here to absorb the shots of the attack bikes. It's going to boil down to who gets the better volleys. A couple attack bikes going down. Tibsy not as tight in his formation as he needs to be as attack bike after attack bike does go down. Noav capitalizing on his gains does come out ahead of that, but he was not able to get a harvester. More and more attack bikes do join the fray. Noav doing a better job with his trades, but is going to run into that defender's advantage. He wasn't able to get any harvesters, but he was able to get some decent trades. If he can continue that whittling down of Tibsy, he can get something off it going, and most importantly, he can keep the tempo in his favor. Looks like Tibsy has about a 1K lead, maybe a little bit less. Nope, it looks like Noav caught up rather quickly. Right as I was saying that, it went from a 1K lead to it looks like he's got a little bit of a lead now. Maybe he was able to grab some blue Tiberium in the background. I missed that either way. Noav still has a healthy number of attack bikes out and ready to go, but his opponent has transitioned into Scorpion tanks. Scorpion tanks over in the south and probably going to produce a healthy number of those, and why not? If you're going to be on the defensive, the Scorpion tanks can help a whole bunch. Militant Squad's moving forward for the scout. Bike and Buggy moving their way out and grouping up with the Scorpion tanks. I don't think Noav wants this assault, but he does want the blue Tiberium, which he's going to try to go for. Militant Squads are going to get destroyed, but they were just there for a little bit of scouting them. Tibsy grouping up his forces in the north. What might be the problem is these Scorpion tanks are isolated, and if Noav was paying attention, he would be able to take those out. Just a couple of attack bikes that he has can make a big difference. Noav moving into the northern section, threatening these other attack bikes, threatening the garrison and the Tiberium spike of their opponent, and most importantly, taking control over this blue Tiberium. Not sure if he's sending a harvester just quite yet, or if this is a harassment run. It looks like it is a harassment run. Tibsy moving his forces in, catching these attack bikes in an unfortunate position. Noav cannot afford these mistakes. He is going to get a couple of gains out on his opponent, but he did lose that minor engagement. Tibsy being the first to move his way into the center of the map, putting a War Factory out on the front line, having plenty of these Scorpion tanks. Going to see Scorpion tank into the opponent, both having dozer upgrades. The forces are here for Noav. I think Noav has the better concave. He does back off for some reason, maybe worrying about a couple more forces, maybe not seeing the whole thing. Either way, it looks like he's playing a little bit more defensively than he was last time. I think he does have the numbers, but he's got to keep it up, and he's got to worry about that transition. And it looks like Tibsy is keeping up with the standard strategy that he did last time, where he moved into the center of the map, put up that War Factory, and turned that contested territory into a defender's advantage because of the repair. Tibzy grabbing a little blue Tiberium, but Noav a bit quicker on the uptake, at least with the southern expansion of the blue Tiberium, grabbing that for himself before his opponent can do so. Both have moved into the natural expansion rather quite soon, and it looks like Noav's coming out strong, producing 3 Hand of Nods, which can make the difference here. There's going to be plenty of Scorpion tanks here for Tibzy, but Tibzy cannot see these Hand of Nods just quite yet. He might be in danger because those are going to start producing a massive amount of rocket squads. Indeed, there they are right on cue. Tibzy might be in trouble. He needs a transition. He needs a transition quickly. He does have 1 Hand of Nod on the front line, but that's going to have a hard time keeping up with those 3 Hand of Nods, now 2. Harvester is going to get targeted for both players over here as it looks like Noav moves in his assault in earnest as rocket squads move their way in. Tibzy might be in a bit of trouble if he's not careful because these rocket squads are going to be hard to deal with. Shredder turrets are going to be a good answer to that. More rocket squads being produced over here, but I think Noav might have on top of this is a staggering number of units. Tibzy being forced to back his way out. Shredder turret after Shredder turret going down. Noav definitely in the lead, coming out strong, but he can still lose. He can still lose his concave. He can lose to that defender's advantage if he's not careful, but tank after tank is going to get destroyed. More and more rocket squads are being produced. No real transition yet as all of these Shredder turrets do get taken down. More and more Scorpion tanks going down. Noav in top form. Noav, I think, winning this assault. Tibzy needs to do something if he's going to be able to keep up with Noav. Forces are beginning to dwindle a little bit here for Noav, but I think he's in the lead. Scorpion tank after Scorpion tank going down. These Shredder turrets having a hard time staying up because the rocket squads do quite well into them, and so do the Scorpion tank. Hub after hub going down, and I think this is Noav game to lose. Tibzy might end up with an L if he's not careful. Secret Shrine on the front line, producing a Hand of Nod. He's doing all of the right things, but it doesn't matter because the production is definitely here for Noav. Noav able to pull one off over on Tibzy, tying up our score 1-1. Noav truly being a great contender into Tibzy, and Tibzy doing quite well into his opponent. It just boiled down to these small little bitty advantages on both fronts. Our score is tied up on round number 3 on the map Tournament LA. Over in the northern section of the map, thankfully sticking to one color, this is Noav playing the black hand. His opponent also sticking with his, not his color, but sticking with his faction. This is Tibzy. I don't remember if he was pink last time or not. I'm not sure if Tibzy has a favored color. And I've just done so many of these games, I'm kind of like deaf to it. No all-in yet from Tibzy. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to attempt some sort of all-in, but maybe he didn't like the results of them inside of the IES, so maybe he's being a bit more cautious, or maybe he just figured he knew Master Leaf and figured that he could get a bit more rushes out on Master Leaf, and I think maybe that was the goal with it. Not quite sure. So far, both players have been producing plenty of rocket squads, plenty of Scorpion tanks. We did see a bit more of bike and buggy out in the last round than we did the first one. So I really want to know what the transition is going to be. Tournament LA being a bit of a smaller map, which means it's harder on the defender to prepare, as in they have less time to prepare than some of the previous matches that we've seen so far between these two players. Looks like we're getting an early operations center here for Noav, not followed by an operations center over there. I think actually there it is. There's the all-in, selling off the MCV, 2 productions out and ready to go. That should fare quite well into the rush that's coming his way, because we're probably gonna see a good number of attack bikes out and ready to go and just run directly into this flame tank. Flame tank running down the center of the map. Confessor Cabal squads are gonna scout it. Not sure if another flame tank made its way out. A couple attack bikes, and Noav might actually be in trouble. This game might be over before it has really started. Bike and buggy moving its way, destroying the flame tank. No, ignoring the flame tank. Maybe they're just going to try to go straight for the throat, and indeed it looks like that is what they're going to try. A bunch of the attack bikes going down. Flame tank so far being uncontested, but that's why, because there are a couple of Scorpion tanks here are going to be able to catch it. Flame tank going down to half HP. Is going to focus on one of the War Factories. War Factory going down to almost half HP. Looks like... Nope, Noav did not sell his MCV. The longer this game goes on, the better it will be for him, especially if he can mount a defense, and indeed he is trying to do that with these Scorpion tanks. He's got to protect his Harvesters, because I think that's going to be the real linchpin as attack bike after attack bike here for Tibzy does go down. Tibzy needs to tighten things up a little bit if he's going to be able to win this one off on Noav. Noav moving his forces in. Scorpion tank's getting caught in an unfortunate position. Needs to be focusing on those, because those are going to be the real kicker. Harvester having to back its way out at half HP. It is going to make its way out, and it is going to survive for another day. And most importantly, it's going to be able to deposit its load of Tiberium. Both players pretty close in economy so far. Looks like we got 2 harvesters for this rush here. Not a third harvester. I prefer 3 harvesters, but Tibsy has been significantly better at these rushes than I know. So maybe that's the standard strategy, is 2 harvesters for an all-in rush. Tech bikes making their way into the center of the map, still trying to find some sort of hole in Noav's armor. Noav having more time to produce more and more of these Scorpion tanks. The longer he draws this game out, the better it is for him. Pretty decent concave here over here, as one harvester does get taken down. That is what Tibsy is looking for. If he can keep up those little whittling strikes, especially because he didn't lose a single thing in that assault, but if he can keep up those strikes, he's going to slow Noav down quite significantly. Refinery building in the background. It looks like another harvester getting targeted, another harvester going down to half HP, having to back its way out. Noav is in trouble on the economy front. Another war factory out on the front line, hopefully producing a couple of harvesters, because if not, they're going to be in a bit of danger. His opponent doing quite well. Tibsy doing quite well of just doing these drive-by, doing these skirmishes. They do get caught a little bit here by the Scorpion tanks. The Scorpion tanks are going to have a hard time keeping up in general. It might be time to look for greener pastures. Maybe go over here. Maybe start to focus on this construction yard and force your opponent into assault. Raider Buggy in an unfortunate position, taking a couple of early shots off, as well as one of these attack bikes. The forces for Tibsy might be in a little bit of trouble, as these Scorpion tanks do get a whole bunch of shots for free and kills for free, pushing their forces out. But another sector of, looks like plenty of Scorpion tanks here for Tibsy, making their way across the map. Attack bikes out in full effect, and EMP control center is going to be here, so it looks like Noav's going to have to keep an eye out for that. I'm not sure how far away that EMP is, but grabbing that will make a difference, I think, in this assault. One good EMP will rock Noav out of this assault. He does make a good transition into the hand and nod. You can't EMP ground units. A couple of attack bikes making their way over to this natural expansion, but they don't find any harvesters. They do find a construction yard, and they're going to take a couple of shots off, maybe trying to bait some of the forces for Noav over here while the tanks move their way in, because so far he doesn't have anything to defend this just quite yet. He's going to repair it instead, which is going to buy him some more time, but this is going to be a healthy number of Scorpion tanks. Scorpion tanks for Tibsy are going to make their way in. Rocket squads here are definitely going to be the answer. One Scorpion tank moving its way to its doom, getting a little bit better scouting out, but costing Tibsy some forces. Tiberium Spike getting targeted over here by his opponent, maybe trying to force something, maybe trying to get a little bit more of an economic advantage if he can. Noav is actually about 2k behind his opponent in harvesting power, which is kind of surprising. No production of the MCV for Tibsy. Tibsy happy to just continue this as the construction yard does get targeted down. There's plenty of units here to deal damage. Laser turrets out on the front line to start dealing with these units. That is going to help, because the defender's advantage is going to be pretty strong here with that laser turret. Another attack bite going down, only 3 of them remaining. Scorpion tanks moving their way in, focusing on one of these harvesters, capitalizing on their gains. Massive EMP. There it is, right on cue. I think this is Noav's game to lose. I think he's out. Tibsy just hitting all of the Scorpion tanks. There are a couple of rocket squads here, but not enough to deal as they move their way in for the crush. One laser turret here on the front line, and I'm not sure how Noav's going to be able to turn this around. I think he has lost this one. Operations center going down in the background as more and more Scorpion tanks join the fray. The economic advantage, despite the all-in, are going to be in Tibsy's favor. Tibsy's losing a good chunk of these units, but the majority of the harvesters here are gone, and I think so is the War Factory. War Factory is gone as well, which means he doesn't have a way to reproduce these harvesters. He is in trouble. Attack bike's going for the power plant. Going to put, there it is. He's thrown in the towel. Noav not doing as well. I felt an all-in was coming, and that was indeed the case. That does give Tibsy a leading point, giving him a 2-1 lead on Noav. Noav's going to have to tighten things up if he's going to pull one off over on Tibsy. Let's see how he fares in round number 4. You knew it was coming. This is round number 4 on Tournament Odyssey. Tournament Odyssey is brought to you by Hoverboard Lawnmowers, because who said yard work can't be extreme? Over in the top right-hand corner, playing the purple, switching to regular nod. This is Noav. His opponent also making a change in color and faction, playing the yellow, switching to Marked of Kane. This is Tibsy. Tibz getting a little bit of lead on Noav. Still can go back and forward either way. I think this has definitely been one of the more balanced games. Both players trying to mix things up. A couple of Awakened squads making their way across the map, which means once they see each other, they're going to know which Nod sub-faction. Well, I guess this is just standard vanilla mod. Awakened squads should do quite well into those scouts, and indeed they do manage to take them out. Awakened squads need to be dealt with, though, because those EMPs can be disruptive early on, and if Tibz can get himself an advantage, then he can win and tie this game up, because he only needs one more point. If he wins this game, Noav is knocked out. There's a decent transition there. Raider buggies getting a little bit too close to each other while the Awakened squads begin to focus them down. Attack bike making their way into the natural expansion. Another EMP pops up on the Raider buggy, but at least Noav's able to back its way out. Attack bike are gonna be able to be the final transition over here. Saboteur might get destroyed here in this engagement, but I don't think Tibz has the time to deal with it as more and more attack bikes move their way in. Raider buggies here for the defense. Looks like we actually have a bit of an all-in here for his opponent. Noav trying to pull one off over on Tibz. And it's a double all-in, one on each side. This is definitely going to be quite a significant race as attack bike after attack bike over here do get destroyed. Noav might actually be in a really, really good spot here. One attack bike does get caught by an EMP, but that's nothing really to write home about, as they do have advantage into this. If they can make their way in and destroy at least some of these attack bikes, they can continue this advantage. However, the concave is not here. The forces aren't grouped just quite yet. They are getting good volleys off as another attack bike does go down, but it is doing a trade. Another attack bike does get targeted, go down to less than half HP. One does get taken down, as this might be Tibz's final stand here for it. This might already be a tied score. He might end up in 2-2 because he can't afford to lose these harvesters. I think he's only got one harvester here, as it does get taken down. There it is. It's destroyed. Only attack bikes there. All they have to do is sit here and absorb these shots. Noav in top form. Tibz not able to win the base race, not able to win the all-in. Noav proving to be the superior all-in that time around. Tied up her score already. That was a quick game, but it was definitely nice to see there by Noav. Our score is now 2-2. Let's see how match point rounds up in round 5. Give me one moment. That was a whole 3-minute game. Our tiebreaker takes place on Tournament Underground. Over in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, switching to the cyan, sticking with Marked of Kane. This is Tibz. His opponent still for the moment on the bottom right-hand side of the map, plain purple, switching back to black hand. Give it up for Noav. Tournament Undergrounds really being one of the prominent early rushing games, so I'll be surprised if we don't see an all-in here by Tibz, but maybe he's not confident in all-inning versus another all-in into his opponent. They are going to see what each other's factions are as the Cabal Confessor squads, or Confessor Cabal squads, make their way across the map. Saboteur for Tibz has to back its way out, maybe trying to go for this contested Tiberium, maybe trying to go for EMP, but it doesn't matter because these Cabal or Confessor Cabal squads are not going to allow it to happen. MCV still up for Tibz. MCV still up for his opponent, so maybe they're going for a more traditional strategy. Do get double War Factory here to aid in the production. One harvester does produce out, which means 2 harvesters here per player. Production definitely going to be in favor of Tibz, at least for the current moment, but the Confessor Cabal squads are going to see that getting a good scout off, while his opponent has not gotten a scout off on Noav just quite yet. Noav getting a good idea of what his opponent's got up and going, and most importantly, seeing that MCV is gone, seeing that MCV is sold. This is going to be an all-in with the double War Factory. Hand of Nod on the front line. That's going to be a good call. Hopefully, can produce a good number of rocket squads, because that's going to make the difference in this assault. Tibz taking his time going around. Not sure he can really afford that, because the more and more time he idles, the more and more time his opponent has to prepare for this all-in. We saw Bike Rush defend against mass infantry spam with Shredder turrets. Let's see what the transition is going to be here for Noav. Couple of rocket squads, couple of Scorpion tanks. Definitely going to be really, really good into that. However, these fast-moving attack bikes can sneak their way in if they make their way up and all the way around. Awaken finally making its way in. Doing a little bit of scouting here on top of Noav. Going to be able to see at least what he's got cooking up. Professor Cabal squad's moving their way in, focusing hopefully on that Awakened squad. Awakened squad does get targeted down. Attack bikes moving their way in the north, moving their way around. EMP hitting the Scorpion tanks. It's going to be really unfortunate. Harvester is going to get targeted, going down to half HP, going to get destroyed probably here by the attack bikes. First Harvester is down with half load of Tiberium. Scorpion tanks out on the front line are going to get a couple of really good shots off on the attack bikes as 2 or 3 of the attack bikes do go down. TibZ finding a little bit of gain. Hopefully he can keep it up. He did manage to get an economic advantage in the last round. Let's see if he can maintain that. Looks like so far Noev is a little bit of ahead. Rocket squad's moving their way in, attacking one of those attack bikes like they should. Scorpion tanks moving in to deal with the Raider buggies. Raider buggies getting the last little bit of those rocket squads out, but those rocket squads are significantly cheaper, so every trade with those rocket squads is in the rocket squad's favor. Noev having about a 700 lead on his opponent. I think he needs to produce a couple of more Harvesters. He's got plenty of defenses in form of these Scorpion tanks. No Dozer upgrade or anything like that, but I don't think he really needs it. Would be nice to see the Hand and Nod come out on the front line again. Even if you lose those rocket squads, those units still have to spend some time focusing on that. And if you can make the trades in your favor, you're going to win this, especially with your at least small economic advantage. It looks like TibZ has been able to keep up with this, producing a third Harvester, which normally you just see the 2. 4 Harvesters out here for Noev, finally beginning their harvesting run over there. Scorpion tanks moving their way into the center of the map. Not able to grab this Tiberium spike. That's probably why TibZ wanted that Tib spike so desperately, was to prepare for this all-in. Tech bikes in the north, they are going to divert a whole bunch of these forces here for Noev. Noev not sending everything, but just sending a couple of forces, getting the repair out on that unit. Scorpion tanks here in the center. TibZ trying to distract Noev, trying to keep Noev from mounting a decent defense. And I think at this point, unless you're producing a whole bunch of attack bikes, I feel like maybe you should set up on a defense. Noev leaving this area of exposed over here, gonna have a little bit of trouble dealing with these units, but at least they're only focusing on this power plant. But that is gonna be some money loss. That is gonna be at least a little bit of loss. But if he's able to get a couple of these Scorpion tanks in, they are gonna get a couple of really good shots off on these attack bikes. Scorpion tanks are not gonna follow it up because I think they made it all the way back to their base, as it looks like TibZ loses those forces for free. He cannot afford these trades, but Noev cannot afford to leave his base too far. Looks like Noev has sold his construction yard as well, so this has turned into an all-in versus an all-in, and I think it might be favoring Noev right now if he can keep up these economic advantage. One Scorpion tank getting caught out, which is going to be really important. Does look like Noev was able to grab that Tiberium spike. However, his Concave is not here as he sends his forces into the meat grinder. Right now, this is TibZ's favor. He needs to back his forces up. He just keeps sending forces forward as they get destroyed. Concave is much stronger here by TibZ. I think the tank battle is going to go in TibZ's favor. However, Focus Fire seems to be a little bit better here for Noev, as Noev does manage to make a couple of gains, but I think TibZ is in the lead. Noev just didn't have the tight formation, and this might spell his doom if he's not careful, and he doesn't have any rocket squads. He doesn't have any Hand of Nods out on the front line. TibZ is losing forces left and right. Maybe the Focus Fire is a little bit better, and it looks like Noev might actually come out on top. This could still be anyone's game. Scorpion tank getting destroyed on each side as the forces are looking quite anemic for both sides. One Scorpion tank getting close to getting destroyed. Noev taking a little bit of territory, and most importantly, the longer the game goes on, the better he's going to do because of this Tiberium spike. Noev does need to watch his formation. Another Scorpion tank did get taken down from that, repairing here for the War Factory. Not a bad idea for Noev to back his way out, regroup his forces. Attack bike still trying to find some sort of avenue, but not able to find it. There's only 2 attack bikes and a couple of Raider buggies, which means Noev can send a significantly smaller force to deal with them. Plenty of Scorpion tanks out for Noev. It looks like he's a little bit ahead of his opponent, and most importantly, he's got almost a 2K lead, which means he can afford to take these trades. He has chewed through the majority of his Tiberium, which means he's going to start long-distance harvesting here, which could be where these units come into play, but we'll get to see how that goes here in a little bit. Couple attack bikes are going to be able to chase down these units over here. If they can destroy the attack bikes, then that natural expansion will be a little bit safer, at least for their 2 attack bikes do go down on each side. Raider buggy does go down, probably soon to follow by Raider buggy. That's exactly what Noev wants to do, killing those fast-moving units, which means he will be less vulnerable in this engagement when he sends his harvesters up here to long-distance harvest. Attack bikes coming out in force here for Noav, and I think he might have this in the bag, having that 2K advantage for all this time, and it looks like he might almost be it looks like he's 8K ahead of total resources gathered, but if he continues doing what he did here last time, where he sends his units not in a great concave, not in a great formation, he will end up on his back foot. He needs to group his forces before going into Tib Z's formation. He's doing a little bit better job of that, focusing down on the garrison. A couple of attack bikes moving their way down. There's only 4 here, which means they need more than 2 volleys in order to take out one of the harvesters. One of them does get forgotten, which is unfortunate here for Noah, but it doesn't matter because he's beyond his assault over here. Attack bikes over here in the background, going for the harvesters, going for the throw as Scorpion Tank destroys Scorpion Tanks. A couple of attack bikes mixed in here over here, but he's not paid attention to these harvester. Harvester going down to half HP. Focus fire here for both players, but I think Noab has the advantage. He has the numbers, he has the economy, and he's destroying his opponent here in the background. Attack bikes do finally respond to attack bike over here in the south, which means those harvesters are going to be alive, but it doesn't matter because this is Noav's game. This is Noav's house, and Tib Z is knocked out of this match. There's no way to come back from this whatsoever. There it is. Noav doing quite well into Tib Z, making a tiebreaker into his own, winning these rush tactics into Tib Z. Tib Z doing quite well with his rush tactics, but not as well as Noav. Noav definitely coming out on top. I don't remember if that knocks Tib Z out or if this is the loser's bracket. It's been a hard time keeping track of this, but I'll have to look at the brackets later on. Match number 5, round 1, takes place on a classic. Tournament Odyssey. Starting us off on the top right-hand corner of the map, playing the pink in the Zocom. This is Svensson. His opponent for the moment in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, playing a mirror match, but switching colors to orange. This is Underworld Fox, also playing Zocom. Not only is it a mirror, but it is on a map, on a more standard map, so we're going to see more standard builds from either player. Quick item of note, Tournament Odyssey is brought to you by GDI Earth Moving Division, paving the way for peace, one shell at a time. Probably not going to see any all-ins from these guys. Neither one of them going anything real crazy. We might see an early air factory or airfield, but I don't think it's going to be much other than that. Probably going to see a bit more standard from each side. It looks like Svensson was first to grab first to move a scout in, but they did get destroyed by that watchtower. Secondary scout for Svensson making their way across the map, probably hoping to catch when that transition is happening, which will probably happen quickly after this construction yard is finished, whatever it's building. Watchtower out. Watchtower gets sold. Low power mode, or intentional powering down for the War Factory here, probably to get that refinery out here in a moment. Save a couple more resources. It looks like Svensson's a little bit ahead on the refinery front. Nothing to write home about just quite yet. He does have a small lead. Svensson has been doing quite well in the economy, but I think where he fails to keep up a little bit is in the production. 5 harvesters out for Svensson inside his field. Fox just a little bit behind, producing his last harvester right here. I'm going to give him 5, which means Svensson still has that small economic lead of about 700 per minute for at least the current moment. Natural expansion being developed upon by both of them. Foxhole already out here and ready to go, actually, for both players, which means they should be able to see it. I'm not sure if Fox can see... Fox can see that out and ready going. Yeah. So Fox did manage to get that in a good spot. Barracks out on the front line. Probably a couple of rocket squads to deal with these units here. No, actually an engineer going for the defensive tower. Maybe worry about a couple of pit bulls. Fox setting up a lot of foxholes, getting a lot of scouting off as his opponent. First refinery going down for Svensson over on his side of the map. Fox just a little bit behind. Watchtower in low power mode. No refinery. Fox does need to be careful because his opponent can capitalize on this economic advantage if he is not careful. Defensive tower being grabbed over here by Fox. That's going to give Fox a little bit of vision, and most importantly, prep him to deal with a couple of the units. They even do quite well into these Predator tanks. Looks like we got our first command post out here for Svensson. Double barracks for Fox, as well as an armory. It looks like he's going more infantry heavy. I think I actually saw a meme for this earlier where the it's Air Forces, but they decide to go. There's the upgrade right there. It looks like it's going to be Tiberium suits, as in I think the meme was like go Zocom, but mass spams all of these rifleman squads, which I think is definitely funny. It looks like that is what he's going to be going for. Secondary upgrade in the armory is cooking in the background. Gonna need a couple of these rocket squads to deal with Predator tanks Tanks, but Predator Tanks are kind of a hard time dealing with the units coming their way. Watchtower is out. Sniper team out of the front line. If it's not careful, it's going to get destroyed by this Watchtower, which I don't think he can really afford. Not sure how much the Sniper team is going to be able to help here, but maybe it's just doing a bit of scouting. APC's moving their way in. No AP ammo, and then just quite yet. Watchtowers are out here. Fox might be in a little bit of trouble, but he still has at least a small little bit of an advantage. Foxhole popping its way out. A couple of units popping their way in. Fox using these foxholes to great effect. Moving forward left and right, setting up another foxhole. Fox is here to stay, using these foxholes in an appropriate faction. APCs going down, AP ammo in the background. Tanks moving their way forward. Low power mode for the Watchtowers, which is really unfortunate for the Watchtowers as more and more units here for Fox move their way in, focusing on these depowered Watchtower. Watchtower going down to less than half HP, but they are so tanky. Fox might actually lose this engagement. It was definitely a valiant effort, but his opponent was ready for it. AP ammo having a great effect on that. Fox did have the tempo in his favor at the very least. He did sell off, it looks like, one of those barracks there in the background. He's going to have to make a better transition here because that defending force is going to start making its way into his base here in a moment if he's not careful. Svensson moving over to the first old main base over here by Fox, probably trying to go for some softer targets. He's got a lot to fight with here, and I'm not sure Fox is really prepared for this. Predator Tanks would be pretty good into this. It's going to be hard to mass produce attack bikes. Do get a Guardian Cannon out of the front line, start dealing a couple of damage, but I think this is Svensson's game to lose. A couple more Predator Tanks move their way over here, taking out a few more of these units, but Svensson's Predator Tanks do begin to focus on Foxes over here, which they should as these units move their way in further and further. Orca's getting a good strike down, only getting one of the APCs. Unfortunately, Fox is in a bit of a trouble, though. If he's not careful, he still has the Defender's Advantage. Power Plant getting taken down. Predator Tank's getting taken down. Fox is in trouble. He needs to turn things around into Svensson. Otherwise, Svensson's going to get an early, easy win on him so far. I think investing in those units early on, those man spam, didn't work out in his favor. Tanks moving their way in. Fox trying desperately to hold on to this area, producing a couple of Predator Tanks, finally getting a couple of Watchtowers out. They should have a little bit of advantage. Orca's moving their way in, getting a couple of shots off of the War Factory, but doing barely anything whatsoever. Fox did turn this assault around, but he lost a good chunk of forces for it. He did transition rather quickly into the Predator Tank, so that is going to be in his favor, but if he's not careful, he's going to lose his advantage. He needs to be fighting around that War Factory, but it looks like he's trying to press his advantage. Focus fire is quite nice. Couple of hammerheads moving their way in. Looks like they have the ceramic armor, but no AP ammo, which means they're not going to be able to do a whole bunch of damage. Fox maybe not sure what to do. A couple of grenade squads taking a couple of shots off. They do get a massive EMP over there by Fox. Fox is not playing Black Hand, but he still has the EMP in full effect. Maybe that's going to be the strategy there. More and more EMP grenade squads popping their way out, getting structure or getting unit after unit here in the EMP. Another one, really good one over here. That could be the difference over here. Watchtowers on the front line. Svensson still coming in strong. I don't think Fox has anything to follow up, and he does throw in the towel, conserving his energy for the next round. I think he lost too much unit-wise in that first assault for him to turn around, and Svensson just was going to capitalize on that and just keep the pressure, and indeed he did. Round number 2 takes place on Arabian Oasis. Over in the top left-hand corner of the map, playing the pink, sticking with Zocom, this is Svensson. His opponent for the moment in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, playing the orange, also sticking with Zocom, this is Fox. Arabian Oasis being one of these much smaller maps, really not ever really making it to this secondary natural expansion. Looks like Fox is the first to grab his EMP, Svensson not doing the same, and I think that can make quite a big difference, especially if these guys are going to go heavily into the armor production. Words are hard. Scouts for both players are out. Svensson making his way into his opponent's base, followed shortly by Fox taking identical paths. But that's only going to matter so much. I think Fox did a better job of setting up foxholes, but they only had a minor advantage. I feel like foxholes are a little weak, but that's just me as a player. I feel like they should be harder to delodge, but I guess that would end up with too many foxholes inside of your base. I wish they worked a little bit better on the fence, at least. Foxhole getting deployed over here inside of Svensson's base. Low power mode there for the War Factory, probably saving up for a refinery. There it is, refinery right on cue, which means we've got 3 harvesters out and ready to go. Fox focusing on that war factory, doing a little bit of damage, a little bit behind on the refinery, but there it is. He does have his 3rd harvester out and ready to go. 4th harvester out there for Svensson. Svensson doing a little bit better on economy once again. Seems like he's a little more practice on that. Fox maybe wanting to do a little bit more traditional strategy. I would like to see Pitbulls here. Pitbulls would be very good on this map, but maybe Fox wants to do something cheeky like he did last time and produce the man spam. MCVs making their way over to the natural expansion. Svensson just a little bit ahead, but nothing really to write home about as the scouts for Svensson's make their way into, I was about to say Tipsy's base, into Underworld Fox's base. APC's out in full effect over here. It looks like EMP Control Center has not been grabbed. We do get a barracks out here on the front line. Probably going to get a engineer here at some point, but it looks like it's going to be rocket squads inside the APCs for the current moments. Fox already producing a couple of Predator tanks, maybe expecting a bit more of an assault that's going to be good into all of these APCs, and it looks like that's going to be the appropriate transition. Construction yard sort of in an unfortunate position here, but maybe it's setting up here for the build order, or not build order, for the build area. APCs rolling their way into Fox's base. Fox not having a refinery here really for them to deal with. Predator tank is going to start taking a couple of pot shots off of the APC. APC already down to half HP. Fox definitely have the transition. Mine drop is here, but Fox does see it and does back off in time. We do get a watchtower out on the front line, but it does have to go into low power mode as the refinery pops its way out. Fox still producing a healthy number of Predator tanks. I think the transition is going to boil down to Svensson on his side of the map as far as what he's going to transition into. Command post out on the front line, or not the front line, on the old main base, which means we're going to get a couple of AP ammo that did work really well for Svensson, but will that strategy hold up? Will it maintain? And he still has yet to grab this EMP control center, which I think is going to bite him in the butt. That's got to be getting close to being used. We do get a barracks out here on the front line. Fox using this garrison structure to full effect in defensive mode. And it looks like that might be faring quite well for him. It looks like the economies are pretty tied up. Even the total gather looks like they're pretty tied up with one another. Fox doing a good job of scouting out Svensson. Svensson moving to the center of the map, grabbing a little bit of blue Tiberium. APCs moving their way in. EMP popping its way down, hitting only 2 of those APCs. Maybe a little bit of waste over here, but they did get taken down. Rocket Harvester is in a bit of a danger, but I think it has time to get out as it almost has a full load of blue Tiberium. Predator tanks trying everything they can to make their way in, but having a bit of a traffic jam, which means they're not going to make it in the way that they want. Feel like that was a bit of a waste of the EMP, but maybe he was just trying to predict where his units were. I guess getting those units off early on would be pretty good. A couple of Orcas look like are going to be the answer here. No real answer to them other than a couple of these rocket squads. Does look like the barracks does go down. We do have a zone shatterer here, which is going to do a good chunk of damage, destroying what little remains of Fox's base, or Fox's forces. Fox trying to grab a little bit of blue Tiberium, but if he's not careful, he's going to lose that Harvester. Harvester is in trouble and might be able to turn it into a bit of a trap if he's lucky, but he's got to be careful. Harvester does manage to make it out, its way out. Guardian Cannon out of the front line, but it is in low power mode. Guardian Cannon getting a little bit of repair up is going to help push out these APCs with AP ammo. Orcas making their way, taking a couple of shots off of the Predator tank. Predator tank already getting pretty low on their way over. It looks like that was the one click for it. Guardian Cannon almost going down, but just barely staying alive. Rocket Harvester here for Svensson is in a little bit of trouble here, but it did manage to grab the majority of the Tiberium. Predator tanks are mopping up these APCs. Svensson needs to have a better transition here to deal with the forces of Fox. Predator tank moving its way in, maybe trying to go for a crush. Not quite sure what it's doing, but it does manage to get a couple of these Rifleman squads. As Rifleman squads do finally go down, Predator tank does get taken down as Fox continues to move his way into Svensson's base. Svensson trying to do something sneaky over here. It looks like hitting the refinery over here in the background, and maybe sending more and more Orcas over on that side. Fox is now uncontested inside of his opponent's base as they begin to focus on these Rocket Harvester. Rocket Harvester going down to less than half HP. Predator tanks are not focusing on really anything too much. Orcas are going to take out a couple of those Predator tanks. Predator tanks really need to focus on at least some of these Rocket Harvesters. One does go down. Fox, you got to focus things up a little bit better if you're going to get these gains, but it looks like they're going to go for the refinery instead, as that Rocket Harvester just barely manages to make its way out. Reinforcements out here on the front line. Not sure if it's going to be Rifleman squads or what. Reinforcements here also for Svensson do have an armory out and ready to go, but I think Fox is here to stay as he's fully moved into the natural expansion. Refinery getting targeted down. Refinery probably going to get destroyed here in a minute if they're not careful, but Zone Shatter is going to do a good amount of damage to these units as another Rocket Harvester for Svensson does go down. Svensson is in a bit of trouble. He doesn't have an answer to Fox just quite yet. He's about to lose a refinery, and he cannot harvest his resources, and if he's not careful, he's going to lose that airfield. Airfield does go down, but a couple of Zorkas are still going to be set up there with this secondary air factory. Assault does finally go down here for Fox, but Fox got a lot of good games. He's got to be happy with that assault overall. Refinery finally getting the much-needed repairs. Looks like 2 refineries there on this natural expansion, and Svensson is still ahead in the economic front. Fox still has his EMP control center, and it's probably getting close to going. AP Watchtower out on the front line. Orcas making their way over to Fox's side of the map, having 6 of these Orcas should do a good number of damage. Focusing on, looks like one of the Zone Shatterers. Zone Shatterer does get taken down. AA Battery is here, but it doesn't matter because they got what they wanted. They got that Rocket Harvester. One Orca is destroyed for it, but trading an Orca for a Harvester is a good trade every time. EMP popping out on these Zone Shatterers as a powered-up Zone Shatterer. No, actually, it looks like that was the ability for the Zone Shatterer where it went into low power mode when it did it. It's Zone Shatterer versus Zone Shatterer as they use their ability and do get taken out left and right. Fox is still ahead of things for the moment. Svensson having a 300 per minute lead for the current moment at the very least. Rifleman squads in, Rifleman squads out. Zone Shatterer, if it's not careful, is going to get taken out here by its compatriots, by the other Zone Shatterers over here. Orcas on the left-hand side, but the Zone Raiders are here with their rockets in order to start taking out a couple of these Orcas. One more Orca may go down. It does get close. A few more Orcas moving their way in. Looks like Predator Tank probably going to die to a little bit of this auto-pathing as it does get taken down. Fox having a more aggressive AA battery here to stop these Orcas from coming in as he just slowly but surely turtles his way to his natural expansion. His opponent not doing the same. Oh, it is actually doing the same. And so far, they're in lockstep of each other. Svensson still somehow able to hold on to a little bit of a lead, but it looks like Fox has finally been able to catch up to him on the economic front and is now in the lead himself. A couple of Zone Shatterers making their way into Fox's base. A couple of scouts making their way. A couple of grenade squads making their way over here to see what they can see. Plenty of number of Zone Shatterers here for the defense. Those should fare quite well into the man spam, and I'm not sure what Fox has got on the horizon because he doesn't have a lot of forces out over here. He does lose a healthy number of forces. He does lose these man spam back and forth, but maybe they're just here for scouting. Not sure where all of those Zone Raiders went, if they got taken out. A couple of Pitbulls out here for, it looks like Svensson. Svensson might have his game to lose. As the Sonic Emitter does pop its way out, destroying 2 of those Zone Shatterers. And it looks like that's going to be the transition. Mammoth Tanks out on the horizon. That should make a big difference. Rocket Squad's here to defend it from the Orcas. Fox having something up his sleeve, going for quality over quantity. Teching up early on. No one grabbing the blue Tiberium just quite yet. Bro used Mammoth Tanks as anti-infantry. Hey, man, if it works, it works, and I can't really blame him. Sniper Team's in a good position to grab a couple of these missile squads if they're not careful, or maybe even grab these Zone Raiders. Zone Raiders getting destroyed. Good grab there by Svensson. Svensson almost twice behind his opponent if he's not careful. Harvester with full Tiberium is going to get targeted down. Do get an upgraded AA battery here to take out a healthy number of these Orcas. Looks like another Orca might go down, but it just barely manages to survive about half HP. Fox still continuing his base race, moving his Mammoth Tanks over here, controlling this sector of the map. Svensson not able to develop this over here whatsoever. Underworld Fox hitting the red on his resources, but I think he can afford that because he's about 3K ahead of his opponent. He's 3K ahead of Svensson. Svensson needs to tighten up the economy. Looks like he's doing a little bit worse in this late game. We saw that last time as well. A couple of Orcas are refilled and repaired, making their way over across the center of the map. If they're not careful, they're going to run into all these rocket squads. Indeed, they are running into a good chunk of these rocket squads and the Mammoth Tanks. Mammoth Tanks able to take out a couple more. Good EMP hitting at least half of the Orcas, and the remaining of the Orcas are going to get taken down by the Mammoth Tanks and the rocket squads. Svensson cannot afford those trades as Orcas were his only real advantage, and they got destroyed rather quickly. Third barracks probably going to go down here for Svensson. He just cannot keep a barracks there out on the front line, but at least he's going to see what's coming. But it doesn't matter if he can see what's coming if he cannot stop it. Sniper squad setting themselves up, but if they're not careful, they're going to fall to the snipers of Fox. as he sends his units out for a little bit of scouting. There's the scan looking for the sniper squad. Sniper squads are going to get taken down. Svensson losing the sniper battle, losing his power plant, still not grabbing his EMP, which I think is going to be a mistake. Mammoth tanks are going to start taking on these orcas. Orcas are going to go down left and right, but not before they destroy one of the mammoth tanks. However, it's not enough to delodge Fox from his opponent's base. Plenty of refineries out here on the front line. Man spam being spammed over here, but I think he's going to lose his infrastructure. That is Svensson, and is also going to lose a couple of his harvesters. Mammoth tank going in for the crush, getting the harvester as the harvester just doesn't know what it's doing, doesn't know where it's at, as more and more rocket harvesters make their way over here to their doom. Fox moving his MCV into Svensson's base, saying, I am here to stay. This is now my house. Get out. Rocket harvesters, for some reason, going back here for a little bit of Tiberium, but it doesn't matter as two of them go down to half HP. Missile squads are going to do quite well into the mammoth tanks. Mammoth tanks need to do something else, and rifleman squad should do well into that, but I don't think there's enough to do it. Looks like we actually get a heroic APC over here. A heroic APC. Fox's MCV, his construction yard might be in a little bit danger over on his side of the map, but it looks like so far he is here to stay. Zone Raiders walking right into a trap, dying to those AP ammo. Watchtower Sonic emitter on the front line, killing a good chunk of those rocket squads. Mammoth tank moving its way in, but it's going to have a hard time dealing with rocket squads as the MCV does get targeted here by the Zone Shatter and the APCs. Most importantly, this heroic APC. Fox sort of trickling his forces in, losing another mammoth tank. He's got to make some sort of change. I think he's trying desperately to hold on to his construction yard. Svensson catching up in economy and indeed taking the lead for it as well. Orca's taking a couple more shots off. Barracks out on the front line. That should help a little bit. Watchtowers getting deployed. They finally get a couple of AP ammo that could tip the scales. However, this construction yard is getting targeted as two of those watchtowers just line up nicely for that Zone Shatterer. That Zone Shatterer is going to have a hard time being dealt with. Looks like we did get an engineer inside of this construction yard. Fox is here to stay along with that watchtower. Sorry, that construction yard. Orcas continuing to be an advantage over here for their opponent, as well as this Zone Shatterer. No real answer yet to the Zone Shatterer. Orcas popping their way down. Construction yard already down to half HP. Svensson coming out strong with man spam. Fox not transitioning into APCs or really anything to deal with it. He does have rifleman squads. He does have AP ammo, and he does have these suits, so maybe that will make a difference. Only time will tell. He continues to move these mammoth tanks in. A couple of hammerheads out here with AP ammo and their ceramic armor, and this mammoth tank's gonna have a hard time dealing with that as it does get destroyed. Fox sending his units into the meat grinder. EMP does pop off, missing the majority of these orcas. Unfortunately, Fox not capitalizing on his EMP as another mammoth tank goes down to half HP. One orca going down. Air Force is in full effects here for Svensson. I thought this was good. I thought Fox had this one in the bag, but it looks like he was just not able to keep up his lead where he needed to. Scan there by Fox on top of the secondary natural expansion for Svensson. Nice Zocom Orca control, says Noev. Indeed, it was. Rocket harvesters for Foxes are going to get destroyed over here by this, and I think Fox is really going to have a hard time dealing with all of his Zone Shatterers, and APC is going to get targeted down. Heroic APC finally going down, finally getting destroyed, giving a couple of rank to the for those units, but Hammerhead should mop up a good chunk of these units. Looks like Mammoth tanks have gone into full AA mode. Would be nice to see an AA battery, but we're not going to see it just quite yet. Fox producing another MCV here in the background, hopefully getting something out of the front line to deal with these forces, because he is in danger, as this Mammoth tank is in danger as well, not focusing their fire on these AP ammo units. Fox popping up 2 barracks and 1 of these watchtowers with AP ammo. He could be in a little bit of an advantage if he plays his cards right, but I think this is Svensson's game to lose at this point. He's just had such great control for these orcas. These orcas just not going down, even to these upgraded AA batteries with their tungsten shells. Fox's old main base is now in danger as he throws in the towel, giving another point to Svensson. Fox needs to tighten things up if he's going to pull one off on Svensson. Svensson doing significantly better than I expected him to. I think Fox really had that in the bag, but he made too many mistakes there with that, that mid-range assault. Give us one moment as round 2 rolls right up. Underworld Fox has an uphill battle on round number 3, which takes place on Tournament LA. Over on the top side of the map, playing the orange, switching to black hand. This is Underworld Fox. His opponent for the moment, sticking with his Zocom, sticking with his pink. This is Svensson.
Svensson having excellent Orca control, like Noav pointed out, and I think that really won him the game. He was just able to whittle down those Mammoth tanks left and right, and Fox just not having a great transition, having a hard time just sort of keeping up with everything as a whole. And so far, that's put Svensson in a 2-0 lead from the previous two matches. Fox can turn things around, but it's definitely going to be uphill because he's got to win 3 games in a row because this is a best of 5. Looks like we got a small little bit of a rush with all these Confessor Cabal squads here for Fox as he makes his way across the map. Hopefully we're going to see a couple of AP towers. It does look like we're getting a watchtower out here in a minute. It looks like it's queued up and ready to go. There's the watchtower right on cue. And maybe a power plant to get a couple more watchtowers that would stop the assault for Fox. Looks like Svensson ran out of money right there, right at the end. So whatever he's building did get delayed just a little bit. Fox sending a couple more Confessor Cabal squads into this engagement. Svensson's gonna have a hard time defending against this, but he does have the body block for the power plant and the 2 watchtowers behind it, which will buy them time. However, they can make their way over here and maybe take a couple of rocket shots into these harvesters here for Svensson. Fox has not sold off his MCV, so this is not a full all-in, but it is definitely going to be a man spam rush. Fox taking his time, looking for the perfect spot to pop his way in as a watchtower pops its way out on the front line, but this one is isolated by itself. This might be a good time for Fox to focus his rockets on it if he can, but he looks like he is waiting on something, maybe waiting for greener pastures. It's hard to tell. Svensson sending a couple of scouts in on his opponent's base. Fox deciding to retreat for the current moment, maybe trying to grab blue Tiberium in the center instead, which wouldn't be the worst thing for him to do. Svensson probably setting up a foxhole inside of Fox's base here any moment. Fox sneaking his way around. Watchtowers get sold off. Rifleman squads are going to run into these Confessor Cabal squads, which they will be at a heavy disadvantage. Thank you so much for the follow. I was unable to see the name, who it was, but I really appreciate it. If you, I can see chat a lot easier if you want to say something in chat for me to give the thank you. Fox moving his way in, going for that power plant. Watchtowers are already down. They need to get the soul off. There's a low power mode, which means Fox now has the advantage going for the watchtowers. Fox might already be able to turn this around on his opponent. Watchtower down to less than half HP. Harvesters moving their way in for the crush, but they are going to get destroyed as 1 harvester goes down. 2 harvesters does get taken down. Fox in a much better form here, but that harvester is getting so many crushes. Secondary harvester going down as they begin to focus on the watchtower. Watchtower getting taken down, followed by a power plant. Power plant getting destroyed. This is definitely Fox's game to lose, as the power plant does get destroyed, replaced by another one. Watchtower popping its way out. Only 3 harvesters over here left for their opponent, but if Fox destroys this 3rd harvester, this will definitely be in his advantage. His opponent, Svensson, has lost so much in this infrastructure as the 3rd harvester gets taken down, and Svensson just cannot get Fox outside of his base, and another power plant does get targeted down. This will be the 3rd power plant going down. 2 of these watchtowers going down as well. Fox just getting gain after gain, now focusing on the construction yard. He cannot get him out of his base. Probably going to get a watchtower here in the background. Watchtower does pop its way out in the background, but the damage might already be done as construction yard gets close down to half HP. Svensson is in trouble. It's still, despite the watchtower being here, going down at quite the staggering pace. It's so close to going down. I think Fox has this in the bag. This is his game to leave. Construction yard so close to destruction. Svensson cannot afford to lose it. There's the decoy army. There's the body block by the power plant, but the units just move their way forward to continue their assault. Construction yard so close to going down. Most of the decoy army is going to get mopped up over there as they just barely might be able to destroy this construction yard. Construction yard stayed on with just barely any HP, but I think the damage is done. Svensson losing so much in that assault. While Fox has been able to build his economy in the background, Fox has a 2K lead, and he's producing a Reckoner Rush over here in the background. Not sure if he's got a Flame Tank, but moving that Reckoner Rush in and parking it in between these 2 units will spell their doom. It doesn't matter because there's actually a Flame Tank out on the front line. Probably going to go straight for that construction yard. It only needs to do so much damage. Svensson doing everything he can, but it doesn't matter as the packing up of the NCV goes out, and the MCV is finally destroyed as the Reckoner moving its way in, deploying down on the War Factory. More Flame Tanks moving their way in. Fox in top form, destroying the War Factory. War Factory going down. Fox dominating Svensson in this round. Svensson throwing in the towel, not able to keep up with Fox. Fox showing he is definitely more practiced with Black Hand than he was the Zocom. Was trying to mix it up because I think most people expect Fox to go Black Hand because he's very practiced in it, and he shows that he's very good into these rushes. Svensson is not one of those players that's easy to knock out for some of the more traditional players, some of the more like normal level players like Fox is, but Fox still able to pull one off. He still needs to win 2 more games in a row if he's going to stay in this tournament, because I believe he's already lost one, so this might be loser's bracket. Round number 4 takes place on Tiberium Rift. Over in the top left-hand corner of the map, playing the orange, sticking with his black hand, this is Underworld Fox. His opponent in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, sticking with pink, moving to Marked of Kane, this is Svensson. Svensson just needs to win 1 game on Fox. He just needs to continue his fight, continue his lead, and Fox's back is really up against the wall. He does have 1 victory. He did fare quite well in that rush, but I don't think Svensson is going to allow that to happen a second time, especially on a map like Tiberium Rift, because it's much, much harder to make your way across the map in one as large as Tiberium Rift. Tournament LA is definitely one of the smaller maps, so you can have those advantages. Blue Tiberium in the center for both of these maps, and it looks like 1 Tiberium spike per player here. No contested Tiberium spike, and the way this one varies from Tournament Rift is Tournament Rift has this rift all the way across. There's no blue Tiberium in the middle. Contested field here, green field, and then there's a contested blue field here for Tournament Rift. Svensson making his way into his opponent's base. He is going to reveal his hand, which is, of course, these Awakened squads that could make the difference there. Looks like Svensson's also producing a couple of attack bikes out and ready to go, sending his Awakened squads in as a little bit of scouting. Actually catching one of the Raider buggies here for Fox. That's going to mean these units are going to stay here just a little bit longer. Low power mode there for the Shredder turrets. Shredder turrets do finally pop their way out, and they are going to be able to mop up some of these forces here, but the real problem is going to be dealing with this bike and buggy making their way across the map. Svensson determined to pull one off on Fox and to continue on into the tournament. No rushes just quite yet. No double war factory yet for his opponent. Looks like the deployment of the construction yard, the natural expansion, does get delayed over here because Svensson is inside of Fox's base, but he does lose 1 attack bike, but he does trade with the other attack bike. More and more attack bikes making their way in. Shredder turrets out on the front line. Those should help with this engagement, but they might be enough to take out some of these harvesters, but they're not focusing fire. Svensson needs to tighten things up if he's going to turn this assault into a victory. 1 harvester does get close to going down. It is full of Tiberian. It does get destroyed. That is the gains that he's going to be looking for. As more and more attack bikes make their way in, they are going to be able to take a couple good shots off on the Scorpion tanks. Scorpion tanks are here for the defense, but Fox is already in trouble as his other harvester does get targeted and is already at half HP. There's 2 Shredder turrets, but it doesn't matter as the other one goes down. Fox is in trouble as his 3rd harvester is in danger, going down to half HP. There it is. The 3rd harvester is taken out. I'm not sure how Fox is going to be able to turn this around. He can't move to his natural expansion. He cannot produce any units. He is getting a couple of Scorpion tanks out, but that is going to be an excellent lead there by Svensson. Svensson still having a healthy number of these harvesters out and ready to go. Looks like indeed he did go for it all in. He sold his War Factory there in the background, and not his War Factory. He sold his MCV there in the background and produced a secondary War Factory. Scout moving its way in. This is definitely going to be his all-in. Not sure what he was aiming for, but it doesn't matter. A couple of shots being wasted on these Confessor Cabal squads. Confessor Cabal squads can do quite well into these attack bikes if they are allowed to. Attack bike sort of moving its way forward, taking a couple of free damage there for Fox. Fox needs to step things up. Fox needs to get a couple of harvesters out because he's not been able to harvest this entire time. He does finally get a harvester out, but and it looks like he's a little bit ahead for the current moment for resources gathered and resources per minute. But Svensson is still continuing to build up forces here in the background. He's got a couple of Scorpion tanks here, and Fox is going to have a hard time dealing with both the Scorpion tanks and all of these rocket bikes. He does have the defender's advantage from the War Factory, which means he has got the repair, and he can see these units. He's using these Confessor Cabal squads in the way he needs to. Tanks trying to regroup with these forces or just try to draw out the Scorpion tanks. Fox not taking the bait, moving his way back into his base, trying desperately to hold on to the defense. Using his Confessor Cabal squads, I think, to great effect for this scouting so we can see what's coming and win. Attack bikes making their way around, going for the harvesters. Once again, Fox cannot afford these volleys to happen. Scorpion tank does happen, but it doesn't matter because the harvester does go down to half HP, which means they can no longer harvest. Scorpion tank's moving their way forward. I think Fox is in some serious trouble here as Scorpion tank after Scorpion tank does get taken down, and Svensson tightens the noose around his throat. Another harvester getting targeted and destroyed. There it is. Fox is thrown in the towel, knocking himself, I believe, out of the Chrono Strike. At the very least, Fox stopped a full sweep on top of himself and was able to continue in that match. Words are hard. He was able to get 1 point off on that, but either way, his opponent Svensson is going to move on to the next match. Can you smell it, Commander? That is the smell of our last match for wave number 6. We are doing a quick recast on Tournament Rift. Over on the top right-hand corner of the map in the purple, rocking the steel talons, give it up for Wildcom. His opponent from the mobile in the top left-hand corner of the map in the cyan, playing GDI, give it up for Green Zero. Green Zero wanting to keep things just a little bit weird, not sticking to at least the color for his name, but sticking with cyan. I suspect he's probably going to do a bit of back and forward. Some of this may seem familiar, but my mic did die on me last time. I unfortunately have a USB mic, which means there's going to be complications with that from time to time. So hopefully everything is working correctly. Either way, both of these players duking it out has been one I've been looking forward to. Wildcom can pull off some surprising games, and Green Zero always seems to be a delight to watch. Wildcom has already set up a couple of good foxholes, it looks like, inside both Green Zero's base and over here defending this Tiberium Spike, preventing Green Zero from grabbing that. And no, yep. No, he can make it on the one on the right, unfortunately, for Wildcom. Scout's not doing too much. It looks like we've got 2 refineries, 3 harvesters, 4 Wildcom over on the left-hand side. His opponent just slapped down his last refinery, giving him 3 harvesters and 2 refineries as well. Not going to expect anything super weird out of these two, especially early on. Probably going to go with more traditional strategies. I believe I've seen Green Zero be called the GDI King. Let's see if that holds true, or if Wildcom will be able to dethrone him. Harvester out over on his side. Looks like it's just slow economic gains back and forward. It does look like one person was able to grab one of the contested Tiberium Spikes on their end, which was Green Zero. Of course, there's 1 free Tiberium Spike per person and 2 contested ones over here. Wildcom stopped this one, but was not able to stop the capture of the one on the right, which I think actually puts them at a small disadvantage. But either way, those are going to be minor gains. What's really going to matter is how they manage to get a bit of trading back and forward. Heavy harvesters look like they may already have a couple of troops inside of them. No, actually, those are MRTs out and ready to go. A couple MRTs going to go on the offensive here quickly. And actually, Green Zero's already set up over in the center of the map. He's already moved over past his natural expansion into this contested natural expansion over in the northern side. Probably a refinery out on the way. I think it's about halfway, but Wildcom is going to see that. If he's going to delodge Green Zero, it's got to be now. He's got to get in there quickly and stop that. First MRTs with rockets moving their way forward, but rocket squads here are here to defend them, which means those MRTs are going to take a good amount of damage. There is the mine drop trying to catch the harvester. There is the Guardian there on the front line to destroy the MRTs. MRTs should go down from this. Harvester is able to make it out of there. Another MRT is left, but he has a couple of rifleman squads in, which are great for dealing with those rocket squads, but not particularly great at dealing with the tanks rolling quite down Main Street. MRT having to reverse its way out. Might just barely be able to make its way out. If they can get a couple of good shots off, maybe they can kill some of these tanks, but it looks like that is not going to be the case whatsoever. Green Zero being cheeky, putting a scout down in his opponent's base, in his standard natural base. I think the key contender is definitely going to be dealing with the center section of the map. Rifleman squad getting a little bit of upgrade, killing a couple of those, but the tanks should roll in and take them out, and indeed, right on cue, there they go, and they have gone. Low power mode for the watchtower inside of Wildcom's base, which means Green Zero is going to get a little more time for his scouting. Green Zero has established over here in the middle of the map quite well. Nobody's grabbed any Tiberium just quite yet. Speaking of Tiberium, Wildcom is actually going to catch one of the harvesters there for Green Zero. Unfortunate for him, but those pitballs were able to find a tasty meal. Looks like he was going to try to send it to do a little bit of scouting, maybe get caught in an unfortunate position. Either way, it is gone and it is destroyed. Green Zero finally making his way into the northern section of Wildcom's base. Wildcom producing a couple of rocket squads that should really help with this. He does have the defenses for it. He does have a good number of Titans. Green Zero might be sending these units to their doom, and indeed that looks to be the case as tank after tank does start to fall and get destroyed. One is down. Guardian Cannon out on the front line, destroying those units rather quickly. If they're not careful, they're going to get pincered here in this, but maybe Wildcom's not paying just enough attention. He's got to turn around quickly in order to catch this. This will be a great catch for him, and if he can grab it, he can probably move in on the center, because this seems to be the majority of the armor. Looks like 2 or 3 of the tanks did fall. The other 3 did manage to make it out with a bit of a reverse move, which means they can regroup over here with the rest of the group. But those Titans marching on his front doorstep, as well as rocket squads, are going to be something to deal with for sure. A couple of rocket squads here, but nothing to deal with the rocket squads of Wildcom, but they can be quickly produced. And there it is right on cue. There's a Shatterer here to hit a good chunk of the units here for Wildcom. One tank moving its way forward, one tank moving its way into its grave, getting taken out. Rocket Squad's a little bit too close for this engagement. Every little bitty one of these units is going to make a difference. A couple of sniper squads moving their way forward. That will be a good answer to a lot of these rocket squads. First set of rocket squads do go down. Titans moving their way in. Shatterers moving their way in. All of the armor for Green Zero is beginning to push its way forward, and it looks like the rocket squads are beginning to die over here for Wildcom. Wildcom is in full retreat, backing his units up. Got a couple of Orcas here snaking their way around, maybe trying to move their way around the armor to get a couple of good shots on those harvesters. It looks like that is going to be the case. Does get a good amount of splash damage there, but it looks like they're not picking a target. One harvester does go down. 2 harvesters do get taken down as the assault begins over on the right-hand side, but Wildcom has engaged with his defenses. The 3rd harvester in the background did get taken down. It looks like 2 Orcas died for it, but is definitely a valiant defeat. Rocket squads into the tanks over here. It looks like we are going to get a transition for Mammoth Tank. Mammoth Tank's here on the defense, out and ready to go. Titan getting a little bit of unfortunate pathing, getting destroyed there on its way out. Mammoth Tank's here to absorb a healthy amount of damage while Titans deal the damage. Probably got railgun ammo on its way. Nobody's really wanting to fully commit to this assault just quite yet. It has basically been skirmishing. Green Zero is finally moving in, but I'm not sure he wants this fight. However, one Mammoth Tank is down to half HP as more begin to join their fray. One does continue to reverse move its way out, capturing the majority of these units, which means they're going to go down. Titan's getting a massive crush over here, destroying all of this armor for Green Zero. Green Zero is going to need this on the defense. However, his opponent, Wildcom, does not have much to deal with Mansam. Scouts are the only ones to make it out, and Green Zero might be in a bit of trouble. However, he can afford to trade, since he has 3 Tiberium fields, 1 up on his opponent. Orca moving its way in. Orca getting destroyed, but able to get another harvester right before it dies. That should definitely tighten up the gains over there for Green Zero and give Wildcom just a little bit more time to prep and to prepare. Blue Tiberium looks like it has been grabbed over here by Wildcom, so that's going to be a nice infusion of resources. If we look at resources, it looks like Wildcom's actually 2k up, despite being a field behind. Adaptive armor and railguns out here ready to go. Titans taking a couple of shots to the back from rocket squads and a few other things. Hammerheads moving their way in with their AP ammo. They're going to be able to help over here with this engagement, but they're going to go down just as quickly. Shatterer is going to get destroyed, and these tanks and railguns should mop up what's left of these infantry. And now coming forward is going to be the base of Green Zero. Green Zero is going to have some sort of response out and ready to go with that, because those Titans are going to be on his front doorstep here any minute. He's building a couple of more rocket squads, and those might have helped with the old units, but I don't think it's going to help once he's got these upgrades, especially because he's got a couple of Wolverines already moving their way in with their AP ammo. Harvesters are getting targeted. If they're not careful, they will get destroyed. APC going down, rocket squads going down, and probably soon to follow Green Zero's base. Green Zero does have one in the background. He was able to get half his Tiberium, so it might be worth it, but he has lost a lot of units. Adaptive armor in full effect has been activated for at least the northern sector of the units. Mammoth Tank's absolutely devastating what's left of Green Zero's base. Green Zero is probably just trying to buy a little bit of time over here, wait for this base to get destroyed so he can continue to harvest over in the southern section of the map. Well, Wildcom has to back this up with an MCV. He needs to get in here as quickly as possible and start to grab this Tiberium. Otherwise, he's going to be in quite the pinch. He was able to grab a good number of blue Tiberium, but he's at least a little bit behind on the economic front. All that infrastructure, everything there on the front lines did get destroyed, and now Wildcom can move his way in over time. Not sure where that MCV is or if it's even going to make its way over to that section. It doesn't look like it so far. However, the other side of that too is Wildcom is now uncontested in the northern section of the map. We're going to go join the fray here rather quickly, get a much needed repairs on a couple of these Mammoth Tanks. This looks like this is all Wildcom has left. Wildcom's got to be hurting on the economic front, and indeed it looks like he's up on income per minute, and he's actually tight, so he's doing significantly better than I expected, but he's lost the majority of his units and Rodcom's on his front doorstep, so he's going to move in rather quickly. Wolverines are beginning the engagement. Unfortunately, they're going to get caught and isolated and probably destroyed here if they're not careful. A couple of Wolverines over here in the background going for the refinery there for Green Zero. If they can get that kill off, that will be nice, but the rocket squads are going to move in rather quickly. Wolverines do have to retreat their way out, and Rodcom needs to take his time and build his forces up. Maybe get some repairs with that rig wherever it disappeared to, so he can begin his assault. Upgraded Titan making its way up and around. Probably kind of try to do a little bit of scouting over here for Rodcom on top of Green Zero. Green Zero has gone into full defensive mode. He's mass producing all of these cheap missile squads. And I think that might be all he can do. It looks like he may have lost his MCV. No, I take it back. It's right there. I'm staring at right in my face. A couple of workers moving their way in for a scout. Not going to hit anything real major, but they are going to reveal what is sitting there. Rig did finally get deployed, which means these mammoth tanks can finally get some much needed repairs. Some of them looking in quite the sorry shape. Tiberium has replenished over here in the center, so this is going to be pretty valuable for Wildcom. Green Zero may have grabbed the initial part of it, but I think he lost too many units, and now if he's not careful, he could lose the entire game. Still no war factory. It looks like it's just going to be the airfield, at least for the moment, and mass spam of rocket squads to deal with the Titans, but the Wolverines, I think, are going to be the real linchpin for this. He needs to get a couple more Hammerheads. He needs to get a couple more Wolverines out here to deal with all this man spam. I'm not sure if he's been able to scout out how many units are there, but he knows that Green Zero was producing them. Plenty of Harvesters moving their way in to give some much-needed resources to their opponent. Rig backing its way out before it gets any full repairs on the Mammoth. If Green Zero does lose this assault, though, he's going to be in quite some trouble. Rocket Squad should do well into Mammoth tanks, but they won't do well into all of these Wolverines, so it looks like a little bit of surprises on the horizon here for Green Zero. Green Zero moving his way in, wasting a couple of shots there on the AA battery. Harvesters do need to back their way out. However, if they absorb shots, the Wolverines should be able to mop these things up. Rig moving its way in, Mammoth tanks moving its way in, Hammerhead's moving his way in, and I think pretty soon Green Zero might be moving his way out. Rig actually going for the crush. He does get destroyed, but not before taking a couple of them with him. I haven't seen a rig used like that in quite some time. Hammerheads are all that's left, but the Mammoth tank should be able to mop them up over time. Things are looking quite grim for Green Zero. He's going to have to step it up if he's going to pull a rabbit out of his hat. Wildcom is coming swinging out of the gate and is trying to get a victory as quickly as he possibly can. That Steel Talon's just being so powerful in the regards of just being this powerful snowball. Slingshot over here to deal with a couple of the air forces of Green Zero, which is not really much left. Yeah, it looks like there's not really much left at all. Not entirely sure why he's still in this one, but maybe he thinks he can get a couple more resources going. Did he sell off his MCV for a little bit of extra cash? It looks like that may have been the case. I don't think Orcas were able to sneak their way in unless they did it in the background over there. Tiberium Strike still not grabbed. Slingshots moving their way forward in an exposed position, taking a couple more shots off on them as the Wolverines move in and start trying to mop up some of these missile squads. However, missile squads are coming out strong. No, actually, the Wolverines are going for the AA battery for some reason. Not the target I would be going for at all. Slingshot's taking a couple of shots off at the Orcas. Orca's gonna get at least one kill on that Harvester inside of Wildcom's base. Hammerhead's going to get pinched over here by Slingshots and get taken out rather handily. That's going to be extremely unfortunate for Green Zero. Green Zero moving his MCV up to the north, and it's going to get caught and destroyed. Wildcom making a lucky catch, and Green Zero in an extremely unfortunate position. He's got to be running out of resources here any moment. At least I would assume, at the very least, he just cannot get anything else going. While Wildcom has got a couple of little bit of Tiberium here and there for him grabbing. He's got still this healthy amount over here on this side. I suspect he might even move over here, forcing Green Zero to go on the offensive. Harvester moving its way forward, probably for a little bit of scout. A couple of rocket squads moving their way forward, taking out a couple of these Hammerheads. Hammerheads not even getting a single shot off and almost getting taken down entirely. Slingshots actually moving their way in for the crush. Wildcom's not above dirty tactics, moving these Slingshots in, getting multiple rockets as the rocket squads do go down and the Hammerheads mop up the remainder. Wildcom using his rig, using his Slingshots like he should. Normally you get to see Harvesters for that. Nice to see Slingshots for that. And it looks like Slingshots do a good job of getting the crush off on all of those units with how fast moving they are. I would have thought they would have had a harder time since they're hovering, but I guess it's just enough to hit them, or it's just written like that in the code either way. Green Zero is, I'm not sure he can afford to bide his time. This is really Raldcom's game to lose. Scouts moving their way in. Does look like two of the harvesters are able to grab a little set of blue Tiberium here in the center. Looks like 2 loads, maybe 2.5 loads for Green Zero. Now, there's going to be much needed resources. He needs everything he can get his hands on entirely. These missile squads I really don't think are working out for him, but maybe he's hoping to get some better numbers. Green Zero actually having another MCV over here in the south, and I think Raldcom did notice it. Raldcom going for the harvester, or going for the spike, but it doesn't matter because it was not quick enough. Watchtower did get it there. That's going to be some pretty good resources there for Green Zero to continue to hold on to. That's really his only lifeline. Raldcom did grab the Tiberium spike over here. That was originally Green Zero's on that side, so at least he's got that going for him. But if I was Raldcom, I probably would move a couple of forces over here. Barracks on the front line, producing a couple of grenade squads out and ready to go. It does look like the slingshots are going to be sent that direction while Raldcom does manage to harvest these resources over here that used to belong to Green Zero. Hammerhead's taking some free kills, killing some harvesters, which of course his opponent can't really afford. However, if they do run to the AA battery, that might be to his benefit. A couple of MRTs out and ready to go. Would be nice to see them join up with all of these mammoths to get a bit of repairing. Orca's in, Orca's back out, and now he sees that Raldcom has begun to develop that natural expansion, or his old main base, and he's going to be hurting more and more on resources. Looks like he's finally starting to dip. He's about 2K underneath Raldcom for income per minute. They're still neck and neck when it comes to resources gathered total, but there is plenty more resources on the Raldcom front as far as like resources already on the field. Rocket squad, slingshots. It looks like Green Zero did finally get a war factory out, but he's not going to have a whole bunch of money in the bank ready to go. Rocket squad's moving their way in. Does look like we have a barracks on the front line here to absorb some of the shots. Watchtower with AP ammo, and if they're not careful, they will get taken down. And those hammerheads, I think, might be a pretty good linchpin. A couple of Titans moving there over on the southern section of the map, looking for a tasty snack, which of course is going to be Green Zero's base if he's not careful. Raldcom is now outnumbered. However, there is watchtowers, and there are a good number of hammerheads out and ready to go. Those hammerheads do need to move their way forward, otherwise they're going to get destroyed rather quickly. Slingshot going down for free. Rocket squad's now focusing on the construction yard, but doing nominal damage. Grenade squad's dying to the forces for Raldcom in the southern section of the map. Hammerheads left to mop up what's remaining of the forces for Green Zero. Green Zero has quite the problem to deal with, and I think at this point, he is out of the game. I don't see any way he can make a recovery from this. It's definitely going to be uphill if he does try, and there it is. He's thrown in the towel. He's given the first point to Raldcom. Raldcom so far proving to be a tougher opponent than maybe even Green Zero expected. Let's move on to round number 2 and see how it goes. Give me one moment, Commander. Welcome to Tournament Undergrounds. Sitting over on the right-hand side of the map, sticking with his purple and sticking with his steel talons, we still have Raldcom. His opponent for the moment on the left-hand side of the map in the green, finally. Playing the GDI still. This is Green Zero. Green Zero not able to find the purchases that he wanted in the previous round. Raldcom actually starting off with a crane early on, so maybe he's going for a more economic-heavy front. Looks like Green Zero's plan is to grab this Tiberium spike as quickly as possible, which of course is a contested Tiberium spike, and it looks like he's going to grab it about the same time as he grabs the one in the north. Raldcom a little bit too late to the party, going to run into foxholes and probably a couple of things that he does not want to deal with. Numbers definitely favor Green Zero as he focus fires on the rifleman squads of Raldcom, and now they can march their way and get some free scouting off on their opponent. Crane popped its way out and is already sold, but the refinery should be out and ready to go. Hopefully will catch up on some of those games. Raldcom's only, I guess he's getting close to a K behind, but given time for that refinery, it should catch up and it should pay off in the long run. Green Zero moving his scouts in. Looks like he's not going to do anything sneaky just quite yet other than grab that Tiberium spike, which of course he did. Free infusion of 500, and now it's just making capital for him. Raldcom continuing his scouting run with his opponent doing the exact same thing. MCV moving its way for Raldcom into the northern section of the map. We don't get to see this used too often. This is a map we often see players move rather quickly onto each other, do usually see some sort of all-in or rush rather quickly. And if it does end up capturing, if anyone does end up capturing these deals, usually the game ends rather quickly. So this might be a quick one, but this seems to be more balanced than I originally expected. I thought Green Zero was the favorite to win, but Broadcom has been doing well in the tournament. He's had good games and he's had bad games. Welcome to the chat. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me know if there's any problems with audio or screen tearing. I'm still working on a couple of things. But that is a lot of emojis. MCV building its way up for both players. Looks like those natural expansions are soon to come. His opponent is out and ready to go. Green Zero might be a little bit further ahead, but I'm not sure if that's a refinery. That seemed to be building rather quickly. If it was a refinery, maybe it's something back home. And no, it's actually not. It's a command post. So if we got a command post, we might get an early airfield here for Green Zeros. MRTs making their way across the map, maybe to do a little bit of scouting. Routcom does need to up his scouting just a little bit. You can't leave a player like Green Zero alone. You need to be constantly predicting, constantly seeing what he has, and so far that seems to be Pitbulls. Pitbulls should fare quite well into the MRTs, however, it'll boil down to microing, I feel. Hammerhead's moving in for a little bit of scout, I think. Nope, they're joining the forces over here on the natural expansion. Pitbull's moving their way in, getting a couple of good free shots, and destroying one Pitbull for free. MRTs are now in danger. Routcom did not group his forces quickly in time. I don't think he expected that response time there for Green Zero. If he's not careful, he's going to lose all of these forces, which he can't afford to lose, because once these units go down, Pitbulls can just roll their way into that base. MRT's turning back around, maybe hoping to grab the attention here of the Pitbulls, and indeed they do manage to grab it. MRTs are now in danger, but Routcom's base is a bit safer. So how's it going? Have you been swimming recently? I have not. Why do I sound supped up? It might be the audio. Like I said, I was having some audio issues before, so not sure quite what that is. Heavy Harvester having to back its way out, getting destroyed, taken out there for free. That's going to be Blue Tiberium. That's not going to make it back to base. Mine drop there for Routcom. Routcom sort of tripping over himself, not doing as well as he could. He really needs to tighten up his formations. Orcas over here. It looks like that was going to be the call. One Harvester at the very least does go down, but it looks like they ran out of ammo. So possibly two Harvesters going down there in the background for Green Zero. Pitbulls moving their way into the center of the map and soon to follow Green Zero's base. Orca is getting destroyed, getting taken out for free. That's going to be a lucky grab there for Routcom. Who do you think would win? Ghost Stalker versus Cyborg Commander or Commando? I think, in my opinion, I would put it on the Commando, but I might be biased because I just like the Commandos. I think they look pretty dope. Pitbull's moving their way in and getting pincered over here by Routcom. Routcom finding a lucky catch over here. Green Zero cannot afford these losses, and this is a lot more Harvesters before we're able to see as the, not Harvesters, Pitbulls. Pitbulls do get taken down. Looks like that's the majority of the Pitbulls. Routcom may have been making some mistakes early on, but he made up for it with that, and he was doing pretty well with grabbing those Orcas. APC getting taken down. Routcom moving into his opponent's base, going for the Harvesters. Harvesters are in danger. There's a couple of responses here and there, but I'm not sure it's not going to matter as the Harvesters do get taken down. Catching these Pitbulls might make up for it, but the reverse move has been called, and Routcom's able to make it out with the lion's share of his units. Foxhole going to get spotted. Foxhole going to get taken down rather quickly. Green Zero finally going back on the offensive, trying to get his tempo back, trying to get his pacing back, and continue the pressure here on Routcom. Routcom losing a couple of Pitbulls over here to poor microing, unfortunately. Green Zero putting the tempo back in his favor, moving his forces over here where his opponent clearly can see. No, actually, he's going to turn around, go for one of the Harvesters, but it looks like it's going to turn into a little bit of a trap as he loses most of his Pitbulls here in the south. He can't afford this before the engagement has truly begun, especially because Defender's Advantage is going to be full in effect for Routcom. Routcom continuing his campaign. It looks like we did finish AP ammo there in the background, which means APCs are going to be a bit more of a threat to the Pitbulls. Titan moving its way in. That's not where it needs to be. It might be able to get at least one crush, maybe a couple more if the APCs allow it, but they are, of course, not going to. It looks like there's a couple of rocket squads probably inside of them. At the very least, the Pitbulls did plenty of damage. Losing those Titans early on is definitely going to suck. It would have been significantly better here for the defense because now this is almost completely defensive. There's a couple of Pitbulls here, but I think it really does favor Green Zero. Green Zero moving his way in. A couple of Orcas moving his way in. Routcom is in danger, but no, here comes the Mammoth right on cue. Mammoth needed to move just a little bit forward, but the Mine Drop did save the APCs just barely as the Mammoth tank does go down. Orca's moving in, get a couple more shots off. Routcom might be able to turn this around if he's careful, but the Micro is much stronger on Green Zero's side. Green Zero's not letting up. He's going full send on this main base. He needs to destroy every single piece of this equipment that he absolutely can as MRT after MRT does get taken down. A couple of rocket squads joining the fray, but it's too little, too late. Green Zero going for the soft target, going for that upgraded power plant. One APC already just doing so much damage to a good chunk of these rocket squads. Speaking of, it looks like we're getting mass rocket squad spam inside of Green Zero's base, accompanied by a couple of Shatterers and a couple other things. Green Zero might are actually moving. Yeah, we're actually going to see this map move on to the secondary natural expansion, at least for Green Zero. Routcom is moving his way up there, but I'm a little bit worried because it looks like he's moving it by himself. I don't think you can really afford that with a player like Green Zero. And of course, right on cue, here comes the Orcas. Hopefully, they're just able to miss this MCV because that would be a juicy target for them to grab. If Green Zero's paying attention, he just missed his meal ticket. Slingshot moving its way in, but there's too many Orcas here. Orcas turning her back around. Now they can take a couple more pot shots off on the MCV. MCV goes down to half HP. Routcom might lose it, and there it is. It is gone. It is destroyed. They went back for their snack. MCV getting taken out for Wildcom could spell his doom. It's definitely going to be a nail in his coffin and going to make this game even more uphill for him. Green Zero seems to be determined to not make the same mistakes he did in the last round. But you can't count Wildcom out just quite yet. I think there is a pretty big difference, though, here in an economy because Green Zero was able to grab this natural expansion rather quickly. And it looks like he was able to turn the economic advantages for Wildcom against him. Routcom doing that crane opener did give him some temporary gains, but he lost too much in the skirmishing phase, I feel. And now Green Zero has a healthy number of units over here and was able to grab the Tiberium in both the north and the south. The spikes, that is. Titans moving their way maybe over into Green Zero's base. Not sure if Green Zero sees this coming or not. A couple of rifleman squads doing a little bit of scouting out. Green Zero moving his way down. Hopefully soon to run into a couple of his units. It does look like Routcom does sense something and backs his way out. Mammoth Tank getting exposed to these Orcas. It can do almost absolutely nothing. One does move in and destroys the old main base here for Green Zero, but I think that's going to be a little bit of a paltry victory. Hammerhead going down, not Hammerhead, a Mammoth Tank going down to half HP. Routcom needs to group up his forces. He's had such a hard time of getting a tight formation, and he's lost so many units there. That railgun ammo is going to make a big difference, but not if these units get picked off one at a time. Well, I'm not sure why the Wolverines are not moving their way forward. Maybe they weren't ready in time. Either way, that did cost the life of a Mammoth, and now they're going to walk their way directly into the Shatterer. Shatterer should do a fantastic job of destroying them. A couple of them do get destroyed by the Mammoth Tanks over here. I think this still favors Green Zero, but it can still go either way. Defender's advantage is pretty strong to overcome as Rifleman Squad after Rifleman Squad go down. Titans moving their way in for the crush, trying to maybe go for the Shatterer. Shatterers turn around just in time, taking them down before the crush happens, and actually the majority of the forces for Routcom are getting taken out here, are getting destroyed. These Shatterers are just too powerful, and Routcom throws in the towel, giving a point to Green Zero. Green Zero coming back strong in round number 2. Give me a moment as we switch to number 3, and I try to hydrate. Round number 3 takes place on Badland Hills. Routcom sticking with his purple, standing over here on the right-hand side of the map, playing with his steel talons. His opponent not sticking to a color, wanting to make things a little bit difficult on me and on the viewers. This is Green Zero in the blue, still playing GDI. Both players being quite stubborn, choosing to stick with the factions they've been going with, and to be fair, they each have a point each. So if they can keep that up and they can do a little bit better further going on, then it really just boils down to, I think, who boils it, who micros it a little bit better. And I think if Routcom had tightened up his formations and maybe had scouted just a little bit more, he would have been a lot better. He provided so many opportunities for Green Zero to just take bites out of his armor, take bites out of his formation. And with Steel Talons, I feel like their biggest strength is just giving time to build up that armor, giving time to build up that slow-moving mechanical snowball. And losing that early on, I think, is where they get weak. And Green Zero did a good job using his Orcas and sort of some of his fast-moving units to continue to pinch his opponent. And it looks like Green Zero has really favored all of these rocket squads and rocket squads for Shatterers. So it's counter for counter. So rocket squads for the Titans and the Mammoth tanks, and Shatterers to deal with the Wolverines. And that did work quite well, because despite Steel Talons, despite Railcom having all of those Wolverines, he was able to take them out rather quickly, especially with that stacking damage. I don't think the formation could have been... I think the formation probably could have been a little bit better, but I think the shots were also good on Green Zero's side. For those of you who don't know, it looks like there is 3 Tiberium spikes per player on each side. Everybody has grabbed their respective spikes, and it looks like Railcom's already set up an annoying scout in this garrison, which should give him a decent amount of scouting range. Yeah, it goes almost all the way into here. I'm not sure if he's going to see the MCV moving, but he probably suspects it's on its way. Green Zero is going to be the first to move into his natural expansion, followed by Railcom. It looks like Railcom having 5 Harvesters. We should have 5 Harvesters over here for Green Zero, and that is indeed going to be the case. It looks like everybody's going for an economic start. Still nothing really sneaky. We don't have any Nod. We don't have any Skrin. We don't have any Fast Legs or anything like that. And we're not seeing any flying MRTs over here for Steel Talons. Railcom seems to be a more traditional, a more measured player. I don't see him play too many rush tactics whatsoever. I'm sure he can, but it looks like he is most comfortable in the skin of Steel Talons. MRTs are out with a couple of units in them, probably already. I'm guessing going to be a couple of rocket squads. Yeah, that does appear the case. Probably looks like he's been going for 3 rocket squads and 1 rifleman. MRTs moving their way in. Looks like scouts did catch what's over here, which is a couple of exposed harvesters. Green Zero right on the queue, moving a Pitbull in for the defense. Things still starting out slow, but it looks like Green Zero is starting to pick things up. Should see some good engagements here any moment, I would suspect. MRTs don't want this fight just quite yet. If Green Zero is paying attention to his units and is microing appropriately, he should be able to wreck those MRTs. And it looks like Railcom, since that's going to back his way out, maybe try to buy himself some time to get some blue Tiberium. That blue Tiberium would definitely help him out here. I think whoever controls the center of the map is definitely going to be the MVP for this, but it could still go one way or another. 3 mine drops out there for the defense, and it looks like Harvester having to back its way out. Nope, Railcom regaining his confidence, moving that Harvester back in over there. Pitbull's taking out the garrison squad that was sitting there and being pesky scouts there for Railcom, which means Railcom's going to lose that vision here any moment. Railcom tempting his opponent, getting a couple of free shots off on the Titan spike, maybe trying to force tempo. Maybe he can catch a couple of units here for Green Zero. Green Zero actually make a little bit of a mistake as these units move their way in, and they run right over the mines, get destroyed, but they're probably just there for a little bit of scouting. Looks like we might get an assault in earnest. There's plenty of Pitbulls here. One did go down for free. Railcom keeping things significantly tighter than he was before, and that could make a big difference. Maybe because of the map kind of forces him to. Badland Hills is one of those areas where there's plenty of choke points, and you're kind of forced to group your units. He might be sending one of his units into its doom. Definitely not paying attention to his Harvester, but I think those Pitbulls are making their way over into the northern section of Railcom's base. Titan forward, and Titan getting taken down. Pitbulls are going to get a free kill there. That's going to be a good find. Would have been nice to get the Harvester, but killing a Titan's not a bad consolation prize, and a second one is even better. No real response over here. Pitbulls still continue to constantly move their way in, destroying Titan after Titan. This is a pretty good trade, in my opinion, and most importantly, they're forcing the Harvesters out. Another Titan does get destroyed. These small number of Pitbulls were able to destroy, it looks like 4, maybe 5 Titans. MRTs moving their way into the center of the map, but they probably need to be over here. Titan does move its way forward, getting a couple of good crushes out, but I think the damage is already done. Losing 4 Titans is a costly mistake to those Pitbulls. Pitbulls were just able to get too much focus fire early on, and now they're probably going to go for the Titan spikes there for their opponent. MRTs forward. If they're not careful, they will get taken down. Pitbull's forward as well. Pitbull getting targeted down is going to get destroyed, ranking up one of those rocket squads. That should help. Mine drops are going to pop their way out. It looks like Green Zero's not paying attention as a couple do get run directly into it. This should favor the MRTs because they can continue this slow-moving retreat and continue to get kills after kills while they are repairing. APC's moving their way into the northern spot. Looks like Green Zero found a softer target there, and he wants to continue to hammer on that particular weak spot of Green Zero's base. Pipple's getting a couple of free shots off on the Hammerheads. Hammerhead's going to get destroyed, and if a couple of these Titans aren't careful, they could get taken out as well, but it looks like the numbers have dwindled quite significantly for the Pipples. Titans moving their way forward. They need to be backed up. They need to move into the War Factory. He cannot afford to keep losing units like this, and indeed, another one does get taken down. Hammerhead's over here in the background. Green Zero sitting pretty inside of Railcom's base. This base is all but useless. It's turned into pure defense as another Harvester moves its way further to the north. It does get a bit of a reverse move. Couple of Titans finally joining the fray. One Titan moving its way forward. Maybe trying to go for the crush. Actually trying to maybe just barely missing one of them. Unfortunately, no crush there for the Titan, but his compatriots might be able to get a couple here and there. Plenty of mine drops, but this should favor the Titans. It looks like they are out in force, and they do have the numbers, but if they continue to walk into those minefields like that, all of those gains will be lost rather quickly. APC's reverse moving their way into the center of the map. Green Zero going in full force, moving his MCV in as well. It looks like he's a little bit behind on Railcom. Railcom's already set up, and we do have a couple of behemoths. Those behemoths can make a big difference in this fight. Harvester once again moving its way to its auto-harvesting doom, and it does get taken out there really quickly. Green Zero moving on that northern section. He wants to continue to hammer that spot. He wants to find a weak spot, and indeed he's going to do so. No real answer here to the Hammerheads inside of Green Zero's base. He's having to back those Titans out in order to stop them from getting taken out. No AA batteries, look like low power mode. Things are not looking great for Railcom, but Green Zero still has the opportunity to make a mistake here. Body block there for the silo to give them a little bit more time. Behemoths here should help a whole bunch, along with a couple of these AP ammo. Hammerheads should be able to move their way in. Hopefully Hammerheads will be able to get the Zone Troopers. Zone Troopers moving their, might get destroyed. No, it looks like they're going to do absolutely nothing to the Behemoths, which means the Behemoths are going to absolutely wreck all of these APCs. They're just sitting ducks for the Behemoths to get destroyed. They may not be dead yet, but they may as well have. Somehow, it looks like the power plant was able to survive that engagement. Green Zero's going to need to do some sort of a better transition here. Looks like Green Zero's out and ready to go with the commando, so hopefully we're going to see some sneaky tactics there from a minute. I'll try to keep an eye on that unit. A couple of scouts over there for Railcom moving its way to the northern section of the map, seeing what he can see. These Behemoths are going to be the thing to deal with, and if that commando has something to say about it, it might be able to get it off. Mammoth tank here for the bait. Behemoths are making quite the even trade, destroying APC after APC. It does look like we did finally get the Titan with a little bit of ammo, but Railcom sends it into its doom once again. Behemoths having to back their way out. Got to keep an eye out for that commando. Commando moving its way forward. It sees its target. It's jumping forward. It's going to go for those Behemoths. It's going to destroy one Behemoth. Two Behemoths go down before the commando can get destroyed. That's going to be a costly mistake as the Sonic Emitter pops its way down on the front line, and Titans do die. Green Zero absolutely on top of it. Sell off of the Sonic Emitter as it goes into low power modes. AA battery on the front line, going to be able to wreck a couple of these Hammerheads. Hammerheads just sort of sitting there taking it like a champ. Going to get destroyed rather quickly, just sort of left to their own devices, and are going to die rather handily. Behemoth getting re-grabbed over here, probably by a second one here in a minute as well. It's going to be Behemoth versus these Juggernauts. Orca's doing a couple of bombing runs there, destroying at least one of the husks for the Behemoths, and the last one's going to get destroyed by these three Juggernauts. Juggernauts continuing their assault. So far, no real answer just quite yet from Railcom. Railcom did manage to grab that Titan for a second time, but it's going to go down just as quickly. Another Behemoth here over on the front line. Couple of Orchestra actually getting a good shot off on the Juggernaut. Still on the three Juggernauts here for their moments. Husk getting destroyed. Harvesters moving their way in. Both players are fully committed to this assault. Couple of MRTs for Railcom over in the southern section of the map, destroying the infrastructure of his opponent. There's the scout there. There's the scan for the Juggernauts. It's going to turn into a pure artillery battle. Sonic Emitter on the front line. Two Juggernauts going down. One popping out of the factory but it's not over. It sounds like we're getting a little bit of one click over here to destroy maybe some of the corpses for Juggernauts. 2 Juggernauts did pop their way up because a couple engineers popped their way inside of them. Mammoth Tank moving its way forward, getting a couple of free shots off, and it looks like Green Zero is getting a little bit sloppy here. He can't afford to keep taking these losses. He's going to have quite the problem on his hand if he does. Wildcom forgetting about his MRTs over in the south. Probably needs to continue that assault, but it's going to be difficult because he's focusing all his attention over here in the front, and he's got plenty of behemoths. They seem to be working well, so why not? Green Zero might lose this engagement entirely. He's got next to no forces left. I don't see a way he can turn this around. Sonic Conveyor on the front line, that could do a good amount of damage, but I think it's got to get 2 shots on the behemoths, but it's not going to happen. There's too much firepower. There's too much focus fire, and Wildcom is at the very least paying attention. MRT's moving their way into Green Zero's base over here, and he might not know it, but I think he is already dead. Hammerhead's moving their way in, getting a couple of good shots off on that, but of course the MRT is going to go down, or the MCV is going to go down, as well as the last little bit of Air Force here for Green Zero. Wildcom really giving Green Zero a run for his money, and if Green Zero's not careful, he might be able to take the whole thing. Wildcom did manage to steal another point off of Green Zero, which means Wildcom has 2, and his opponent, Green Zero, has the 1 for the moment. Welcome to round number 4, Commander. Over in the top right-hand corner of the map, sticking with his color and sticking with his faction, we, of course, have Wildcom. His opponent's still over in the bottom left-hand corner. At least he's sticking with a color. He's gone with blue and also sticking with his GDI. Looks like the primary linchpin for the last round was entirely based off of those behemoths, and they really did a number on Green Zero, and Green Zero just wasn't able to adapt in time for it. His Juggernauts were no match for the behemoths, especially in the numbers that they had. He put up a valiant defense, but I think Wildcom had a significantly tighter game that time. I think Wildcom kind of falls apart on these bigger maps. So if we pay attention, we'll see if so far that's the case. Because I think so far every time he's lost, it's been on these bigger maps. And a map like Badland Hills, the previous one, has so many very specific chokeholds that it kind of forced him to have decent formations and not lose a little bit of units here and there from Green Zero. Should be moving into the scouting phase here in a moment, and then into the skirmishing phase afterwards. Green Zero are getting a couple of scouts out over here on Wildcom. Really nothing to write home about because Steel Talons isn't going to really do anything sneaky unless it's maybe Master Leaf. MCVs for both factions are moving north and moving south for their respective players. Green Zero already moved a couple of scouts in on his opponent. Wildcom doing the exact same, giving himself a little bit of vision. Not a bad idea here. I think where this game, this particular map, I should say, I think where this particular map really changes pace is once you get those scouting units out, once you get those fast-moving units, your Pipples, your MRTs, your APCs, I think in that phase can really spell the entire tempo for the game. People can turn it around, but I feel like it's a little bit harder there because those fast-moving units are going to be so powerful, especially if you're kind of a lumbering behemoth like Steel Talons typically tends to be, and have some of the slower armor. Granted, nobody's playing Nod, so the units won't be as fast, but Pipples are still plenty fast. Speaking of, we got a couple over here for Wildcom making their way into the center of the map, probably looking for something to snack on here in a minute. Pipples for Green Zero definitely going to be the answer, but Wildcom's going to see that those are there and ready to go because of his scout. Power plant already going down to half HP. Uncontested Pipples now in Green Zero's front doorstep going for his harvesters, and there should be enough of them to do a good amount of damage. There is the Watchtower out on the front line, out and ready to go. It looks like he had that barreled and ready to go, but it did not have power. We do finally get a little bit of power over there, and it looks like neither one of these Pipples are really choosing what to focus on. They keep changing targets from the Pipples to the Harvester to a bunch of other things, and I think that this engagement should go in Green Zero's favor. His microing is much tighter. However, more and more reinforcements begin to join the fray as Wildcom actually irks out a little bit of an advantage here in the skirmishing phase. Green Zero losing a Pitbull there for free. These little bitty skirmishes are going to make a big difference in this early game. Pitbull's still not able to find really the target they want. Green Zero being a little bit better on defense. He is losing the skirmish, but at the very least, he's keeping his harvesters alive. One Pitbull did get taken down. It looks like he just keeps sending these onesies and twosies in to get destroyed, to get killed over here by Wildcom, which was what Wildcom was doing previously. Roundcom definitely seems to have woken up in this match a little bit better. He is significantly tighter in his formations. He's significantly tighter with his units. Looks like it's double War Factory. That was how he was able to get out so many of those units, and I'm not sure if Green Zero followed suit. Green Zero does indeed have a double War Factory, but I think it's producing Harvesters over there. We look at the economy. Looks like Green Zero's about a K ahead. If Roundcom's not careful, Green Zero might be going for a more economic build to try to outpace him in the late game. Power plant going down for free. No repair for it whatsoever. As that Rifleman squad gets a little bit of a promotion there in the background. Got to see Pitbull versus Pitbulls as they begin their engagement in earnest. Mirroring has begun, and the assault has begun as Pitbull do go down. So far, just one was lost to that. Not quite a carnage, but at the very least, a skirmishing. Green Zero trying everything he can to sneak his way into his opponent's base, and it looks like Roundcom might actually be letting him. Roundcom needs to do this fight. He needs to continue this engagement, but I think he's a little bit outnumbered in the Pitbull front. Green Zero losing a couple of units there to pathing, and because he's not as formed up as he could be, that could spell his doom in this minor engagement. I feel like Green Zero did have the advantage here, but he did not want to commit to an assault. He did not want to lose all of his Pitbulls this early in the game. A couple of APCs out. Not sure what the plan is for those, unless it's to house a couple of rocket squads. Maybe that is going to be the case. A couple of scouts for Green Zero moving their way across Roundcom's base. Getting a little bit of eyes. Do have two airfields over here for Green Zero, so it looks like he's going to favor those airfields as much as he can. Another skirmish has begun. A couple more Pitbulls did die on both sides, but I think Green Zero is pumping the rest of his resources into these airfields. Orca scouts moving their way forward, going for a bombing run. Titan in the north. Roundcom seems to favor using these Titans sometimes as scouts. I feel like that's a pretty expensive scout to use from time to time. Staggering number of Pitbulls. It looks like Roundcom is quite healthy in the Pitbull front, but I think it's going to boil down to his transition into his opponent. It looks like he's also got an airfield as well, with a couple of Orcas maybe hoping to get a couple of pot shots off, get a couple of free kills. APCs with their AP ammo finally complete. Sitting pretty in the northern sector of Green Zero's base. Pitbull's taking a couple of free targets from that garrison. Titans moving their way in the center of the map. I suspect Green Zero might actually be positioning, might be posturing to move his way in there as well. Not sure where his MCV went just quite yet. Surely he didn't sell it off, did he? Or did he get taken out? Am I blind? No, there it is. Okay, it looks like he moved to this natural expansion instead of taking over the center of the map. I guess that's going to be the safer of the plays, and he probably wants to play a bit safe into his opponent. Looks like we've already got a couple of T3 out and ready to go, and a Marv soon to follow. Plenty of armor here for Green Zero. Titans moving their way in. 4 Titans are not going to be enough. Once again, they might be sending them directly to their doom. They did not form up beforehand whatsoever, with 2, maybe 3 of them going down almost for free. Is definitely going to be the case. Roundcom can't really afford those losses this far away from his base. He's already crossed the threshold. He's already crossed the divide. Marv did pop its way out. Green Zero's probably got a couple engineers out and ready to go. Yep, 2 are ready to go, as well as a couple of zone troopers. 2 zone troopers, a couple of squads. Roundcom's still sending his units in at onesies and twosies to just get picked off and destroyed. I'm not sure what his strategy is for this. He's not trying to bait his opponent. It looks like he's just sort of sending them to die. Maybe he was trying to divert some of the forces. The Pitbulls do take out a War Factory over here in the south. But Green Zero only taking minor losses. 1 Pitbull should go down here in the fray, but they're going to regroup here rather quickly. Second one actually goes down for free. Titan sitting pretty in the center of the map, ready to go. Firehawks finding something else to snack on. I think those are the Firehawks there for Green Zero. Pitbulls moving their way in, probably overstaying their welcome. One of them getting really close to getting taken out and is indeed going to get destroyed. Couple of Erics here on the front line, and that might be Roundcom's advantage. Titans moving their way in, getting a free snack. This is exactly what they want to do. However, that Marv is stealing the resources in the center, destroying what little gains his opponent was able to get by harvesting those resources. More and more Titans join the fray. Firehawks make their way across the map, looking for more soft targets to grab. A couple of reinforcements here for Green Zero, about to be on the front line, I suspect. Indeed, they are here to support the Marv. Green Zero looking for another hole in his opponent's defense and is going to find a line of infantry there. Marv moving its way to the southern section. Hopefully a couple of behemoths here on the front line out and ready to go, but looks like we don't have a war factory. We just purely have what was barracks. Broadcom is ahead on the economic front, but if he's not careful, he's going to run into some problems. Harvesters moving their way forward. Marv turning around, trying to get a couple of good shots off on them, and one should get taken down, and indeed it does. Not really sure what Railcom's plan is here. He's got a healthy number of forces, and he sold off most of his stuff in his old main base or lost it. Granted, there's not much Tiberium left there in general, so maybe he didn't care that much. He's going to be forced into a corner, though, if he doesn't make some sort of action. He can't figure out where he wants to put his forces. His formations keep going back and forward, almost mirroring the Marv. Marv getting a couple of reinforcements, APCs, as well as zone troopers here, and they're going to move their way into the center of the map. However, it doesn't look like Green Zero has moved his way into the center of the map, and Railcom seems to be getting a bit of an economic lead here, which means he can afford these trades. Harvester getting destroyed for free. Marvin moving its way forward. If it does get destroyed, I think that will be a lifeline gone there for Green Zero. And if Green Zero is not careful, he can be knocked out of this rather soon. Pipple's moving their way in, getting a little bit of scouting off, I think. Maybe going for the Firehawks. One Firehawk going down, two Firehawks getting taken down. That's a good find, and it looks like they're staying ahead of these formations. I say that right as a couple of units. Oh no, the Sonic Emitter does destroy the lion's share of the Pitbulls. Pitbulls going down in that sector. Railcom moving his way forward, trying to go for the Marv. Did get a pretty good one click over there, buying him some much needed time, but it looks like the railgun ammo finished just in time, I think. No, that is not railgun ammo. Not sure why a couple of those have a couple of railgun shots. Marv should get taken down here, as indeed it does. I'm not sure how his opponent's going to be able to deal with the loss of that Marv. That's going to be a good amount of money. He is set up in the northern expansion finally, so that should give him another lifeline, but that Marv is going to be an expensive mistake since he lost it. Upgraded Titan pretty close to heroic, but probably going to get destroyed by the Zone Troopers. Zone Troopers moving their way forward. Titan trying to get a crush, but it doesn't matter because the firepower is here for the Zone Troopers. Zone Troopers going to kill Titan after Titan. Railcom is finally in danger. Looks like the majority of the forces were wiped out so maybe that Marv truly was worth it as Green Zero begins to build his economy in the background because it doesn't matter because his opponent has thrown in the towel. Railcom has given it up, making our score tied up once again. Green Zero taking another point there, which means match number 5 is going to make match points. Whoever wins the next round will continue on in the tournaments. Give me one moment as we boot it up. You knew you were going to see it in the map. This is Tournament Odyssey. Over in the top right-hand corner of the map, sticking with his purple, but making his first change to black hands, we have Railcom. His opponent in the south, not sticking with the color, but maintaining his faction, a GDI, of course. This is Green Zero, now in the yellow. Scouts for Green Zero are already out, poking and prodding. Running into these Confessor Cabal squads will spell their doom. I think 2 Rifleman squads can win it, but I think it might just depend on who is already established, who is already holding position and can get a couple of shots off. It does look like Railcom does want this fight. And it looks like 2 is enough to confront those Confessor Cabal squads. As it looks like Green Zero actually wins both skirmishing. Both sets of skirmishing. However, Railcom is still going to be able to move in his opponent's base, but he's going to have to deal with these pesky Rifleman squads. Confessor Cabal squad going to catch a couple of those units, killing at least some of the scouts of his opponent. 1 Rifleman squad left in this squad. Poor guy's doing his best, but it looks like he's going to be able to complete his mission as he moves his way into Railcom's base, getting a pretty decent scout off. Probably a little bit too early for everybody to develop their natural expansion. I say that, and then Green Zero moves right on cue. It looks like he's already got 3 harvesters, with a 4th one baking in the oven, probably soon to follow by his opponent. Looks like 3 harvesters with a 4th one there, right there on cue. Both construction yards have moved their way forward, and I've already started constructing something. Looks like Green Zero had something to finish up back here, maybe a power plant, not sure what he was wrapping up. That is indeed what Railcom, though, built, was a power plant for himself. I think he needs to subvert these expectations. I think he needs to get a couple of fast-moving units, maybe get an all-in over here on green 0. Harvester's developing nicely. Natural expansion, probably soon to have a refinery here for green 0. Double war factory for his opponent. Probably going to see a mass production of bike and buggy here quickly. Scouts getting a couple of really good eyes over there on green 0, establishing that, setting it up. But green 0 is going to see the war factory on the front line and is going to have time to build his way up. A couple of rocket squads would go a long way to slowing that assault down, but it looks like he's going to go for pit bulls instead. So far, he's been really consistent. 4 bikes out, 4 bikes making their way across the map, looking for something to snack on, making their way south, looking for a kill. Watchtower there on the front line in a pretty good spot. Going to catch at least one of the bikes and take it down to half HP. There's plenty of bikes here. Looks like Railcom's going full send on this. Couple of Pitbulls do get targeted. One just has barely little HP left as it does get taken down, but a couple of bikes do go down for it because of the Watchtower. Green 0 always ready with those Watchtowers as quickly as he can possibly prepare them. He's always got like one saved up in the background for these assaults, and it really does pay off, except when he goes in low power mode like that. One gets sold off in the background in order to continue this assault. Does look like the Raider Buggy is going to be the primary target, but that means the Harvester is going to go down. Harvester did get taken down. However, Green 0 has time to turn this around. If he's able to get most of these bikes, those will recoup his losses just a little bit. But not if he loses these Pitbulls. And indeed, they do get taken down. Green 0 still sitting pretty inside of his opponent's base, getting some free scouting off. Pitbulls seem to be serving Green 0 quite well as he moves into the center of the map for the first time, maybe trying to turn the tables on his opponent. Not getting it all in, but still have that double war factory. And it looks like Green 0 finally got his second war factory out over there on the front line. Foxhole finally going down just as the Pitbulls move their way in, getting a free shot off on the bike and destroying it. They can't afford those losses. Raider Buggy going to get destroyed as well. Railcom needs to tighten it up because this is match point. He's going to be in danger if he's not careful. Railcom doing everything he can to thin these numbers to keep these units from getting any real gains, but he's having a hard time holding on to his units. He just keeps losing bike and buggy. He just keeps losing unit after unit. Looks like the call is going to be a couple of Scorpion tanks that should help a little bit better into the Pitbulls if they can catch them. Laser turret out on the front line there for the defense, which means Green 0 cannot find that soft underbelly that he wants. Couple of reinforcements joining the fray, trying maybe to pinch off a couple of these units. They will do quite well into the Scorpion tanks if they're able to pincer them, but Railcom sensing something's going to back his way out and regroup a couple of his forces, hopefully get a good lineup here to deal with these Pitbulls. Green 0 not wanting that assault. He has finished most of his Tiberium here in his old main base and is moving everything over to his second and maybe to his third expansions that are. Does look like a little bit of decoy army there to absorb some of these shots, but I'm not sure that Green 0 is going to take that engagement. Good number of the decoys did go down, but Railcom is still in this fight. Pitbull's finding a couple of rocket squads, which of course they do not want. Railcom grabbing the defensive tower there for his opponent, which will be great into these Pitbulls. Pitbull's about to run into this danger, and indeed, first one does go down with just the first couple of shots. Green 0 knows it's on the map and needs to be careful with dealing those, but he's doing 2 assaults, one over here in the south and one over here in the north. Railcom's Harvester's gonna get targeted over here. If he's not careful, he can lose this, but Green 0 has an opportunity, or has the chance of turning around on him. Green 0 sitting pretty with those units over there, not moving into his natural expansion just quite yet because Railcom is there. Railcom having to back his way out, maybe trying to catch these Pitbulls. These Pitbulls would be a great catch if he's able to catch up with them. Plenty of Scorpion tanks here for it. A couple are going to go down for free. Green 0 is trying to get as many gains as he possibly can out of these units and is still managing to skirt around his opponent and might actually be able to go for a Harvester here. Green 0 finding great purchase in these units. Getting so close to destroying one of those Harvesters, but it doesn't matter as the next group does move their way in. Pitbulls are going to get a couple of really good shots off as a hammer, as one does go down, as the Scorpion tank does go down, and Green 0 looking in top form over here. Railcom just not able to keep up with the fast-moving units of these Pitbulls. Pitbull's somehow managing to make it through Green Zero's secondary, or Roundcom's secondary natural expansion, moving into his old main. Roundcom being a bit cheeky. He's got a flame tank out and ready to go. Looks like he's going to go for the free kill, go for the destruction of that Tiberium spike. Does look like most of the Pitbulls did finally get caught over here by the Scorpions, but we've got a couple of Hammerheads here on the front line with AP ammo, and that is definitely going to be the watch, or the words are hard. The answer to all of that man spam. And of course, Scorpion tanks can't look up, and Roundcom's going to lose all of his forces right here, although his opponent did get really close to losing this construction yard. Hammerheads continuing their assault, just absolutely mopping up these units. Mantises finally moving their way in, getting a bit of splash damage, but I think it's too little too late because there's plenty of Hammerheads to deal with them. Mass man spam is going to be the name of the game for Black Cannon. Why not? They're cheap, and it's their specialty. Green Zero's in a good spot, but he's got to be really careful. He's lost so many of these Hammerheads to Mantises and a couple of other things, while Roundcom in the background has been sitting pretty with that flame tank. Green Zero's main base is not defended, and if he's not careful, he's going to get knocked out of this tournament. Losing all this infrastructure is going to be extremely costly. Hammerhead's going in for repair. Roundcom absolutely undefended inside of his natural expansion, selling off of the refinery, and the Pitbull's going to get another kill for free. Green Zero might still have time to turn this around, but he is going to lose his secondary natural expansion here rather quickly. Last Harvester did get taken down there, and they are poking a couple more shots on that as the Hammerhead, War Factory goes down there. This might turn into a base race here at the end. Still no real answer over here to these Pitbulls. There's a couple of Confessor Cabal squads with their upgrades, but they're going to have a hard time keeping up with those Pitbulls. The Pitbulls just continue their assault. The Rocket Squad should make a big difference here, but Roundcom needs to back up his Harvesters. Pitbulls moving their way in, and if not careful, they might move their way into their grave, and indeed, there they go. Pitbull after Pitbull going down on that side. Flame Tank finally making its way across the map, going for the Harvesters of its opponent. Not the best target for them. Black Hand Squad's getting caught by these watchtowers, but I think they have plenty of forces there to continue that engagement. Flame Tank absolutely missing its opportunity, stopping firing and going to get destroyed by those APCs. It looks like these units did finally get mopped up, but it doesn't matter because the Hammerheads move their way in. Sam turret out of the front line should be enough to push its way out. Harvester going to get targeted. Harvester might just barely manage to make it out. Green Zero thinks about going for the return, but doesn't make it. And unfortunately for him, Mantis is moving there in the background. Neither player can really afford these losses. Things are getting expensive. As Flame Tanks move their way in, destroying the War Factory, going for the infrastructure of their opponent. They need to focus fire. They need to go for something significant. They're going for Harvesters, which is not what they need to do. They need to go for these refineries instead. One refinery does go down. Roundcom finally begins to focus, but I think it's too little too late. One refinery is all that remains inside this section of the base. There's an MCV, which means it can repair it, but that's going to be an expensive mistake. However, Roundcom could have done that fight way, way better. He could have tightened it up a couple more things. Green Zero continuing his assault on his opponent's natural expansion, and it's quite more effective than his assault. Roundcom just having nothing here to defend that whatsoever, and has been refusing to move these rocket squads forward for an assault, despite him, I think, having the advantage. Roundcom having to sell another refinery inside the secondary natural expansion, just not able to catch a break, not able to harvest any resources, and he's probably going to start tanking on the economic front, and indeed he is. He's lost about 2k. T3 over here in the background with a laser fence. I'm not sure if the APCs have noticed it just quite yet. Scouts moving their way in, and the deals are going to get their crush. T3 now in danger. I think this might be the death of Roundcom. Obelisk of Light should make a difference there, but that is a pretty costly defense. It did get a couple of those APCs out on their way out. Green Zero grabbing the defensive tower on his side, and why wouldn't he? It would boost his defense just a little bit. Refinery getting sold off, another one getting replaced, which means there's another Harvester there for Green Zero, and the economy for Roundcom just continues to tank. He just can't farm any of this. He's got nothing on the horizon. He's finally moving his MCV over, but I think at this point it might be too little too late. Old main base getting targeted down, but it's a small consolation prize for losing your natural expansion. APC is just sitting pretty here, waiting for anything to move their way in, and it looks like the only thing Wildcom has left in the tank is a Hand of Nod with a couple of infantry squads. Infantry squads making their way into the APCs and into their own meat grinder if they're not careful. Old main base for Wildcom, or for Green Zero, is going to get taken out there by the Black Hand squads. Green Zero going for some slow revenge over on his side of the map. Low power mode there for Green Zero, which means these watchtowers are going to be absolutely useless in the defense. APCs beginning their assault in earnest, being finally pushed out over here by the forces of Wildcom. Wildcom needs desperately to sneak his way in there. He needs to get these resources out and going because it looks like Green Zero's got almost a double his economy. Tiberian Spike going down there for Wildcom. He can't really afford those losses. Mantis tank here on the front line looking for those AA, and it does look like Wildcom was finally able to make it over here and is building a refinery there in the background. He's still got to be hurting on resources, that is for sure. But at least he's got some defenses finally. Mantis tank getting a crush on a couple of the rifleman squads, looking for a little bit of scout over here, hopefully trying to make its way in, but APC should destroy it rather quickly, and indeed it does. Wildcom finally able to get a refinery, and his defense is a little bit tighter than it was before, but he might leave it exposed again. Although he does have forces over here in the south, which means Green Zero would have to go through them or go heavily around them in order to do anything like that. Low power mode for all of the watchtowers. Looks like it's going to be 2 air factories mass producing hammerheads for Green Zero. Green Zero using what's remaining of his APCs to destroy little bits of infrastructure for his opponent to capitalize on his economic gain. He may not know that he's ahead of his opponent, but he still has pretty close to twice his opponent's economy. Harvester moving in probably for a scout to see what's sitting on his front doorstep and going to run into those units if it's not careful. Might be on auto-harvesting. Maybe I'm anticipating too much. Either way, it's going to go down one way or another. Hammerheads in the north going to go for the power plants of their opponent. Wildcom really can't afford to lose too much. Operations Center getting spotted. No real response here. No mammoth tanks just quite yet. Laser Fence is going to buy it some time. And it looks like Wildcom is preparing for an assault, but I'm not sure if he has the forces at this point to do it. There's the decoy army, which means they're going to get a little bit of scouting off there on the APCs and see what they're up against and see that they are definitely outnumbered. APC's moving their way forward. There should be plenty of hammer to mop up these units unless some sort of trap gets sprung. Wildcom doing absolutely nothing with his units in the south as his units in the north do get picked off left and right before really anything can happen. Sam Turret's taking a couple of good shots off on the hammerheads. Hammerheads are in danger, however. Losing most of these units is still going to sting one way or another. Harvester going down once again for Green Zero. Hammerheads somehow managing to make it out, but the APC's probably helping with their damage on top of the Sam Turrets. There it is, Firehawk's out, Firehawk's ready to go and going for the refinery, but just not quite able to take it out. That is going to cost him even more resources that he does not have. However, he's catching up, and he is finally beginning to harvest this. He has an opportunity to turn it back, especially because his opponent's going to have a hard time harvesting resources in general. Hammerheads moving their way forward, mopping up this poultry force, and they should go down rather quickly. Harvester's here to help for the crush, and most importantly, to get a much-needed infusion of resources. APC's continuing their assault into Wildcom's base. Particle charge beams doing their work, doing their job. Green Zero probably wants to go for a couple of more easy victories, go for power plants, small things like that. Every single unit's going to be so precious. And it looks like Green Zero's even moving into his old first natural expansion. APC still going for those soft and easy targets, and why not? May as well get what small gains you can, and putting your opponent in low power mode can make a big difference. 2 war factories out on the front line. Wildcom finally having some money to spend, and his opponent having the opposite effect. Bike and Buggy moving their way into this natural expansion, this old natural expansion, and now this construction yard is completely exposed. There's a watchtower on the front line with AP ammo. They're going to switch their way around as Green Zero desperately tries to move a couple of forces here for the defense, and Wildcom's actually going to back his way out. He's going to give up on this engagement. Plenty of watchtowers, though. He's going to take plenty of losses on his way way out as APCs continue their assault in the north. Roundcom sells off the majority of everything that's over here. Looks like this is what they want to deal with. They want to deal with these APCs that are absolutely wrecking this line over here. They can catch them if he uses his bike and buggy, but he needs to get them in there rather quickly. He's still trying to build up a couple more numbers. APC and a couple of rocket squads going to walk their way into their doom if they are not careful. Looks like I've got another bot in the chat. Fantastic. Not a big fan of that. Attack bikes and raider buggies moving their way over into the center, but not wanting to commit really to any assault. Despite Wildcom having a bit of advantage, there's a scan there to see what isn't sitting inside of Wildcom's base. It's going to force Wildcom to turn around, although if he's not careful, he's going to lose a bunch of units over here to poor pathing. Only time will tell. A couple of attack bikes going down for free, just sort of running their way into all of these units, which is going to be really unfortunate to them because they're soft and their armor is made out of tissue paper. That's 3 or 4 bikes going down for free because the raider buggies did not move ahead of them. One Firehawk going to get targeted there by the bikes, so at the very least they did find some purchasing, but they're taking so many losses on their way to regroup with one another. Black Hand Squad's finally making their way over to the northern section, but the Hammerheads are out here and ready to go, and it looks like the Bike and Buggy are not ready to go, which means those Black Hand Squads are going to go down before really anything can happen. Roundcom snaking around entirely, trying to go for the refineries, try to go for the harvesters of his opponent. First volley is out, should be plenty, but that'll be extremely unfortunate there for Green Zero. Green Zero is in trouble. He's got to turn this around quickly as the secondary harvester goes down. It might even be worth it going for that third one, but it looks like he's going to go for some softer targets. He's going to go for the old infrastructure of his opponent, maybe looking for that airfield, maybe to square up that advantage. There's a sell off at least one unit over there as they go for more and more harvesters. Another harvester does get targeted. Another harvester does go down. These attack bikes are still so far uncontested. Even another harvester going down. It looks like that's 4, maybe 5 harvesters so far. Marv building on the front line. That could help, but there's not a crazy amount of resources left to Marv. Another harvester going down. That's 5 harvesters to these sets of units. Firehawks getting a couple of really good bombing runs off. Probably destroying... Nope, the MCV is further back here. So just some of the infrastructure. Maybe one of the war factories and definitely one of the refineries for sure. Firehawks making their return home to base. Attack bikes still looking for something to snack on, or at the very least to try and regroup. Roundcom has been forced to move back into his old natural expansion to get some much needed resources. This is truly going neck and neck. Laser fence there for the refineries. Not want to take any risk. He knows those Firehawks are on the front line, selling off of the war factory inside his old main base. Marv out on the front line as well, hopefully followed by an engineer or maybe a couple of zone raiders. Grenade squad, maybe? Maybe that's for the EMPs? No, they don't have the EMP grenade either. So I'm curious what the plan is for those grenade squads. I guess it could go inside the Marv. We're going to at least one engineer out and ready to go. Firehawks getting a couple more good shots off. It looks like destroying 2 Hand of Nods and I think a power plant that was there in the southern section of his base, of Roundcom's base. Hitting our first real lull for this battle. Attack bikes making their way, looking for something else to snack on, hopefully grabbing a harvester, maybe seeing that his opponent has grabbed this Tiberium spike and capitalize on that. Rifleman squads are going to run into them, and rocket squads are going to miss absolutely. I couldn't hit a broadside of the barn sometime. Tiberium Spike is going to get targeted down, which Green Zero doesn't want to see. He's going to move his Hammerheads over on the right-hand side. Plenty of decent defenses over here for that natural expansion. Roundcom finally learning his lessons, tightening up his fences. APCs moving their way in. APC should do quite well. However, the focus fire is pretty strong here for the attack bikes. Attack bikes are now on the run, and looks like they might just be able to skate their way out. They have a bit more movement than their opponent, and they're going to find exactly what they want, which is these Hammerheads. Hammerheads absolutely exposed. Green Zero can't really afford to take these losses right here. But plenty of attack bikes did die for it. Sam Turret not able to really get any shots off. APC's really out in force here for Green Zero into the center of the map. Gonna be great into all of this man spam, and Roundcom needs to figure out how he wants to engage that. 2 more Firehawks gonna get taken down, but not before they take down. I'm not sure if that was a hand or not, or what that was there in the background. It might even been an operations center. MCV moving its way across over to the old main base. I've never seen Tournament Odyssey last this long. I'm not even sure how long we're in this game, but this has got to be like a 20, almost a 30-minute game for this last one, and I don't blame them since this is match points. Neither player wants to lose, and they've both been playing well. It's just been a couple of sloppy mistakes here and there that have made the difference. Small little mistakes for these higher level players really will have a big impact over the course of the game, especially this one's turning out to be a really long one. Green Zero cutting his opponent off, moving his MCV off in this natural expansion, and already slapping down a refinery. APC's moving their way in. Particle charge beams out of the front line. Nobody's really set up for a decent concave. Hammerhead's going to get targeted. A couple of them might go down. At least one will get taken down. APC's going down. It looks like there's not enough APCs here for the numbers. Hammerhead's moving their way forward, unfortunately, which means they're going to get destroyed. They're going to walk also into the watchtowers. This assault, I think, will make or break the game. Green Zero moving a couple of scouts there in to see what is around as the last Hammerhead does get taken down. Mantis tank over here to absorb a healthy amount of those shots. Watchtower going down. Body block there for the power plant. APCs moving their way forward. This could still go either way, and it'll be hard for either player to recover from this assault. Attack bikes moving their way in, getting a couple of shots there, but also going to get destroyed as well. But it doesn't matter because the focus is better on Roudcom's end as Roudcom continues his assault, taking out Watchtower, taking out power plants, moving his way in on Green Zero. Green Zero might be in trouble. He needs to do something to turn this around, but I'm not sure if he has the resources or production, and it looks like that is not going to be the case as the final watchtower does fall. Probably with the hopes of Green Zero. Roudcom might be able to force a victory. We do have a hand and nod there on the front line. Plenty of watchtowers here for the defense, but the resources for Green Zero are starting to dwindle as he hits zero in the bank. Construction yard gonna go down just as quickly, which means this lifeline for Green Zero is gonna take it down just as quickly. 4 more watchtowers onto the front line. Green Zero trying everything he can to stay on top of this, but he just doesn't quite have it. Marv did make its way and wipe out this base over here, and is probably going to do the same thing to Roudcom, and Roudcom might actually be in a bit of trouble. He needs to get this refinery. He had no defenses left over here. He did win this engagement, but Green Zero's not making this easy on him whatsoever. Harvester there sort of left to its own devices. Is Green Zero really going to be able to turn this around? He does have a Marv, which means that's free resources for him. He's about a K up on Roudcom. Both bases looking extremely anemic, especially on the Roudcom front. Roudcom needs to get a refinery out as quickly as possible. And if you look at it, it looks like his refinery is just barely almost complete. He may have run out of resources entirely. Yeah, his economy has stopped entirely, and he cannot afford the refinery. This is over for him. He can't do anything here as he makes one final charge with the Harvester, but the Marv does not care as it just manages to get splash damage after splash damage. A couple of Zone Troopers doing pretty good there. Rocket Squad's making a good accounting for them, but this is their last hurrah because there's no tank, or there's no gas left in the tank whatsoever. Marv just has to back its way out. This is Green Zero's fight to lose. And there it is. He's thrown in the towel. Green Zero taking match points on Roudcom. Roudcom putting up a good fight, but Green Zero was able to sneak that Marv in there in the background, getting a good amount of damage dealt to him. This was a quick late night stream for everybody, so I'm going to end it here. Like I said, this was entirely because my mic cut out. I think it was like during Wave 6. I haven't pushed Wave 6 out on YouTube just quite yet because I hadn't finished this. So after this one's done, I'm going to chop this up and attach it to that, and then I should be able to release it sometime tomorrow. Either way, thank you for joining me. I have been your host, Korek. Transmission out.